Raku lived what appeared to be a normal high school life until he was forced into a fake romantic relationship with Chitoge in order to prevent a serious conflict between their families. While pretending to be in love, Raku became trapped in a complicated romantic situation as several girls connected to a forgotten childhood promise began to appear in his life, each of them holding a key tied to his past. Pulled between obligation, slowly growing feelings, and a promise he could barely remember, Raku struggled to discover who truly held the key to his heart. 10 years earlier, Raku had made a promise with a childhood friend. Before they were separated, they each wore a pendant. Raku kept a pendant shaped like a keyhole, while his childhood friend carried the key. The locket was meant to be opened only when they met again, and the key would reveal what had been locked inside. They had promised to marry in the future. 10 years passed, and Raku grew into an ordinary teenager. On that day, Raku began his morning routine by preparing breakfast. He started by sautéing spices for the meat, cooking pasta, and finishing the dish carefully. Once the food was ready and tasted good, Raku called over the people he casually referred to as troublemakers to eat together. The men, who had intimidating appearances, immediately turned toward him and addressed him respectfully as the young master. They all ate together, genuinely enjoying the meal Raku had prepared. They praised him as a worthy heir. Raku stated that he had no interest in becoming the successor to a Yakuza organization. He explained that he wanted to attend a top university, become a civil servant, and live an honest and upright life while moving forward with purpose. The group reacted enthusiastically. Raku's father, Issei, soon arrived, and the Yakuza members immediately showed respect to him as their boss. Issei mentioned that he would discuss something important with Raku in the near future. Every day, Raku was escorted to school by his father's subordinates. Other students felt uneasy when they passed by the Yakuza members. As Raku walked toward his school, one of the subordinates warned him that an unfamiliar gang had been causing trouble in their territory and advised him to be careful. Raku could not understand why his world was always surrounded by conflict. He even thought about leaving his family behind and living a peaceful life elsewhere. Raku studied diligently so that he could be accepted into a prestigious university, which was why he never had a girlfriend. The only time he had been close to a girl was during his childhood. He often looked at the keyhole pendant as a reminder of that promise. Despite the many challenges he faced in life, that day marked a turning point in Raku's fate. A girl was running toward the school in a hurry. She attempted to climb over the fence and jump down, but unexpectedly landed directly on top of Raku. The impact caused Raku's pendant to be thrown aside. The girl apologized and quickly left the scene. Raku was left confused by what had just happened. Raku then entered his classroom, where Shu and Onodera were surprised to see him. Onodera noticed that Raku's nose was bleeding and showed concern, but Raku reassured her that he was fine. He explained that a girl had accidentally landed on him earlier. Shu was confused, wondering what kind of person would climb a fence and cause such an incident. Raku asked Shu to believe him. Onodera gently handed Raku a bandage to stop the bleeding. Raku was surprised by how close he felt to Onodera at that moment. He even felt that enduring the mishap was worth it just to be near her. Raku felt relieved and happy that he could talk with Onodera, even though he had expected the day to continue going badly. That morning, their homeroom teacher, Hyoko, informed the class that they would be welcoming a transfer student. She then introduced the new student. The transfer student turned out to be the same girl who had collided with Raku earlier that morning. She introduced herself as Chitoge, a transfer student from America with Japanese and American heritage. She spoke Japanese fluently and quickly captured the attention of the class with her bright personality. Her appearance and confidence impressed many of the students, and the classroom atmosphere became lively. Hyoko instructed Chitoge to take a seat in the back row. When Chitoge and Raku locked eyes, both of them were visibly surprised. Raku internally labeled Chitoge as a fierce and troublesome girl, while Chitoge appeared equally displeased. Raku still felt unsettled by the earlier incident, while Chitoge believed she had already apologized sufficiently. The students were shocked by the obvious tension between them. Chitoge was confused as to why Raku continued to dwell on the incident, while Raku felt that the situation had been more serious than she realized. Chitoge grew irritated and viewed Raku as overly sensitive, while Raku responded with equal frustration. Their exchange escalated into visible hostility, startling the surrounding students. Although Raku and Chitoge were seated next to each other, it was clear that the two did not get along at all. Raku was confused because it was his first time ever meeting a girl as annoying as Chitoge. Her personality was completely different from Onodera's and also very different from his childhood friend from long ago. Up to that point, Raku still had not reunited with his childhood friend, and deep down he wished that Onodera could have been his first love. Raku then realized that his keyhole pendant was no longer with him. He remembered that the pendant most likely fell earlier that morning when Chitoge accidentally landed on him. During the school break, Raku asked Chitoge to help look for the missing pendant. Chitoge was puzzled about why she had to help him search for it. Raku explained that the pendant was probably lost when Chitoge accidentally kicked his face earlier. Onodera approached Raku and asked what was going on. Raku told her that he was just trying to find something very important to him. Onodera offered to help, but Raku said that since the pendant was lost because of Chitoge, then Chitoge should be the one helping him look for it. Chitoge reluctantly agreed and asked what kind of pendant she was supposed to find. Raku explained that it was his pendant with a keyhole. Upon hearing that, Onodera looked surprised, as if she recognized the object. Chitoge agreed to search for the pendant on one condition. As a trade-off, Raku was not allowed to talk to her at school ever again, because she disliked boys who complained too much about trivial matters. Suddenly, a teacher showed up and asked Raku to help introduce Chitoge to the school environment. The teacher also assigned them the task of taking care of the school's pet. Raku did not understand why all of this kept happening to him. Chitoge reminded him not to talk to her, but Raku thought it would be difficult to complete their task without communicating, especially since they were not even inside the school grounds at that moment. That day, they ended up spending all their time taking care of the school pet, leaving them with no opportunity to search for the pendant. The next day, during class, Chitoge struggled to keep up with the lesson. Noticing this, Raku gave her his Japanese language notes during the school break because he knew she probably did not have enough time to finish copying everything. Chitoge once again reminded him not to talk to her at school and not to interfere in her business. Raku grew increasingly irritated by Chitoge's attitude. The following day, Raku's class had a physical education lesson, and the students were doing warm-up stretches. At that time, Shu asked since when Raku had become close to Chitoge, because Raku was often seen together with her after school. Raku denied being close to her. Shu commented that Chitoge was very beautiful, and that many boys were curious about her. Raku completely disagreed with the idea of Chitoge being considered beautiful. During the class, Chitoge managed to perform an impressive move on the bar, and her classmates cheered and praised her. In Raku's mind, her beauty felt exaggerated and awkward. Chitoge noticed his reaction and responded by acting recklessly, causing a small commotion that the teachers quickly put under control. When Raku arrived home, he still could not believe Chitoge's wild behavior and wondered what kind of environment she had grown up in. Suddenly, one of the Yakuza members mentioned that there was trouble involving a rival group in Alley 3, and they rushed out to deal with the situation. It could be said that Raku lived in a rather rough neighborhood. The next day after school, Onodera gave Raku some bandages to treat his injuries. Raku mentioned that Chitoge was a very intense and intimidating girl. Even so, Onodera thought that Raku was still being kind to Chitoge, since she had seen him lending his notes to her. Raku felt genuinely happy hearing that. Onodera then asked where Raku had bought the missing pendant. Raku explained that the pendant was a gift from someone 10 years ago. Onodera was shocked to hear that. Raku admitted that he had made a promise, which was why he had to keep the pendant with him at all times. Over the next few days, Raku and Chitoge continued searching for the pendant every time they walked home from school. Chitoge complained because despite searching for several days, they had made no progress at all. Raku then asked why Chitoge had suddenly transferred to the school. Chitoge explained that the move was related to her parents' work, but she refused to go into detail when Raku tried to ask more. She clearly did not want to talk about her personal life with him. As Chitoge walked past Raku, he caught her scent, which strangely made him feel as though he had smelled it somewhere before. After growing tired from searching, Raku went to the riverbank and thought about where he might have encountered that familiar scent in the past. Suddenly, he noticed a disturbance caused by a mafia group nearby. He could not believe that the situation around that area seemed to be getting more and more chaotic. The next day, Chitoge arrived late to help Raku search for his missing locket. She admitted that she was irritated because her friends had been spreading rumors that she was dating Raku. In reality, Chitoge did not feel close to him at all, and every day after school, she still chose to help him look for the locket because she believed it was the right thing to do as a decent person. At the same time, Onodera was walking toward Raku because she wanted to help with the search as well. However, she ended up overhearing a heated argument between Raku and Chitoge. The two of them were caught in a tense exchange, blaming each other for the situation. Chitoge could not understand why Raku was panicking so much over a lost locket. In her view, Raku was the type of guy who overreacted to small things, almost like someone who could not sleep without a childhood comfort item. Chitoge acknowledged that it made sense if the locket had been given to Raku by a girl he cared about, but she still could not understand why he kept clinging to such a childish memory from the past. She believed that the girl who gave him the locket had probably already forgotten about it. Chitoge continued to speak harshly, which eventually made Raku lose his temper. He told her to leave if she truly did not want to help anymore. Heavy rain began to fall, and Chitoge immediately walked away after Raku raised his voice at her. Raku never expected that he would end up seriously scolding a girl, and the realization left him shaken. The following day, Raku continued searching for the missing locket on his own. From a distance, Chitoge quietly watched him. At that moment, Raku recalled Chitoge's words about how his childhood friend might have already forgotten him. Those words frustrated him deeply. Suddenly, Onodera approached and informed him that Chitoge had been looking for him. Raku waited, confused about why Chitoge wanted to meet him. Not long after, Chitoge threw the locket toward him. Raku was stunned that she had managed to find it. Onodera later explained that even after their argument, Chitoge had continued searching for the locket in secret. Chitoge did not want Raku to know that she had been doing so all along. Chitoge had also slipped a short note inside the locket, stating that her task was finished and that Raku should no longer speak to her while they were at school. Raku realized that although Chitoge was often irritating, she also had a genuinely kind side. He also understood that some of the things she had said to him were not entirely wrong. It truly might have been time for him to let go of his childhood promise. Suddenly, Onodera expressed that she did not agree with Raku's decision to forget the promise. She believed that if the other person still remembered making that promise, then that person would surely feel hurt if Raku abandoned it. Even if it was a promise made by two children, the fact that it existed meant that the person who made it cared deeply about him. Onodera apologized for saying something that might have sounded strange, but Raku did not mind at all. Instead, he felt grateful because her words helped him feel better. Onodera's face turned red as she looked at Raku. Raku realized that whether or not he would ever meet that person again, he should never forget the promise and must continue to keep it close to his heart. He thanked Onodera and then left. Onodera remained standing there, her face still flushed as she watched him walk away. She felt nervous, and once again, she could not bring herself to say what she truly felt. In truth, Onodera was the girl who had made that promise with Raku in the past. She felt foolish for being unable to confess the truth to him. That evening, Raku returned home, where Issei was already waiting to speak with him, just as he had mentioned before. Issei explained that a long-standing conflict between powerful groups was about to reach a critical point. Raku was shocked and wondered whether it was really acceptable for the situation to continue escalating. Issei then revealed that the leader of the opposing group was actually an old friend of his, and that the man had a daughter around Raku's age. Because of this, Issei planned to pair Raku with that daughter. Raku was stunned by the idea, but it turned out to be a strategic arrangement. If the heirs of both families appeared to be a couple, their followers would hesitate to take drastic action. Raku insisted that he did not want to be involved in such an arrangement. Issei asked whether Raku already had a girlfriend, but regardless of the answer, Issei made it clear that lives were at stake and that his decision would not change. Raku could not refuse his father, especially since the relationship would only be an act and would likely last just a few days. Suddenly, Raku heard a familiar voice. Issei then asked the girl who would be Raku's partner to come forward. To Raku's complete surprise, the girl was Chitoge. In that moment, everything finally made sense to him. Why Chitoge had suddenly transferred schools, why she avoided talking about her family, and why the scent around her had always felt familiar. It was the same sharp scent he associated with gunpowder. Issei declared that starting the next day, Raku and Chitoge would be in a relationship for 3 years. The days filled with constant arguments between them were about to turn into a period of living out a carefully constructed false love. Raku was forced by his father to date the daughter of a mafia boss. He never expected that the girl in question would be Chitoge. Only then did he find out that Chitoge was the daughter of a mafia leader, and at the same time, Chitoge also never imagined that Raku was the heir of a Yakuza family. Chitoge's father, named Adult, was the boss of the Beehive Mafia gang. Issei was the one who introduced Adult and Chitoge to Raku. Adult mentioned that Issei had talked a lot about Raku before this meeting. Both Chitoge and Raku strongly objected to the idea of dating each other, but Issei explained that they really had no other option. Neither side wanted to allow a conflict between groups to break out. Suddenly, a group of people led by Claude rushed into Raku's residence, searching for their young lady. Claude was a high-ranking member of the Beehive Mafia and was assigned to protect Chitoge, so he came to bring her back. Not long after that, more members arrived and prepared themselves, creating a very tense situation with the opposing group. Issei realized that the Beehive members seemed to misunderstand the situation. Issei and Adult then explained together that Raku and Chitoge were a couple who were deeply in love. Everyone present was shocked and clearly found it hard to believe. Claude even looked to his boss for confirmation. Adelt admitted that both he and Issei had already given their blessing to the relationship. The Yakuza members were deeply moved, because they had been worried for a long time that Raku still did not have a girlfriend at his age. Some of them even started thinking about celebrating the news. Claude was also emotional, as he suddenly realized that Chitoge had grown up. He never imagined that the young lady he had protected since childhood would one day become a mature and independent young woman. Knowing this made him genuinely happy. The Yakuza members agreed to maintain peace for Raku's sake, and the Beehive Mafia members were also willing to support Chitoge so she could date without trouble. Raku and Chitoge both tried to deny their relationship. Raku teased Chitoge with a nickname that compared her strength to a gorilla, while Chitoge teased Raku by comparing him to a bean sprout. The tense atmosphere quickly escalated when both sides reacted strongly to the teasing, and the situation almost turned dangerous. Issei and Adelt immediately stepped in and made it clear that any harm toward either Raku or Chitoge would not be tolerated. The subordinates then asked again whether Raku and Chitoge were truly dating. Seeing no other way out, both of them felt pressured and had no choice but to go along with the story. Raku explained that he and Chitoge were indeed in love. He clarified that the nickname he gave her was meant as a compliment, because she was as strong and dependable as a gorilla. He also emphasized that his feelings for her were not ordinary. Chitoge responded in the same way, explaining that she called him a bean sprout because of his very pale skin. They even started calling each other affectionate names. The faces of the subordinates turned red with embarrassment, and they became convinced that Raku and Chitoge were truly in love. That night, Raku and Chitoge sat together while looking up at the sky. They felt unable to complain about the situation, since they had no real choice other than to go along with it. Chitoge admitted that she did not even know what people were supposed to do while dating. Raku also confessed that he had no idea because he had never dated anyone before. Chitoge then admitted that she also had no dating experience, since she was not very good at romantic things. Raku thanked Chitoge for finding his locket. Chitoge explained that she felt bad hearing Raku constantly worrying about it. She became curious about why the locket was so precious to him and wondered if it was connected to someone important from his past. Raku then shared that the locket had been given to him by someone 10 years earlier. When his father once took him on a trip, he became close to a girl he met there. Before they parted ways, the girl gave him the locket as a symbol of their promise to meet again someday. Raku could no longer remember her name or face, but he still remembered the promise itself. He assumed that Chitoge might dislike something like that, because it involved holding on to the past. Chitoge explained that what she truly disliked were men who remained stuck in past mistakes and never tried to change themselves. As for a romantic promise like that, she actually found it sweet. Raku started thinking about ways to handle the situation, since dating Chitoge would definitely be exhausting for him. Chitoge, on the other hand, was also reluctant to date Raku. In the end, the two of them continued to tease each other, even though neither of them was happy about being in this relationship. The next morning, when Raku woke up from his sleep, one of his father's subordinates informed him that a guest had come to see him. Raku immediately went to meet the visitor and was surprised to find Chitoge there with her father. With a teasing grin on her face, Chitoge invited Raku to go on a date that very day. Hearing this, Raku was taken aback. He wondered why he had to go on a date with Chitoge. It turned out that because they were considered to be a couple, they were expected to do activities that couples normally do, such as going on dates together. Raku and Chitoge walked around the downtown area together. Unbeknownst to them, members of the Beehive Mafia and the Yakuza were watching them from a distance. Chitoge did not understand why she had to be put in a situation like this. According to Raku, there was no other choice but to go along with it, and he asked what they should do next. Chitoge admitted that she did not know either, because in her opinion, it was usually the man who was supposed to take the lead. Raku had never dated anyone before, but he had often imagined his ideal date with Onodera. In his imagination, they would chat together at a cafe, watch a movie, eat a meal together, and take a relaxing walk through a beautiful park. Raku suggested that they visit a cafe, but to his surprise, Chitoge kept criticizing the drinks and food that were served. After that, they went to a movie theater. Chitoge chose an action-packed movie, while Raku preferred an emotional film that was currently very popular. In the end, they decided on a romantic movie, since that was the kind of film people usually watched on dates. However, Chitoge ended up falling asleep before the movie was over. Raku never expected that a girl like Chitoge would look much cuter while sleeping than when she was being loud and restless. After the movie ended, Chitoge asked Raku to buy her some juice because she was thirsty. Raku felt irritated and realized once again that Chitoge really did not have a soft or gentle side at all. While Raku was buying the juice, Chitoge was approached by a group of rude men. She said that she was waiting for someone, but they kept bothering her. Even Claude and the others who were keeping watch from afar felt annoyed by the situation. The men continued to bother Chitoge, and she was already preparing to deal with them herself. Suddenly, Raku returned, grabbed Chitoge by the arm, and pulled her away as he started running. Chitoge was shocked and could only follow wherever Raku led her. When they finally stopped at a park bench, Chitoge wondered why Raku had stopped her, acting like a man who had just saved a girl from trouble, even though she could have handled the situation on her own. Raku explained that he only wanted to keep Chitoge away from a confrontation. He did not intend to defend the men, but he believed that if Chitoge lost her temper and caused a scene, people might end up judging her unfairly. Raku reminded her not to lower herself to that level. Hearing this, Chitoge's face turned red. She admitted that she also did not want to waste her time dealing with people like that. Raku realized that this was the first time in his life that he had held a girl by the arm. Chitoge commented that going on a date with Raku was annoying, boring, and full of unwanted advice, which completely ruined her mood. Even so, she admitted that it was not the worst experience ever, and she even added 1 extra point to the score if their date were rated out of 100. After saying that, Chitoge quickly walked away. As she continued down the street, Chitoge kept thinking about what had happened earlier. It was the first time she had ever been led by a man like that, and she felt that it was a mistake. Meanwhile, Raku did not understand what Chitoge actually wanted. He thought that if he had gone on a date with Onodera instead, his dream might have come true already. Suddenly, Onodera appeared right in front of him. She was surprised because she had just heard Raku say her name. Onodera asked what Raku was doing there, and Raku reacted in panic when he saw her. He then asked what Onodera was doing in that area. Onodera explained that she was on her way home after shopping with a friend. In truth, she had wanted to surprise Raku, but she ended up being the one who was surprised when she heard him mention her name. Onodera became curious about what Raku had been thinking. Raku's heart started beating fast as he saw Onodera looking straight at him. At that moment, Chitoge was in the restroom. By chance, she overheard her father's subordinates talking. It seemed that they were starting to suspect her relationship with Raku, because it did not look affectionate like it did back at the Yakuza house. Instead, they often saw the two of them arguing. Realizing that her situation could become risky, Chitoge quickly put on a cute act again. She approached Raku while calling him by an affectionate nickname, her face slightly flushed. However, the moment she reached him, her body froze when she saw that Onodera was standing there as well. Onodera did not expect what she had just heard. After hearing Chitoge call Raku by an affectionate nickname, she asked whether that meant Chitoge and Raku were dating. Raku and Chitoge immediately denied it, but they both realized that their father's subordinates were watching them closely. Raku had no idea what to do, especially because he did not want Onodera to think that he was in a relationship with Chitoge. Unexpectedly, Chitoge suddenly held onto Raku's arm and claimed that she and Raku really were a couple who had just started dating. Onodera was shocked by that statement. Raku froze, unsure how to react. Chitoge then urged Raku to go along with it. She understood that Raku would feel embarrassed if their classmates found out, but at that moment, their safety was what mattered most. Maybe if it were only their classmates, Raku would not care. But the real problem for him was that he did not want Onodera to believe he was dating Chitoge. Onodera admitted that the news surprised her because she had never known about it before. Raku tried to deny it again, but Chitoge kept insisting on the opposite. Feeling irritated, Chitoge lightly stepped on Raku's foot to get his attention, then excused herself and left. Onodera asked whether it was really okay to let Chitoge go home alone. Raku replied that it was fine because he would catch up with her later. Meanwhile, Claude felt that even though he could not follow Raku and Chitoge everywhere, something about their relationship seemed off to him. He decided that he would eventually confront Raku for getting too close to Princess Chitoge, though his intention was more about setting things straight than causing trouble. Raku then tried to explain to Onodera that he and Chitoge did not have the kind of relationship she was imagining. However, Onodera became even more convinced that Raku was simply too shy to admit it. She said that she understood his feelings, but in her view, Raku did not need to treat Chitoge so coldly because it came across as unkind. Onodera also felt that Raku and Chitoge looked very compatible and even seemed like a couple deeply in love. Raku never expected Onodera to believe the story so completely. Onodera prepared to leave, assuming that Raku and Chitoge were on a date. But before she went home, Raku asked whether she had ever seen his locket before, perhaps when they were younger. Onodera said that she had never seen a locket like that at all, and she suggested that Raku should hurry and find Chitoge. After night fell, Raku searched around the park for Chitoge. He apologized for making her wait so long. Chitoge scolded Raku, saying that even though she had tried her best, Raku had ended up doing the opposite of what she expected. Raku bought dorayaki as a way to apologize. His face turned red as he admitted that everything really was his fault. Chitoge was surprised that Raku was actually aware of his mistake. Raku urged her to try the dorayaki right away, but when she opened the package, it turned out she did not like dorayaki at all. That night, Onodera returned home, where her mother offered her a new dorayaki flavor. Onodera chose to go straight to her room instead. She looked at an old photo of Raku from when he was a child and felt conflicted because she had not told him the truth. She realized that by staying silent, it was only becoming harder for her to ever say what she really felt to Raku. One day, Chitoge accompanied Raku while he took care of the school's animals. Chitoge admitted that even though Raku handled everything on his own, he took very good care of them. Raku explained that he treated the animals like his own family. Unexpectedly, many of the animals he fed became overly energetic and crowded around him, but Raku laughed happily and casually complained about how troublesome they were. Chitoge asked how many animals were actually there. Raku said there were about 90, which shocked Chitoge and made her say that the place felt like a zoo. Some of the animals had names while others did not. Chitoge wondered why only some were named even though Raku considered them family. It turned out that precisely because he saw them as family, Raku was very careful when choosing names. One animal was named Divine Spacer Kiyoshi, which Chitoge felt was far too long. Raku then told Chitoge that she could name the animals instead, but she ended up just numbering them. Raku pointed out a few animals he had already named, such as Rodriguez IV, the turtle, and Crusher Kato, the chicken. Chitoge reacted with curiosity, casually wondering what kind of food those animals might like, which made the moment feel awkward but lighthearted. In the past, a young Raku approached a little girl and asked why she was crying. The girl explained that the picture book she was reading had a sad ending. She said she loved the book very much, but the story made her heart ache. After hearing that, Raku changed the ending into a happy one. The girl felt relieved and happy because the new ending was beautiful. She smiled warmly and asked for Raku's name. However, before she could say her own name, the adult Raku suddenly woke up from his sleep. That moment from his childhood had once again appeared in his dream. Yet even now, Raku still could not remember the little girl's name. His face turned red as he recalled the girl's face from the dream, but he felt irritated because the dream never continued, even though he dreamed about her quite often. That morning, Raku quickly prepared breakfast while his mind was still stuck on the dream. After yesterday's conversation with Onodera, it was already clear that Onodera was not the girl from the pendant promise in his past. On top of that, Onodera had also been thinking about the fact that Raku was already dating Chitoge. Raku suddenly let out a frustrated scream, feeling overwhelmed by everything that was happening to him. His reaction made the Yakuza members around the house feel worried. After that, Raku headed to school with the intention of talking to Onodera to clear up the misunderstanding. He remembered Onodera's words about how the girl from the promise must have truly cared about him. Raku wondered whether that girl was still holding on to the key after all those years. Suddenly, Chitoge greeted Raku affectionately from across the street. Raku was surprised to see how exhausted Chitoge looked. She explained that she was tired because of what happened the day before. It turned out she had been overwhelmed by endless questions about her relationship, asked by her father's subordinates. Chitoge felt irritated because even at home, she could not catch a break. Raku realized that school might be the only place where they could relax, even just a little. Chitoge wondered how long this situation would last and whether it really had to continue for 3 years. According to Raku, the most troublesome person was Claude, since he was completely suspicious of their relationship. Raku asked where Claude was at that moment, but Chitoge did not know because she had not seen him yet that day. For Chitoge, the most important thing was making sure their relationship did not become known at school. She reminded Raku to explain things to Onodera, because if Onodera misunderstood and spread rumors, it would cause more problems. Raku felt confident that Onodera was not the type of person who liked gossiping. As soon as Raku opened the classroom door, he saw Onodera chatting with 2 of her friends. Onodera immediately greeted him. Just as Raku was about to explain what had happened the day before, all the students in the class suddenly congratulated him and Chitoge on becoming a couple. Their classmates hoped that the relationship would last all the way to marriage. Raku quickly tried to deny it, but Shu explained that on the previous Saturday, Itano and Shirogasaki had seen them together and assumed their relationship was real. Shu admitted that he felt jealous, since he never expected Raku to be the first one to get a girlfriend. Some of the male students wondered why Chitoge would choose someone as ordinary as Raku to be her boyfriend. Their homeroom teacher Kyoka was also surprised by the relationship between Raku and Chitoge. Raku tried to deny everything and clear up the misunderstanding, but at that moment Claude was secretly watching them from outside the classroom. Raku and Chitoge were shocked when they noticed Claude there. Claude was eagerly waiting to see how Raku would explain their true relationship, since he was ready to remove Raku if it turned out that Raku was not truly dating Chitoge. Their classmates waited for a clear answer about what kind of relationship Raku and Chitoge actually had. Left with no choice, Chitoge stated that she and Raku were a couple deeply in love. The class erupted in cheers after hearing that confirmation. Raku signaled to Onodera that he would explain everything to her later. Onodera praised them, saying that just as she had expected, Raku and Chitoge seemed like a well-matched couple. After school, Raku and Chitoge could not understand why their bad luck kept following them. Chitoge felt that her high school life was already ruined, and she could not understand why Raku seemed so calm about it. Because Claude kept watching them during breaks and lunchtime, Raku never got the chance to talk to Onodera. Chitoge told Raku to go home first, because she still had something to take care of. When Raku asked what she was planning to do, Chitoge responded by lightly tapping his head in annoyance. Raku worried that Onodera would continue to misunderstand him all the way until graduation. He did not want that to happen, and he was determined to talk to her somehow, but no matter what he did, he could not find the right opportunity. Unexpectedly, Raku ran into Onodera, who had just finished a committee meeting. Raku realized that this was a rare chance to talk to her, so he felt that he had to act right away. He wanted to start a conversation, but he worried that Onodera might ask why she was the only one being told about this. Raku began to panic about what he should say if Chitoge ever questioned him like that. If he said that he wanted Onodera to understand his situation, it would be the same as openly confessing his feelings to her. A confession was something that needed to be prepared carefully, and at that moment, Raku felt that his heart was not ready for it. In the end, Raku said that he thought he and Chitoge did not really suit each other. Onodera reminded him that he should not say things like that while he was still in a relationship. She felt that Chitoge might have her own reasons for being able to like Raku. Raku was not convinced because he believed he had no special strengths. However, Onodera told him that he actually had many good qualities. Raku genuinely felt happy hearing that from her. Onodera mentioned several of Raku's strengths, such as the time when Chitoge struggled with studying Japanese and Raku quietly gave her his notes, or how Raku could not stand seeing abandoned animals and always felt the urge to help them. She also brought up how Raku once helped an elderly woman for hours without expecting anything in return. Another example was when Raku lied to a teacher by saying that he had also forgotten his homework, just like his classmates, so they could all be scolded together. In Onodera's eyes, Raku had many admirable qualities. Raku never expected that Onodera paid such close attention to him. From Raku's perspective, it seemed unlikely that Chitoge would be drawn to those kinds of traits, yet he felt that he finally understood why Chitoge might like him. Suddenly, another student accidentally bumped into Onodera, causing a necklace from her bag to fall out. Both Raku and Onodera were startled when they saw it, and Onodera's face immediately turned red as she noticed Raku's curious expression. Raku thought that the key attached to it did not look like a house key. He began to wonder if it might be connected to the pendant he owned. Cold sweat formed on Raku's face as he thought about the possible connection between Onodera's key and his own pendant. Onodera quickly picked up the key and nervously said that it was her house key, only to suddenly correct herself and claim that it was actually the key to a bookshelf at her home. She looked extremely flustered and hurried away. Raku was surprised that Onodera could act like that. His heart was still racing even though Onodera had said that the key was not what he thought it was. Despite that, Raku found himself hoping that Onodera might be the girl involved in that promise. He could not stop thinking about whether the key was really just for a bookshelf. Meanwhile, Onodera continued watching Raku from a distance, her face still red as she thought about him. Raku then realized that he had once again missed the chance to tell Onodera about the true nature of his relationship with Chitoge, but he believed there would still be another opportunity the next day. The next morning, Raku and Chitoge greeted each other warmly when they met in class. They were forced to act that way to avoid making Claude suspicious. Their classmates cheered happily when they saw how close the two of them looked. In reality, neither Raku nor Chitoge enjoyed keeping up the act, but they had to stay cheerful in front of everyone, especially since Claude continued to watch them from outside the classroom window. At that moment, Ruri, Onodera's close friend, admitted that she felt jealous of how close Raku and Chitoge seemed. During the lesson, Onodera kept staring at Raku again and again. When break time arrived, Raku approached Chitoge and asked why she looked so nervous. The two of them chose a quiet place to talk privately. Chitoge complained about how everything had turned out this way. Raku felt that they needed to find a way to outsmart Claude. Chitoge said that since Claude was already suspicious, he would not be willing to listen to anything Raku had to say. She also mentioned that Claude probably would not show up after school that day because he had other business to attend to. Chitoge felt that if things continued like this, nothing would change. Raku thought that it might be okay to tell the truth to a close friend who could keep a secret. He believed that if someone else knew about their situation, the burden on his shoulders might feel a little lighter. Chitoge told him that he should be the one to say it first. After that, she did not want Raku to keep talking with her. She even asked him to go home first because she had something to take care of. Raku was confused about why Chitoge suddenly started acting that way. That afternoon, Raku was heading home together with Shu. Shu had not expected Raku to open up about Chitoge to him. Raku felt confused because he believed he had not done anything wrong, yet Chitoge had acted strangely toward him. According to Shu, girls were naturally sensitive. Shu even wondered whether Chitoge's lips might feel soft, but Raku explained that nothing like that had ever happened between him and Chitoge. Shu said that he was willing to listen to Raku's worries because he was Raku's close friend. The two of them went to a spot near the river to talk. Raku explained Chitoge's behavior that day, while Shu admitted that he did not really understand the idea of keeping secrets from friends. Raku still could not understand why Chitoge had suddenly started acting that way, or perhaps she was simply in a bad mood. Shu guessed that Chitoge might be having trouble fitting in socially. Raku thought that if Chitoge had close friends, her secrets would not feel like such a burden. It seemed that Chitoge truly did not have friends. Although she had spoken with other girls before, she never acted close to anyone other than Raku. After school, when Raku turned in his assignment at the teacher's office, he asked about Onodera. Ms. Kyoko told him that Onodera had already gone home because there was no committee meeting that day. Raku felt disappointed, since that day had been a good chance for him to talk with Onodera. As he was about to leave, he suddenly remembered what Shu had said earlier, that Chitoge never acted close to anyone except him. Raku wondered why he was the one worrying about Chitoge. By chance, Raku overheard other students talking. They were discussing how Chitoge seemed distant whenever she talked with them. They admitted that it felt difficult to get close to a mixed heritage student like her, yet she looked friendly when she was with Raku. They felt as though Chitoge looked down on them. Raku immediately ran back toward the classroom. Only then did he realize that Chitoge really had been spending most of her time with him, ever since she transferred to the school. Especially when they were pretending to be a couple, Chitoge had pushed her own personal life aside. At that moment, Chitoge was making notes about the names of her classmates. Raku could only watch quietly. After Chitoge finished writing, she felt confident that she could finally start talking with them. Raku slowly approached her. Chitoge was startled when she noticed Raku and quickly covered her notebook, asking how long he had been standing there. Her face turned red with embarrassment after realizing that Raku had seen what she was doing. Chitoge reflexively tried to lash out, but Raku stopped her before it went too far. Chitoge was sure that Raku would laugh at her. She admitted that she did not know any other way to get close to people and confessed that she had no idea how to approach classmates. Claude had been protecting her since she was little. He had always been extremely protective, even escorting Chitoge to school and constantly keeping an eye on her. He also always tried to find out who she spent time with, which made it difficult for Chitoge to make friends. In truth, she wanted to live like a normal girl. She had thought that moving to Japan would mean no one would know that she was the daughter of a mafia boss, but the situation turned out to be no different. Chitoge herself wondered why she had ended up telling all of this to Raku. Raku felt that his own life was not that different from hers. He had even made similar notes before. Since Raku was little, his father had been part of the Yakuza, and every time he changed schools, people always whispered about him. Raku explained that Ueshida was actually a nice person who got really excited when talking about sports. He suggested that Chitoge ask Suzuki about schoolwork because she was smart, and he hoped that Chitoge could get closer to Maria, who clearly wanted to talk with her. Raku knew a lot about his classmates thanks to the notes he had once made, and he even offered to help Chitoge become closer with everyone. Raku admitted that Chitoge could be annoying, but he understood how she felt. Chitoge's face turned red, yet she acted as if she was reluctantly accepting Raku's help. Raku became even more convinced that Chitoge was not cute at all. Chitoge stated that she would not act sweet toward Raku, because their relationship was only pretend. Unexpectedly, that conversation was overheard by Onodera, who was standing at the front of the classroom. She was shocked and could not understand what was really going on. One morning, Chitoge headed to school together with Raku. Suddenly, two fellow students came over to greet Chitoge. At first, she looked very nervous, but moments later she started talking about sports. They seemed very comfortable chatting about a sports match from the previous night. Raku noticed that the note she had prepared earlier seemed to help a lot. From that day on, little by little, Chitoge managed to grow closer to her classmates. She was not the type of person who struggled to make friends. Rather, her natural personality allowed her to connect easily once she was given the chance. That day, Chitoge was assigned to take care of the plants at school, and she quietly sang to herself because she felt happy. Her high school life was finally going the way she had imagined. Her mood even improved whenever she saw the school's plants and animals. She proudly told Raku that she was planning to go to McDonald's with her friends later. Raku did not feel jealous, since he also went there often. In Chitoge's mind, she felt that if she were to break up with Raku, her life might become even more perfect. Previously, whenever Raku was near her, Chitoge always showed a sulky expression, but this time she actually smiled at him. Unfortunately, Raku misunderstood her attitude. Chitoge had not really changed at all, and was still the same troublesome girl as ever. At the same time, Ruri and Onodera were watching them from a distance. Ruri did not like how close Raku and Chitoge seemed to be. Instead, she was worried about Onodera's feelings, since she realized that her best friend had feelings for Raku. Hearing this, Onodera was surprised and tried to deny it, but Ruri was completely convinced that Onodera liked him. Onodera felt that she was nothing more than an obstacle, because Raku already had a girlfriend. Ruri confidently stated that she believed Raku also had feelings for Onodera. Onodera's face immediately turned red, and she could hardly believe what Ruri was saying. Ruri had been watching the two of them for a long time and even suggested that Onodera should try dating Raku. Onodera admitted that Ruri's words were painfully honest. Ruri gently patted Onodera's head and reminded her that there was no rule saying Onodera could not get close to someone just because that person liked someone else. Onodera realized that Ruri had a point. Ruri told her not to worry and promised to create an opportunity for her. She then walked straight toward Raku, making Onodera panic and worry about what Ruri might say to him. In the end, Ruri simply suggested having a group study session in Raku's room. Raku was surprised by the idea, but immediately agreed. After school, Raku invited Ruri, Onodera, Shu, and Chitoge to his house. They were greeted by members of the Yakuza. One of them, Ryunosuke, asked whether Raku was planning to hold a study session. Raku asked Ryunosuke to prepare some tea right away. He did not understand why Ruri had suddenly suggested studying at his place. He also never expected that Onodera, the girl he liked, would join them, which made him feel extremely grateful. Ruri then asked why Shu had come along as well. Shu explained that there was nothing wrong with him joining, especially since he and Ruri were both glasses-wearing classmates. Raku wondered if this had all been Onodera's idea and tried to get Ruri to admit it. At that moment, Raku and Onodera accidentally made eye contact, but Onodera quickly looked away. Her face turned red, and she could not bring herself to look at Raku. The group then headed toward Raku's room. Raku tried to calm his racing heart, but suddenly Chitoge started moving around excitedly in front of him, prompting Raku to wonder what was making her so nervous, or rather, so cheerful. Chitoge admitted that it was her first time ever studying in a group with friends, and wondered if it was wrong for her to feel that happy. When they arrived at Raku's room, Ruri was amazed by how spacious it was. Shu mentioned that it had been a long time since he had last been there. Chitoge, on the other hand, commented that the room felt small and had a strange smell. Raku felt irritated that Chitoge would say something like that in front of Onodera. Onodera's face turned red when she noticed the familiar scent of Raku's room, making her feel even more embarrassed. Once again, Onodera and Raku accidentally locked eyes, but she quickly turned her face away. She was truly too shy to look at him directly. Not long after, Ryunosuke arrived with tea for everyone. Raku picked up the tea tray, and Onodera hurried over to help him. However, when their hands accidentally touched, Onodera panicked and ended up tossing the tray into the air. Ryunosuke immediately became flustered and asked whether Raku was all right, while Onodera, overwhelmed with embarrassment, quickly apologized. At that moment, Raku felt so restless that he did not know what to do. He tried to calm himself down and focus on his assignment. Onodera asked Ruri to help her with a problem she found difficult, but instead, Ruri told Raku to help Onodera. Onodera was surprised and wondered why Ruri had pointed her toward Raku instead. Ruri admitted that she was not good at that particular subject. Onodera found it strange because Ruri had been able to solve even harder problems the day before. Worried then asked Onodera not to question her any further. Onodera quickly approached Raku, looking nervous as she asked for his help. Their faces both turned red because they were standing so close to each other. At that moment, Raku's heart was beating extremely fast, not only because Onodera was right beside him, but also because he was not confident in math. He did not know what to say to her and even worried that she might be able to hear how fast his heart was pounding. Raku tried to calm himself, but the math problem truly was difficult. Suddenly, Chitoge suggested that they should align the variables first. Raku told Chitoge that she should just focus on her own assignment. Chitoge replied that she had already finished it, which Raku could hardly believe since the homework that day was 3 full pages. Chitoge then showed the completed assignment to him. Raku was shocked and realized that Chitoge was actually smart, even though he had assumed he was better than her. It turned out that when Chitoge studied in America, she consistently earned straight A grades. She was also willing to help Onodera. Onodera felt very happy because Chitoge explained everything in a clear and easy-to-understand way. Hearing the praise, Chitoge laughed cheerfully and looked down at Raku with confidence. Raku felt extremely annoyed and silently wished she would stop acting so smug. Not long after that, Chitoge suddenly asked whether there was a guy that Onodera liked. Both Raku and Onodera were caught off guard by the question. Raku wondered why Chitoge would bring up something like that, but to Chitoge, it was a normal topic among girls. Onodera admitted that she did not have feelings for anyone yet. Hearing that, Raku smiled to himself because it meant he still had a chance. Chitoge also admitted that she did not like anyone at the moment and hoped she would experience something romantic someday. Their classmates felt confused by Chitoge's statement, and realizing the awkward atmosphere, Chitoge claimed that she was only joking. Raku immediately played along to help smooth things over. They continued acting close so their classmates would not grow suspicious. Shu suddenly asked how far Raku and Chitoge's relationship had progressed. Chitoge panicked upon hearing the question. Raku quickly stopped Shu from continuing and led him outside, clearly uncomfortable with the topic. Raku warned Shu not to talk about things like that. He then explained the fake dating situation and asked Shu to keep his secret. However, Shu revealed that he had known from the start and had only pretended not to know so he could enjoy the situation. Raku was surprised that he had ended up telling Shu everything. Shu advised Raku not to let Onodera misunderstand anything and suggested that Raku should be honest and confess his feelings to her. Shu even offered to help, as he believed that Onodera had feelings for Raku as well. Raku was shocked and felt that such a possibility was hard to believe. Raku and Shu then returned to the others. Raku kept thinking that if Onodera truly liked him, his life would become incredibly happy. Unbeknownst to him, several Yakuza members were watching from a distance. They were suspicious because there seemed to be no progress in Raku and Chitoge's relationship. Even inviting Chitoge to his house required bringing other friends along. The Yakuza members decided to help Raku grow closer to Chitoge. They asked Raku and Chitoge to retrieve some expensive tea stored in the warehouse. Ruri felt relieved because she had been feeling awkward around Onodera at the time. When they arrived at the warehouse, Raku asked Chitoge to go inside with him, but she refused and chose to wait outside. Suddenly, someone pushed them both inside and locked the door from the outside. It turned out that the Yakuza members had done it on purpose to give Raku and Chitoge time alone together. Raku repeatedly knocked on the warehouse door, but it was no use. He wondered why the Yakuza members would go that far, especially after they claimed they could only help up to that point. Despite the situation, Raku remained calm because he believed they would eventually find a way out, especially since there was a ladder and a window inside. He apologized to Chitoge for the Yakuza members' actions. Unexpectedly, Chitoge held on to Raku tightly from behind. She was extremely frightened and reacted defensively when she realized how close they were. Chitoge admitted that she felt uncomfortable in dark, confined spaces due to a past experience where she had been stuck inside a washing machine for several hours. She asked Raku to stay still because holding on to him helped her feel calmer. At that moment, Raku realized that there was another side to Chitoge he had never seen before. Being so close to her, he became aware of her shaky breathing and her teary eyes, and he could sense the warmth of her presence. Raku admitted to himself that Chitoge truly had a gentle and charming side. However, he quickly pushed those thoughts away, reminding himself that he had already decided to give his heart to Onodera. Chitoge noticed a ladder and wondered whether they could get out through the window, but her condition at the time made it impossible for her to climb. She asked Raku to go out first and look for help, yet he could not bring himself to leave her alone in the storage room. He believed the Yakuza members would eventually open the door, so he chose to stay and keep her company. Chitoge grew irritated, feeling that Raku was trying too hard to act cool in a way that did not suit him. After that, she suggested that they talk. because staying silent would only make her feel more scared. Raku did not even know what they were supposed to talk about. Chitoge suggested that he tell an amazing story, but Raku admitted that he was not good at talking about things just like that. She then asked how he felt about Onodera at that moment. Raku was startled and wondered why she suddenly brought that up. According to Chitoge, Onodera seemed like an impressive person who was sweet and friendly, so she felt she could probably get along well with her. Raku admitted that Onodera really was kind, warm, and thoughtful. He also thought that she was beautiful, neat, charming, and feminine, and he felt confident that Onodera was the kind of girl many people would admire. Chitoge asked whether Raku might be hiding feelings for Onodera. He panicked, realizing that she had noticed. Chitoge admitted that she agreed with his opinion about Onodera. She then suddenly wondered why everyone kept bringing up questions about kissing and whether it was really that important. Raku did not understand why people enjoyed talking about that topic so much. Chitoge commented that she would rather face something extreme than ever kiss Raku, though the remark came off as exaggerated and emotional rather than serious. Raku became convinced that she had never kissed anyone before. Chitoge, on the other hand, suspected that Raku was the inexperienced one, while she claimed to have kissed many people, explaining it as a form of greeting in other countries. Raku pointed out that they were talking about kissing on the lips, not a friendly greeting on the cheek. They kept arguing back and forth about the subject. As the debate went on and became more heated, Raku unexpectedly stopped feeling scared. Because of that, Chitoge felt confident that she could finally climb the ladder. She quickly stood up, but then she stumbled and her body landed right in front of Raku. Their faces turned red because they were suddenly so close that it looked as if they were about to kiss. At that moment, Claude arrived and opened the storage room door. Seeing how close they were, he teased Raku, implying that he should not rush things like that. Ruri then appeared and admitted that she felt relieved, since she had been worried about them the entire time. Unexpectedly, Onodera also arrived and saw the scene. Her face turned red, and she apologized for interrupting before quickly leaving the area. Raku felt deeply upset because Onodera had misunderstood the situation. He never imagined that such drama would bring their group study session to an abrupt end. That night, after taking a bath, Chitoge read through a friend's notebook. Before this, she had viewed Raku as loud, overly heroic, and annoying. She added a note about him, writing that he might possibly have a good side, though it seemed like it was probably just her imagination. In the end, she thought of Raku as nothing more than a bean sprout. Earlier during the group study session, Onodera had gone to look for the restroom, leaving Ruri alone with Shu. Shu asked whether Ruri had ever kissed anyone, which caught her completely off guard. Ruri refused to answer and wondered why Shu was suddenly acting so familiar with her. She brought up her suspicions about the relationship between Raku and Chitoge, feeling sure that Shu knew something. But he only continued teasing her, making her feel uncomfortable and turned off by his attitude. Meanwhile, Onodera became confused about where the restroom was and decided to ask Ryunosuke for directions. That day, during the break, Raku bought a drink from the school vending machine. His mind was still stuck on what had happened at his house the day before. He desperately wanted to forget the incident with Chitoge in the storage room, but he could not stop worrying about Onodera, who might have misunderstood what she saw when Raku and Chitoge were together there. When Raku reached the area near the classroom, he noticed Ruri trying to cheer Onodera up and telling her not to stay gloomy. Onodera explained that she felt like she could not interfere in someone else's relationship. Unfortunately, Raku could not clearly hear their conversation. Ruri then asked why Onodera was still keeping that key and whether she was still searching for the boy she had made a promise with 10 years ago. Hearing this, Raku began to wonder if Onodera might be the girl from that promise long ago. Ruri continued encouraging Onodera to give herself a chance to express her feelings to Raku and even planned to ask Chitoge for help. Ruri was very confident that Raku truly liked Onodera, especially because she strongly suspected something complicated about the relationship between Raku and Chitoge. That same day, Ruri asked Chitoge for help by inviting her to join the school swimming team. Ruri explained that the swimming team would hold a group practice the next day, but they were short on members. She chose Chitoge because of her excellent athletic ability. Chitoge did not mind at all since she genuinely enjoyed sports, although she was surprised to see Raku there as well. Raku was confused about why Ruri had invited him, considering it was a girls' swimming team. Ruri explained that she needed Raku's help to support someone. Raku, however, was still distracted by the conversation about the 10-year promise that Ruri and Onodera had earlier that morning, making it hard for him to focus. Suddenly, Onodera arrived and was confused about why Ruri had signed her up for the swimming team even though she could not swim. Raku was startled when he saw Onodera in a swimsuit. He had not expected how sweet and charming she looked in it. Onodera became extremely nervous upon noticing Raku, while Raku kept wondering why she continued carrying the key she referred to as a bookshelf key. Onodera's face turned red as she stood there, unsure of what to do. Shidoge quickly scolded Raku for staring too much and snapped him out of it. At that moment, Onodera began to wonder if Raku might actually have feelings for her. She felt awkward being so close to him. Suddenly, Ruri casually brought up what Raku and Shidoge had been doing together in the dark storage room the day before. The question shocked everyone, and Onodera was confused as to why Ruri would mention that. Raku explained that it had only been an accident caused by losing balance. Hearing this, Onodera felt relieved and realized that Ruri had asked the question for her sake. Ruri then made sure that nothing inappropriate had happened between them. Not long after, Shu approached them, having come specifically to watch Onodera and Chidoge help the swimming team. He was clearly impressed by Chidoge and Onodera, though he showed no such interest in Ruri. Annoyed by his attitude, Ruri pushed Shu into the pool to shut him up. She then firmly warned him to stop causing trouble. Ruri explained that she had asked Raku to help teach Onodera how to swim. Both Raku and Onodera were shocked to hear this. Chidoge looked excited, while Raku became visibly nervous. Onodera's face turned bright red when she realized that Raku would be the one teaching her. It turned out that Ruri had planned everything without telling Onodera beforehand. Chidoge wondered why Ruri had invited Onodera, even though she could not swim. Onodera apologized to Chidoge for the sudden situation, but Chidoge did not mind at all and even said that she was enjoying herself. Seeing how friendly and kind Chidoge was, Onodera felt that Chidoge truly seemed like someone worthy of Raku's affection. Suddenly, a suspicious man approached while disguised, offering to help Chidoge with sunscreen. Ruri immediately kicked him away, revealing that it was actually Shu in disguise. She told him to go home if he was only going to cause trouble. Meanwhile, Raku wondered whether Claude had been watching him the day before. If Claude had been there, Raku was certain that Shu would not have acted so recklessly. In fact, Claude was watching Chidoge from a distance and was surprised to realize how much she had grown up. Chidoge demonstrated to Onodera how to jump and swim in the pool. She moved skillfully through the water, kicking swiftly, and when she reached the edge of the pool, she checked whether Onodera understood the idea. Onodera was completely amazed by Chidoge's impressive movements. Raku thought that Chidoge was so skilled that her technique might actually be difficult for a beginner to follow. Feeling a bit discouraged, Chidoge fell silent at the side of the pool. Raku then stepped in and began teaching Onodera the basics, starting with simple leg movements. Raku felt genuinely happy to be able to teach Onodera privately, especially since she was standing so close to him. He did not expect to be guiding her so closely, even holding her hand to help her balance. Onodera's hand felt warm and soft, and with a flushed face, she asked him not to let go. Unfortunately, Raku became too nervous and accidentally loosened his grip, causing Onodera to fall into the pool. Raku immediately apologized, but Onodera realized that it happened because she was still inexperienced. Raku suggested taking a short break, but Onodera refused, saying that since Raku was putting so much effort into teaching her, she wanted to stay motivated. Onodera's bright smile made Raku's face turn red, and he became flustered, running off while shouting in embarrassment. Onodera looked incredibly sweet, leaving a strong impression on Raku's heart. Onodera herself looked shy as well and soon went to buy a drink as a small gesture of thanks to Raku. In the end, Raku felt more motivated than ever to continue teaching Onodera how to swim. Padasae 2. Raku noticed Onodera's key lying there. He slowly moved closer to it, thinking that if the key really was the one from 10 years ago, and if Onodera was the person who had made that promise with him back then he could end up marrying Onodera. For now, the most important thing was to confirm whether the key could open his locket. Raku then tried to insert the key into the keyhole of his locket. Unexpectedly, the key would not fit at all, and he suspected that it was a different key. Suddenly, Onodera arrived carrying tea together with Chiyoge and Ruri. Raku was startled by their sudden appearance. Onodera looked confused and wondered why Raku was holding what appeared to be a key from the girls' changing room. The situation quickly escalated, and they restrained Raku, completely misunderstanding what was happening and assuming the worst about his intentions. Raku desperately tried to explain the misunderstanding, but they did not listen. He himself was confused about why the changing room key had such a strange design. Ruri explained that the principal had designed it and that the principal's taste seemed old-fashioned. Onodera believed that everything was just a misunderstanding and that Raku was not the type of person who would do something inappropriate. Hearing Onodera defend him like that deeply moved Raku. Because of Onodera's trust, Ruri released Raku and asked him to continue teaching Onodera how to swim again the next day. Raku thanked Onodera sincerely for believing in him. Ruri then apologized to Chitoge for having to borrow Chitoge's boyfriend to help Onodera practice swimming. Chitoge became flustered when Ruri mentioned the word boyfriend, and her reaction made Ruri even more suspicious. The next day, Raku returned to the swimming pool to teach Onodera again. Not long after that, Chitoge came over to them. Raku felt curious about why Chitoge was not wearing the same swim outfit as before. Chitoge explained that everything had been rushed the previous day and that she had not prepared a proper school swim uniform. She teased Raku by implying that he seemed very curious, which led Raku to comment that things would be easier if her behavior were calmer. Hearing that, Chitoge immediately got upset and lashed out at him, then asked about Onodera's progress. Raku explained that as long as Onodera used a flotation device, she would be able to manage. Chitoge was shocked, thinking that meant Onodera still could not swim properly at all. Raku felt that this was normal, since no one could master swimming with just one day of practice. They continued arguing back and forth until Onodera arrived with Ruri. Raku asked if Onodera was feeling okay. Onodera said that she had practiced swimming techniques in the bathtub. Raku told her not to push herself too hard and reminded her that all she needed to do was swim until the finish line. Seeing this, Chitoge wondered why Raku treated Onodera differently compared to others. Raku responded that there was no reason for him to be especially considerate toward Chitoge. Chitoge felt hurt by the difference in how Raku treated her compared to Onodera. Because of that, they ended up arguing intensely once again. Ruri found it strange and wondered whether the two of them were fighting because they were close or because they truly disliked each other. Their public behavior toward each other was very different from what she was seeing now, which only made her more curious about what kind of relationship they actually had. The swimming competition then began. Raku reminded Chitoge to warm up first, but she refused. Only Onodera wore a flotation device, since she was still unable to swim on her own. She encouraged herself to make it to the finish line. When the signal was given, all the participants jumped into the pool. Raku apologized to Ruri, feeling that just one day of practice was not enough to make Onodera skilled at swimming. Ruri was surprised that Raku took it so seriously, since she had only been joking. Still, Onodera was able to keep going and did not sink during the swim. Suddenly, Chitoge began to sink because both of her legs cramped up due to not warming up beforehand. Raku immediately jumped into the pool to save her. He managed to reach Chitoge and support her, and everyone there praised Raku for his quick action. He quickly brought Chitoge to the edge of the pool. Shu rushed over and asked about Chitoge's condition. Raku said that she had not swallowed much water, but after Shu checked her, he realized that Chitoge was not breathing. Everyone panicked. Shu told Raku that emergency breathing assistance was needed, which shocked Raku. He thought that this was not something he was prepared to do and wondered why it had to be him. Onodera's face turned red, and Ruri pointed out that Raku was the one who should do it, since he was Chitoge's boyfriend. Raku never expected that he would end up having to give emergency rescue breathing to Chitoge in front of so many people, especially with Onodera being there as well. However, because it was an urgent situation, someone had to step in and help. In his mind, Raku could not stop thinking about how giving rescue breathing felt no different from putting his lips close to hers. He felt extremely conflicted and hesitant, but in the end, he decided that helping her was the right thing to do. Just as his face moved closer to Chitoge's, she suddenly regained consciousness and reacted in shock, causing Raku to be sent stumbling back in surprise. Later on, inside the girls' changing room, Onodera was changing clothes together with Ruri. Onodera mentioned that Raku was an amazing guy because he bravely saved Chitoge when she was drowning. Ruri then wondered whether Onodera secretly wished that she herself had been the one in danger instead. Feeling flustered, Onodera quickly denied that idea. Ruri noticed that Onodera often looked timid and unsure of herself, yet in the end, it was still hard to tell whether the relationship between Raku and Chitoge was good or bad. Their chemistry seemed both compatible and conflicting at the same time. But one thing was certain, Raku and Chitoge did not look like a couple at all. Seeing how Onodera always carried her key everywhere she went, Ruri pointed out that Onodera had been carefully protecting that key for 10 whole years. Onodera explained that it was something very precious to her. Ruri felt that the promise connected to the locket from 10 years ago was a waste of time, especially since Onodera could not even remember the face of the boy from back then. Ruri believed that the feelings right in front of her mattered more. Still, she also thought that the love from 10 years ago was connected to the feelings in the present, and she was convinced that Raku had simply mistaken the changing room key for the locket key the day before. Meanwhile, Raku was waiting outside while the girls were changing clothes when Shu suddenly approached him and brought up the incident at the swimming pool earlier. Shu then teased Raku by asking who he would choose between Onodera and Chidoge, making immature and inappropriate comparisons that crossed the line. Hearing that careless conversation, Chidoge reacted immediately and, in her frustration, pushed both of them back into the pool to put a stop to it. Back when Chidoge was still in middle school, she once made chocolate for Valentine's Day. The subordinate members of her father's mafia group were asked to try it. The chocolate she made was actually quite bitter and tough to chew, but because they were intimidated by Claude, they forced themselves to praise it and said that Chidoge's chocolate was the best they had ever tasted. Later, on the way home from school, Shu asked Raku whether he had received any Valentine's chocolate. Raku said that he had received far too many, as it turned out that all the Yakuza members had given chocolate to him. Meanwhile, Onodera never found the courage to give her Valentine's chocolate to Raku, even though she had made it herself. Ruri noticed the chocolate and asked who it was meant for. Onodera said that it was not for anyone in particular, so Ruri asked if she could have it instead. Unexpectedly, after eating it, Ruri ended up feeling unwell because Onodera's homemade chocolate did not turn out right. During the New Year's celebration party, Chidoge was invited to Raku's residence. The Yakuza members asked Raku to show his talent and skills in front of everyone. Raku then sang a song beautifully, surprising everyone who listened. At that moment, Chidoge realized that Raku was actually very talented when it came to singing. One day during the lunch break, Chidoge had lunch together with Ruri and Onodera inside their classroom. She opened the lunchbox she had brought from home, and the moment the lid was lifted, Ruri and Onodera were stunned by what they saw. Inside were fish roe, foie gras, caviar, lobster, fried pork cutlets, shark fin spring rolls, and even a filet mignon steak. Onodera became curious about what kind of job Chidoge's parents actually had. Chidoge looked nervous and said that she came from a normal family. Ruri found it hard to believe and realized that Chidoge was actually from a wealthy background. Chidoge herself noticed that the lunch she brought did not look ordinary at all. The three of them were getting closer and agreed to call each other by their first names only. Nearby, several male students looked delighted while watching the friendly interaction between the three beautiful girls. Chidoge apologized because she had been disqualified from the swimming practice match, even though she was supposed to help Ruri's team. Ruri said it was not a problem, especially since she had been the one who pushed Chidoge too hard from the start, and she was just relieved that Chidoge was still okay. Even though Ruri had done it for Onodera's sake, she still felt deeply guilty. Chidoge explained that the reason she had sunk was because of Raku, since everything he had said before the practice match had annoyed her. She even felt that, while she was unconscious, Raku had still tried to startle her, and in her eyes, he was nothing more than someone beneath her. Onodera then told Chidoge that the person who saved her was actually Raku. Chidoge's face instantly turned red, as she could not believe that the soft and unreliable Raku had helped her. Onodera said that Raku's actions the day before had been impressive, especially when he suddenly dove in to save Chidoge. Onodera also felt uncomfortable hearing Chidoge describe Raku in such a demeaning way. Chidoge began to feel bad for having lashed out at Raku twice. Ruri said that it was not too late for Chidoge to apologize and thank him properly. Chidoge insisted that she could never do something like that, but Onodera encouraged her and even offered to help. Chidoge eventually went to see Raku. She looked nervous about bringing up what happened the day before, but Raku misunderstood and thought she was talking about Shu's comment about her stomach looking a bit round. He promised he would never tell anyone about it. Chidoge was shocked, since that was not what she meant at all. Raku was also confused about why Chidoge had been so rough with him the day before, even though he had not said anything offensive. He even suggested that she might feel better if she balanced her diet by eating more vegetables and less meat. Chidoge became irritated and reacted harshly toward him again. After that, she tried once more to apologize, this time asking about Raku's favorite food. Instead of understanding her intention, Raku suspected that she might be planning something unpleasant and wondered what she was actually trying to do. Earlier, Onodera had suggested that Chidoge give Raku something as an apology. Chidoge handed him a peanut butter bread as a way to thank him for what happened the day before, but Raku said that he preferred chunky red bean paste instead. Chidoge grew annoyed once again and responded sharply toward him. Chidoge still did not give up and tried to meet Raku again later. She brought up the incident from when she had sunk in the pool and said that she had only just learned that Raku was the one who saved her. She admitted that she never expected Raku to be someone who could act so bravely. Raku's face turned red after being described as brave by Chidoge, and it was a relief to him that she did not feel uncomfortable about his attempt to help her breathe. Raku admitted that he had panicked because Chitoge had stopped breathing. Chitoge was surprised and wondered if Raku had truly been worried about her. Raku then asked why she did not seem bothered by it, even though it had been a first-time experience for him. Chitoge misunderstood and thought he was talking about saving her from drowning. She said that it did not scare her at all and that she actually felt happy about it. Raku was confused about why Chitoge felt that way and did not see it as a serious issue. He became even more surprised and confused by what seemed like hidden feelings from her. The misunderstanding continued until Raku finally mentioned the attempt to help her breathe, which made Chitoge angry and caused her to react strongly once again. At that point, Chitoge seemed exhausted and decided that she would never properly thank someone as annoying and foolish as Raku. Onodera tried to calm her down. Ruri remained unsure whether Raku and Chitoge were actually a good match or not. She asked whether Raku and Chitoge were truly dating. Chitoge was startled by the question, but she remembered that Raku had once said that secrets could be shared with close friends. In the end, Chitoge chose to be honest with them. Ruri and Onodera were shocked to learn that Chitoge and Raku were not actually dating. Chitoge explained that their parents had a unique relationship, and because of that situation, she and Raku had been forced to pretend to be a couple. She added that if the circumstances were different, she would never choose to be with someone like Raku. Hearing that, Ruri asked what Chitoge would do if another girl developed feelings for Raku. Chitoge said that she would not mind at all. She asked Ruri and Onodera to promise to keep the secret, because if it ever leaked out, the consequences would be disastrous. Ruri became curious about what Chitoge's family was really like. But Chitoge once again insisted that she came from an ordinary family. After that, Chitoge excused herself, saying she had to go take care of the animals. After Chitoge left, Ruri suggested that Onodera should finally confess her feelings to Raku as soon as possible. However, Onodera felt that doing so would be too sudden. Ruri warned her that if she did not act soon, someone else might take Raku away. Onodera admitted that she had almost given up on expressing her feelings to him, but she realized that this was a rare and valuable opportunity. She did not want those emotions to keep weighing on her heart, so she decided that she would try her best to confess her feelings to Raku. Onodera had no idea how she should do it, and even imagining the moment already made her feel embarrassed. Ruri encouraged her to be brave, and reminded her that she needed to keep trying no matter how difficult it felt. Meanwhile, Raku still did not understand the way girls behaved, especially Chitoge, whose actions often came across as rough and unpredictable. Because of that, the pendant Raku treasured now had several scratches. He really wanted to replace the chain, since if he left it as it was, it might completely break before he ever reunited with the girl connected to the promise behind that pendant. Raku wondered what that girl was doing now. He would not even be surprised if he turned out to be the only one who still remembered the promise, since 10 years had already passed. Suddenly, Raku accidentally bumped into someone carrying items, causing his pendant to fall and the chain to snap. Later, Raku arrived at the animal shed to help take care of the pets together with Chitoge. Because he arrived late, Chitoge scolded him for it. Raku then casually asked whether Chitoge had been about to thank him earlier. Chitoge was caught off guard and nervously denied it, insisting there was no reason for her to do so. She then asked why Raku had saved her and wondered if he did not actually dislike her. Raku felt that of course he would help her, since he did not have time to think about things like personal grudges in that moment. He explained that his body had moved on its own without him realizing it. Raku believed there was some kind of hidden connection between the two of them. Even though their relationship was only an act, they were still technically a couple. Chitoge stayed silent, which made Raku think she had not heard him. Her face slowly turned red as she quietly expressed her gratitude for him saving her, and she also apologized for how harshly she had treated him before. After that, Chitoge said she was heading home. Raku stopped her because he had not heard her clearly, but her reaction once again came across as clumsy and defensive. Although Raku had not heard her words clearly, he was sure that Chitoge had thanked him. He wondered why she could not be a little gentler with him. As Chitoge walked away, she accidentally noticed Raku's pendant lying on the road. At the same time, Ruri asked Onodera what it was that she liked about Raku. Even though Ruri had been friends with both of them for a long time, she still did not fully understand that part. She admitted that Raku was not a bad person. Onodera found it difficult to put into words why she liked Raku so much. Suddenly, Raku entered the classroom and greeted them. Seeing that, Ruri quickly left so that Raku and Onodera could be alone together. Onodera's face turned bright red from nervousness. Raku was confused about why Ruri had run off so fast. Onodera truly wanted to confess her feelings to Raku, but not in such an abrupt situation. It turned out that Ruri was watching from a distance to make sure Onodera would not run away. Onodera's heart was pounding intensely, and she felt so nervous that she could not bring herself to say anything that day. Raku noticed how red her face was and wondered if she might have a fever. When he instinctively checked her temperature, it only made her feel even more flustered. Raku panicked and offered to take her to the hospital immediately. Onodera tried to calm him down, but Raku was still worried and believed she needed medical attention as soon as possible. Onodera smiled and admitted that this very side of Raku was the reason she had fallen for him. After checking the money in his wallet, Raku decided to buy some medicine, but Onodera gently stopped him by holding his hand. After that, Onodera began to explain that she still could not say it yet. Slowly, she started to express what she had been wanting to tell Raku, but suddenly a baseball flew toward them, startling them both. Raku scolded the students who were playing baseball nearby and immediately went to report the situation to a teacher. Before leaving, he asked what Onodera had been trying to say earlier. Onodera simply smiled and said that it was nothing. After Raku left, Onodera felt deeply disappointed. She had almost managed to confess, but once again, something had gotten in the way. Her heart was still racing as she tried to calm herself down. Meanwhile, Raku thought that Onodera might have been about to confess her feelings to him, since her words had sounded close to a love confession and her face had been so red. However, he quickly dismissed the idea, believing it was impossible for Onodera to like him, and that such a beautiful moment would never really happen. Onodera was walking home when she ran into Ruri, and the two of them decided to head back together. Onodera apologized because, in the end, she was unable to go through with it. Ruri commented that Onodera turned out to be weak, just as she had expected, but she also believed that Onodera had tried her very best. Ruri realized that she herself had been pushing Onodera too hard, and if something like this happened again, then it would be enough for them to simply cherish their friendship as it was. Deep down in her heart, Onodera actually felt relieved that she had not yet confessed her feelings to Raku. Even though she truly wanted to express those feelings, she felt that it was better to keep things this way for the time being. Still, Onodera was certain that someday she would tell Raku how she really felt. Meanwhile, Chitoge brought home Raku's locket that she had found on the street. She did not know what to do with it at first. The locket was clearly very important to Raku, so it seemed like she should return it to him the next day. Chitoge found herself wondering what kind of girl had made such a promise with Raku. She started to question whether Raku might still have feelings for that girl, and she was surprised at herself for even thinking about something like that. In the end, Chitoge decided to return the locket right away. That night, Chitoge visited Raku's house and gave the locket back to him. Raku reacted in a panic when he realized that Chitoge was the one who had found it. He explained that he had only just noticed the locket was missing and had been searching for it everywhere. Thanks to Chitoge, it had finally been found. Hearing this, Ryunosuke also felt relieved and happy that the item Raku had been looking for was safely returned. Chitoge reminded Raku that he should be more careful from now on. Raku wondered when he could have dropped it, since he always wore the locket around his neck. After that, Chitoge excused herself and went home, and Raku thanked her sincerely. Raku never expected that Chitoge could be so kind. He was also surprised to see that the locket's chain, which had been broken before, was now fixed. It turned out that Chitoge had deliberately asked one of her subordinates to repair it. Chitoge did not mind that Raku had not noticed the repair at first. She found it strange that, even though the locket was such a precious item to him, Raku seemed more worried about disappointing the girl connected to his promise. That made Chitoge recall that she too had made a promise when she was little, and the story felt very similar. She remembered the words tied to that promise, which were always in love. One day, Claude called in one of his subordinates and assigned a target along with a mission. He handed over a photo of Raku and explained that Chitoge was currently in a relationship with him. However, Claude was convinced that Chitoge was being deceived and taken advantage of by Raku. Hearing this, the subordinate felt upset at the thought of Princess Chitoge being treated unfairly. Claude went on to describe Raku in an extremely negative way, expressing his strong personal dislike and frustration toward him. He could not accept the idea of Raku being close to Chitoge. Because Claude could not protect Chitoge directly, he entrusted the task to a subordinate he had trained carefully, ordering him to watch over her. In Claude's view, this was the best way to keep Chitoge safe and away from what he believed to be bad influences. The subordinate vowed to protect Princess Chitoge and to prove the promise that had been made 10 years ago. On that day, the students at the school were buzzing about a transfer student. The student had a beautiful face but was wearing a male uniform. Shu shared the rumor with Raku and Chitoge, saying that the transfer student was suspected to be a very handsome boy. Not long after that, Ms. Kyoko arrived and informed the class that there was indeed a new transfer student. The student soon entered the classroom and introduced herself as Shukumi. The students burst into cheers, admiring Shukumi's looks, which reminded them of a fashion model. Ms. Kyoko then asked Shukumi to take a seat in the back of the room. Shu appeared to dislike the newcomer. As Shukumi walked toward her seat, she glanced at Raku with an expression that looked like she was quietly mocking him. Raku did not understand what was going on between them. Chitoge was shocked when she saw Shukumi, and Shukumi suddenly hugged her. Chitoge's face turned bright red, and the surrounding students reacted loudly in excitement. Chitoge quickly pulled away from the hug because so many people were watching. Shukumi was deeply moved to be able to meet Chitoge again. During the school break, Shukumi apologized to Chitoge for her earlier behavior. She explained that Claude had ordered her to stay close to Chitoge and keep an eye on her. Chitoge asked why Shukumi was wearing that kind of uniform, and Shukumi admitted that she had trouble finding the proper school uniform. At the same time, Shu asked Raku the same question, and Raku immediately repeated what Shukumi had just explained. Shukumi revealed that she already knew about Chitoge having a new boyfriend and asked to be introduced to him. Chitoge then called Raku over and introduced him to Shukumi. Raku forced a smile and tried to act friendly. Shukumi said that she had heard many things about Raku and believed that he was someone reliable. Raku felt confused, since Shukumi was connected to the mafia yet looked completely ordinary and harmless. Shukumi formally introduced herself and mentioned that she and Chitoge had been friends since childhood. She also admitted that she had been thinking about Chitoge a lot lately. Without thinking, Raku accidentally referred to Chitoge using a teasing nickname. Chitoge quickly tried to cover his mouth and brushed it off as a joke. Raku felt puzzled, since Chitoge had previously claimed that she did not have any close friends. When lunchtime arrived, Shukumi tried to take care of Chitoge by offering her food, but Chitoge refused. Shukumi kept persuading her, recalling how they used to share meals when they were younger. Chitoge became irritated and asked Shukumi to behave more appropriately. Shukumi even brought Chitoge her favorite assam tea. She simply smiled and commented that Chitoge had become even more beautiful. Raku watched all of this in confusion, while Shu asked him if he was really okay, since his rival seemed quite strong. Chitoge finally snapped at Shukumi and told her to stop pampering her so much. Shukumi looked confused by Chitoge's reaction, as they used to be extremely close in the past and spent almost all of their time together. Frustrated, Chitoge walked off toward the restroom. Soon after that, Shukumi asked Raku to talk with her privately. Shukumi led Raku up to the rooftop so they could talk alone. She wanted to know whether Raku truly loved Chitoge sincerely. Raku was taken aback and nearly let the truth slip out. He insisted that he loved Chitoge very much, but Shukumi did not believe him and questioned how deep his feelings really were. Shukumi declared that she loved Chitoge deeply and was willing to give up everything for her. In a tense moment, Shukumi revealed just how serious she was by showing how far she would go to protect Chitoge, which left Raku completely confused and shaken. Shukumi felt disappointed, believing that Raku lacked the awareness and quick judgment needed to protect someone like Chitoge. She became convinced that someone like Raku would never be able to keep Chitoge safe. Shukumi suspected that Raku might be deceiving Chitoge and dragging her into a false relationship. She even questioned whether Raku had hidden motives related to territory or power. At that moment, Raku realized that Shukumi was far more dangerous than she appeared. Shukumi could not understand what made Chitoge fall for someone like Raku. And even if Chitoge was not being missiled, Shukumi did not want her to be drawn to someone she considered weak. She was simply too devoted to Chitoge to accept that. Shukumi believed that someone insignificant like Raku could never compare to her, and she was determined to take Chitoge away from him. She wanted to prove someday who truly deserved to be by Chitoge's side. At first, Raku did not care much, since he claimed that he did not like Chitoge at all. However, he knew he could not allow Shukumi to take Chitoge away, because it could trigger a major conflict. Raku stated firmly that he was the one who belonged beside Chitoge, and that he would not let Shukumi take her away from him. Unbeknownst to him, Chitoge overheard everything. Her face turned red as she listened to Raku's unexpectedly bold words. Raku himself could not believe that he had said something so embarrassing. Shukumi began to give off an intimidating presence, and sensing that things were getting out of hand, Chitoge rushed over to stop the confrontation. She asked Shukumi and Raku to get along peacefully. Shukumi refused to back down and asked whether Chitoge still remembered the promise they had made 10 years ago. Shukumi tried to become stronger so she could protect Chitoge. She went through countless intense training sessions and difficult challenges to sharpen her skills and push her limits. She trained so hard that she sometimes ended up injured, yet in reality it was someone as physically weak as Raku who stayed by Chitoge's side. Shukumi could not accept that fact, especially because Chitoge was the daughter of the powerful Beehive Mafia family. Feeling conflicted and frustrated, Shukumi wanted to test Raku's worth. She decided to challenge Raku to a duel. If Raku managed to defeat her, Shukumi would acknowledge him as Chitoge's boyfriend. However, if he failed, Shukumi planned to make his life extremely difficult. Raku was terrified and asked her to talk things through first, but Shukumi immediately told him to meet her after school in the school courtyard. She made it clear that running away would not be tolerated. Neither Raku nor Chitoge could stop Shukumi once she had made up her mind. Chitoge felt irritated that things had escalated this far, though she had expected it. Shukumi had no parents and had been taken in by Claude, who raised her with strict discipline and specialized training. Because of that background, Shukumi grew up with skills meant for dangerous assignments. Chitoge also recalled an incident from the past when Shukumi single-handedly dealt with people who had caused her trouble. Raku looked extremely uneasy. He wondered if explaining the situation about their relationship might stop Shukumi, but Shukumi was simply not the kind of person who could be talked out of something once she decided. Chitoge ended up blaming Raku for provoking Shukumi in the first place. Raku then realized that Shukumi had devoted nearly 10 years of her life to becoming strong solely to protect Chitoge. At first, Raku assumed Chitoge wanted Shukumi to win. However, Chitoge instead urged him not to lose because if he did, something truly bad could happen to both of them, especially after everything they had gone through to maintain their fake relationship. Raku realized once again that Chitoge did not really have a gentle or sweet side, which she immediately proved through her actions. With no other option left, Raku accepted that he had to face Shukumi. After classes ended, Raku went to the courtyard to meet her. Shukumi praised him for not running away. Raku was confused by the large crowd of students cheering Shukumi on. Unexpectedly, Shu had even organized bets among the students. Shukumi used a coin as a signal to start the match. When the coin hit the ground, Raku prepared himself, only to be overwhelmed by Shukumi's use of various training tools meant to immobilize him rather than seriously harm him. Raku was shocked and desperately dodged each attempt. Chitoge silently hoped that Raku would somehow win. Raku kept running through the school hallways, trying to avoid Shukumi's relentless pursuit. Shukumi grew irritated and demanded that Raku face her head-on. She believed that Raku was incapable of protecting Chitoge, and that only she was fit for that role. Raku thought that Shukumi completely misunderstood Chitoge. In his view, Chitoge was not the kind of person who would quietly sit back and be protected without having her own strength and will. Raku continued running and used benches and obstacles around him to slow Shukumi down. He believed Shukumi should act more maturely and pay closer attention to what Chitoge truly wanted. Shukumi was deeply offended by Raku's words and increased her speed to catch him. Raku panicked as he saw how furious she had become. With no time left to think, he jumped out of a window. Shukumi followed immediately, but Raku had planned his move carefully and landed in the swimming pool below. He believed that the water would give him the advantage. When students heard the splash, they rushed over in concern. Raku managed to pull Shukumi to the edge of the pool. He felt relieved that his plan had worked, as Shukumi had lost consciousness from exhaustion. Unsure what to do next and worried about what might happen as she woke up, Raku started shivering from the cold and decided to change his clothes. He brought Shukumi to the locker room so she would not be left unattended. As Raku tried to help her dry off and remove her soaked outer clothing in a non-intrusive way, Shukumi suddenly woke up, startling him. At that moment, Raku finally realized that Shukumi was actually a girl, something he had never noticed before because she always wore a male school uniform. Shukumi became visibly embarrassed, and Raku was left in disbelief. Suddenly, the voices of other students calling out for Raku echoed nearby. Panicking, Raku hurriedly stepped back and urged Shukumi to put her clothes back on herself. When Chitoge opened the locker room door moments later, she found no one inside, even though she was certain she had heard voices coming from there earlier. Raku and Shukumi were hiding inside a locker. Raku had no other choice because the situation outside had become critical. Their bodies were pressed close together in the tight space. Before long, some students who had already checked the girls' locker room began asking why Chitoge had told them to search there. Chitoge explained that Shukumi was actually a girl, and the students immediately reacted in shock upon hearing that. Shukumi had never expected that Raku thought she was a boy. She herself did not understand why she was always assumed to be male. Raku asked why Shukumi wore a boy's uniform, and she explained that it allowed her to move more easily and act faster whenever necessary. Raku apologized for only realizing the truth now and admitted that the duel earlier should not have happened in the first place. Shukumi felt miserable about losing to someone she considered beneath her, and she believed she could not face Chitoge in such a state. Her expression looked unusually sad and different from before, especially since Raku had only just realized that Shukumi was a girl. Being stuck in such a narrow space with their bodies so close made Raku's thoughts spiral, but he tried to calm himself and focus on thinking about Onodera instead. He became so flustered that he even struck his own face to snap himself back to reality. Shukumi then revealed that she had been an abandoned child and was adopted by Claude. The name Shukumi had been given to her by Claude, and for reasons she could not explain, Claude had believed she was a boy. Even after 10 years had passed, Claude still had not realized that Shukumi was actually a girl. Shukumi did not mind this misunderstanding, because her mission was to protect Chitoge. She had long since cast aside her femininity and trained herself to be strong enough to stand against any man. She could not imagine what she would do if she ever failed to protect Chitoge. Raku felt that this burden must have been incredibly heavy for Shukumi, especially since she was actually kind and gentle by nature. Shukumi's face turned red when Raku described her that way, particularly because no one had ever said such things about her before. Suddenly, Chitoge opened the locker. She was irritated and struck Raku in frustration. It was then that Chitoge realized Raku had also believed Shukumi was a boy. Chitoge asked about the duel earlier, and Shukumi immediately insisted that she had not truly lost. From the beginning, the duel had been meant to test whether Raku was capable of protecting Chitoge, so Shukumi considered the match invalid. She made it clear that she would not hesitate to threaten Raku if she felt he was unworthy, and she warned him to care for Chitoge sincerely. Shu arrived soon after and told Raku to write a letter of apology for using the swimming pool without permission. After Raku left, Shukumi admitted to Chitoge that she had been completely defeated. She also mentioned that Raku had told her Chitoge was not someone who simply sat quietly while being protected by others. Shukumi acknowledged that although many people worried about Chitoge, she herself was energetic, strong-willed, and truly unique. Even at that moment, Shukumi still wondered why everyone continued to mistake her for a boy. Chitoge then gave Shukumi a girl's uniform, and all the students were stunned when they saw her. Shukumi looked embarrassed by her appearance. Chitoge was confident that the outfit suited her and made her look cute, and she encouraged Shukumi to keep dressing that way since she was a girl. Shukumi responded that appearances did not matter to her, because she had come to protect Chitoge and to fulfill a promise she had made long ago. Chitoge had completely forgotten about that promise. She tried hard to remember, but nothing came to mind. Shukumi explained that the promise had been made when they first met as children, during a moment when they were spending time together at a bathing area with proper supervision. At that time, Shukumi had promised to become someone who would always protect Chitoge. Chitoge wondered why Shukumi still held on to that promise after all these years, but Shukumi considered it something incredibly precious. Chitoge praised Shukumi for being so dependable and cool for remembering a promise made 10 years earlier. Shukumi's face turned red again at the praise. Chitoge then tied a ribbon in Shukumi's hair so that no one would mistake her for a boy anymore. Shukumi thanked her, although she felt the ribbon was a little too feminine for her taste. When Raku later saw Shukumi, he complimented her and said she looked cute. Shukumi's face flushed red once more as she insisted that she was not cute. That evening, Shukumi quietly wondered whether it was possible that Chitoge had also forgotten the promise she made to her first love 10 years ago. One day, Shukumi was practicing assembling and handling a pistol with her eyes closed, while Claude deliberately tested her in order to monitor her skills. Shukumi completed the task quickly, convincing Claude that her abilities had not faded. Claude then asked for Shukumi's opinion about Raku, and whether Shukumi could deal with the situation efficiently. Shukumi admitted that she was not yet able to resolve it. Claude instructed that if Shukumi became completely certain that Raku and Chitoge were not truly dating, then Shukumi should take immediate action to remove Raku from Chitoge's life. Shukumi firmly stated that she would not hesitate to carry out her duty if necessary. She was convinced that Raku was not a good match for Chitoge. Shukumi's face turned red when she remembered Raku once calling her sweet. By that day, Shukumi had already been attending the same high school as Chitoge for 3 days. She introduced herself again to Ruri and Onodera, explaining that although her name sounded masculine, she was actually a girl. Shukumi apologized for not introducing herself earlier. Onodera admitted that she had been surprised because she initially thought Shukumi was a boy, while Ruri revealed that she had known the truth from the beginning. Not long after, Shu arrived and casually praised Chitoge's beauty. Shukumi immediately raised her guard because Shu was acting overly familiar with Chitoge. Chitoge reacted strongly and made it clear that Shu was also her friend. The male students felt relieved when they found out that Shukumi was female, and the female students in the class stopped cheering in admiration, although many of them continued to gather around Shukumi anyway. They clearly seemed to like her a lot. From Raku's point of view, Shukumi appeared capable of adapting to the environment. At first, Raku thought everything would return to normal after that, but Shukumi continued to keep a close watch on him. Over time, this made it increasingly difficult for him to get close to Chitoge. That afternoon, Raku informed Chitoge that their teacher had instructed them to buy food for the animals at school. Chitoge wondered why the two of them had to go, since deliveries were usually an option. Raku explained that there were several rare animals at their school, so the food had to be purchased directly from a nearby pet shop. Chitoge suggested that Raku go alone, but he refused because the supplies would be too heavy to carry by himself. Suddenly, Shukumi appeared from behind some plants and startled them. She offered to take Chitoge's place, saying that she could not allow Chitoge to do physically demanding work. Shukumi immediately set off to buy the animal feed, thinking that this would be a good opportunity to find out whether Raku was truly Chitoge's boyfriend or not. If Raku was only pretending to date Chitoge, Shukumi intended to confront him and put an end to the act. Before they left, Chitoge asked Shukumi to wait for a moment. It turned out that Chitoge had changed Shukumi's outfit into something more feminine. In the middle of the crowd, people kept staring at Shukumi, making her feel extremely embarrassed. Chitoge had intentionally altered Shukumi's appearance so she would not be mistaken for a boy, especially since Chitoge had also removed all of Shukumi's weapons. Shukumi felt deeply self-conscious about her feminine look as it drew so much attention. She wondered if she looked strange dressed like that. Raku commented that the outfit suited Shukumi well. Hearing Raku praise her caused Shukumi's face to flush red, and she reacted sharply because she thought he was teasing her. When they arrived at the pet shop, Shukumi was captivated by a very cute white dog. Raku admitted that Shukumi's feminine appearance made her seem different. Shukumi became irritated when she noticed Raku staring at her, and she lost her balance while wearing high heels. Seeing this, Raku immediately caught her before she fell. Shukumi scolded Raku for holding her so suddenly, and Raku sincerely apologized to her. On the way back, Shukumi's feet were badly scraped because of the high heels. When Raku noticed how severe the injuries were, he wondered why Shukumi had not said anything earlier. Shukumi believed that if she could not endure minor pain, she could not truly call herself Chitoge's bodyguard. Raku thought that enduring pain in silence was not a wise thing to do. With no other option, he carried Shukumi on his back. Shukumi was shocked and asked to be put down, insisting that she could walk on her own. Raku refused, saying that he could not simply leave her like that, and he asked her to stay quiet and let him help. Along the way, Shukumi wondered why Raku was willing to help her, even though she considered him an enemy. She also reflected on how Raku was kind to her and even complimented her. Raku asked how long Shukumi had been with Chitoge. Shukumi explained that she and Chitoge had been together since they were 5 years old, which meant 10 years ago. She shared a story about how Chitoge once met her first love and happily talked about it. Raku was confused because Chitoge had told him that she had never fallen in love before. Hearing this, Shukumi laughed and assumed that Chitoge did not fully trust Raku. Raku then asked about Shukumi's own first love. Shukumi admitted that she had never experienced such feelings. She believed that she would never fall in love because her mission was to serve Princess Chitoge, and that alone brought her happiness. She felt that she had already set aside her femininity, and for her, seeing Princess Chitoge happy was more than enough. Raku thought that if Shukumi showed loyalty to someone the way she was loyal to Chitoge, then one day someone would surely fall in love with her. He concluded that Shukumi's first love simply had not appeared yet, and he found himself curious about what Shukumi's expression would look like when that moment finally came. When Raku glanced back, he noticed Shukumi's face turning red. Shukumi dismissed his thoughts and told him that he was acting as if he knew everything. Later that night, Shukumi returned to training with Claude. When Claude suddenly asked about Raku, Shukumi's concentration instantly fell apart, and she apologized to him. Claude then asked whether there was anything unusual about Raku. Shukumi admitted that she had not found anything strange about him so far. Claude reminded her to stay focused and continue her mission. Around that time, Shukumi began to feel that something inside her did not feel quite right. The next day at school, Shukumi kept following Chitoge as usual. Chitoge scolded her and told her to stop following her everywhere, but Shukumi explained that her duty was to always stay close to Chitoge and protect her. Shukumi genuinely felt happy whenever she was with Chitoge. Not long after that, Raku arrived, and Chitoge immediately greeted him warmly. Unexpectedly, Shukumi became extremely nervous the moment she saw Raku. She asked him not to look in her direction, not to touch her, and not to talk to her. Raku was surprised and could not believe that Shukumi seemed to dislike him that much. Shukumi then urged Chitoge to leave right away. As Raku tried to help by brushing some dust off Shukumi's shoulder, Shukumi was startled and panicked, moving away in a flustered manner. Raku and Chitoge were both confused and had no idea what was going on with her. At that moment, Shukumi finally realized that something truly strange was happening to her. Shukumi later explained everything to Chitoge. She said that she was experiencing physical changes that only appeared in certain situations, something she had never felt before. Chitoge asked what kind of changes Shukumi meant. Shukumi admitted that her heart would race around a certain person, her chest would feel tight, her face would grow warm, and when that person was nearby, she could not speak properly. Chitoge suspected that Shukumi might be dealing with a serious illness and suggested that she get checked at a hospital. Shukumi refused, because she felt that what she was experiencing did not seem medical in nature. Even though these strange sensations kept happening, Shukumi felt oddly happy and could not understand why. She was confused about why her thoughts kept circling around one person, especially since she believed those feelings could interfere with her mission. Shukumi decided to ask Claude about it, but Claude admitted that he had never heard of such symptoms before. He suggested that Shukumi consult professionals and reminded her to take care of herself, stay alert, and remain healthy while carrying out her mission. Still searching for answers, Shukumi asked Shu about her condition. Shu immediately guessed that Shukumi was talking about Raku, then laughed at her, which irritated Shukumi. She continued asking other friends, including Kyoko, but the answers she received were vague and unhelpful. Eventually, Shukumi went to see Onodera and Ruri and asked them directly. Onodera guessed that Shukumi might be in love. Shukumi's face turned red, and she reacted strongly, insisting that it was impossible and that she would never experience love. Ruri then mentioned that Onodera herself was going through the same thing. Shukumi became curious about the person Onodera liked. Ruri almost revealed it, but Onodera quickly stopped her. Even though Shukumi continued to deny the feelings growing inside her, her thoughts kept drifting back to Raku. She realized that Raku was Chitoge's boyfriend, and as Chitoge's protector, she believed she should never have feelings for him. Shukumi tried desperately to push those feelings away, growing increasingly frustrated with herself. Her inner turmoil drew the attention of nearby students. Raku noticed her distress and asked what was wrong. Startled by his sudden presence, Shukumi reacted reflexively and pushed him away before quickly leaving the area. Raku was left confused, unable to understand why Shukumi acted that way. Shukumi later sat alone on a park bench, feeling exhausted and unsure of how she could properly protect Chitoge while feeling so conflicted. She felt completely lost. Chitoge came over and brought her a drink, then asked whether Shukumi had gained any clarity. Shukumi mentioned that people kept saying she was in love. Chitoge said that idea made sense, because Shukumi's symptoms matched what people often experienced when they fell in love. Shukumi asked whether Chitoge felt the same way. Chitoge admitted that she had never really felt what falling in love was like. Shukumi found that strange and pointed out that Chitoge had a boyfriend. Chitoge quickly corrected herself, surprised at how careless she had been with her words. Shukumi then brought up Chitoge's first love from 10 years ago. At first, Chitoge did not understand what Shukumi meant. Moments later, she suddenly realized what Shukumi was referring to and wondered why she had forgotten about it for so long. Shukumi laughed and mentioned that Chitoge used to sneak out of the house back then to meet a boy. Chitoge was certain that the boy was the one who had made a promise with her 10 years ago, but she could not remember what that promise was. She also admitted that she could not recall his face or even his name. Shukumi could not remember him clearly either, but she remembered how deeply and romantically Chitoge had fallen in love at the time, believing that Chitoge had loved him with all her heart. Chitoge looked extremely embarrassed and admitted that she truly did like that boy back then. After that, Chitoge suggested that they return to discussing the strange symptoms Shukumi was experiencing. Shukumi shared a story about the first time her heart started pounding when someone was close to her. Right at that moment, Raku suddenly appeared nearby and casually mentioned that what she was feeling sounded like a sign of falling in love. Shukumi was caught completely off guard and reacted on instinct, aggressively aiming her weapon toward Raku before anyone could stop her. The situation quickly settled down, but it left Chitoge lost in thought, wondering whether she herself had ever felt the same kind of feeling in the past. Chitoge was convinced that the boy from back then probably did not remember anything about the promise they once made. Still, she could not ignore the fact that Raku continued to hold on to a promise from 10 years ago. Driven by curiosity, Shitoge tried to look for an object or keepsake that might help her remember. She opened her closet, which was filled with all kinds of belongings, and eventually came across an old diary. She found it strange that the diary was written in Japanese and began to wonder if she had once lived in Japan. She slowly flipped through the pages. An entry dated July 30 said that Chitoge could hardly wait for the next day so she could play again with the boy who was her first love. Another entry on August 2 described something frightening that happened while she was playing on a mountain slope. A large dog suddenly rushed toward her, and she twisted her ankle, leaving her unable to run. Fortunately, the boy came to her rescue, and she remembered feeling incredibly relieved and happy afterward. At that moment, Shitoge clearly recalled being attacked by a stray dog on the mountain and how the boy had ended up with a scrape on his forehead. Back then, she stayed by his side the entire time, waiting for him to recover. The entry from August 5 mentioned that the boy still had a scar, but his condition had improved, and they promised to go out and play together again. On August 9, Shitoge wrote about spending another joyful day playing with him, feeling truly happy. The August 12 entry described them playing by the river and catching a big fish together. Then, on August 15, Shitoge slipped between some rocks, but once again, the boy rushed over to help her. He always showed up whenever Chitoge cried. On August 18, she wrote about how happy she was simply because she got to spend the day playing with him. Reading all of this, Chitoge was surprised by just how happy she had been during that time. She had always believed she had never experienced love, yet it turned out she had felt it when she was still a child. This realization made her even more curious about what kind of boy he had been. On August 21, she had even written that she would be willing to marry him someday. That diary also contained an entry about the day they had to part ways. The day before Chitoge left for America, she met the boy and made a promise with him. Unfortunately, there was no record explaining what that promise actually was. Chitoge felt frustrated with herself for not writing down something so important. Just then, a small key slipped out from between the pages of the diary and fell to the floor, leaving her completely stunned. A key slipped out from inside Chitoge's diary, and she started wondering whether it might be connected to that promise from long ago. She opened her bedroom window, only to find Shukumi already there. Shukumi asked if something was wrong since Chitoge had not eaten anything all day. Chitoge admitted that she had forgotten, and then asked whether Shukumi knew the place where she had once met her first love. Shukumi said she was willing to investigate that location. Chitoge asked her to prepare transportation for the next day because she wanted to look around that place. Chitoge assumed that the next day was Saturday and that school would be off, but she had completely forgotten that it was actually the day of the school field trip. Chitoge really wanted to find answers about that promise, but she could not bring herself to skip such a fun school event. Not long after that, Kyoko arrived and told all the students to gather with their assigned groups because they would soon be boarding the bus. Raku noticed that Chitoge looked confused and asked which group she was in. He then realized that Chitoge must have fallen asleep the day before during the group assignments. Each group consisted of 6 students. Raku's group included Shukumi, Chitoge, Raku himself, Onodera, Ruri, and Shu. At the time, Raku and everyone else in the group except Shu were seated in the back row of the bus. Raku ended up sitting in the middle, squeezed tightly between others, and he was convinced that Shu had planned it on purpose. All the male students stared at Raku with obvious jealousy because he was sitting right next to several beautiful girls. Raku's heart was pounding because his shoulder kept pressing against Onodera's, and he worried that she might hear how fast his heart was beating. Meanwhile, Onodera's face turned red as well, and she worried that Raku might notice her own racing heartbeat. Ruri looked for opportunities to nudge Onodera closer to Raku whenever the bus went around a corner, causing their bodies to press together. Onodera scolded Ruri for pushing her on purpose. Shukumi pointed out that Raku was overreacting because he kept leaning too close to Chitoge. When Ruri pushed Onodera again, Raku lost his balance and nearly fell over. Shukumi quickly stepped in and firmly stopped things before anyone got hurt. The same kind of chaos happened at every turn along the road, repeating dozens of times throughout the trip. Once they arrived at the field trip location, Shu proudly asked whether the bus seating arrangement he planned had been exciting. Raku admitted that the plan had been effective, even though he was clearly exhausted by it. Onodera hoped that she had not caused Raku any trouble, while she lightly scolded Ruri for earlier antics that had left her feeling embarrassed. Kyoko then arrived and explained that the students' task for the day was to cook rice and make curry. Shukumi asked Onodera and Ruri to gather firewood. Chitoge was extremely excited because it was her first time staying overnight on a school field trip. Although she still wanted answers about her first love, she decided to focus on enjoying herself for now. Raku noticed how genuinely happy Chitoge looked as she took in the experience. Even so, Shidoge could not stop thinking about the boy who had made that promise with her 10 years ago. She was certain that he had a scar on his forehead, and that detail felt like her only clue. At the same time, Raku was also thinking about the person who had made a promise with him in the past, and he still did not understand the purpose of Onodera's key. Shidoge returned carrying hot water, but she tripped and accidentally spilled it onto Raku's head. She quickly apologized. Raku looked annoyed and reminded her to be more careful. As Raku brushed his hair aside, Shidoge froze when she noticed a scar on his forehead that looked exactly like the one she remembered from her childhood. She asked about it, and Raku explained that he had had the scar since he was little, although he could not remember how he got it. He guessed that it might have been caused by one of his old pets. Shidoge immediately thought of the boy who had once saved her from a dangerous dog. She was not fully convinced that Raku was that boy, but she also noticed that he carried a key-shaped pendant, just like the one tied to the promise from 10 years ago. Raku asked why Shidoge suddenly seemed so distracted. Shidoge brushed it off and hurried away. Raku was completely puzzled by her behavior. Meanwhile, Shidoge convinced herself that Raku could not be connected to her childhood memories. After finishing their tasks, Raku and his friends went into their lodging rooms. They were thrilled to see how spacious the accommodations were. Shu became overly emotional when he noticed that a sliding door separated the boys' and girls' rooms, joking that it almost felt like they were all staying in one room. Ruri immediately told Shu that he could sleep on the porch or in the hallway instead. Raku's face turned red when he realized that he would be sharing a room with Onodera, and just imagining it made him nervous. Onodera mentioned that the hotel had a hot spring bath, and invited everyone to go together later. Raku became flustered the moment he heard that. Shidoge could not wait to try the hot spring, while Shugumi looked uneasy since she was not used to bathing with a large group. Raku reflected that Shidoge had been acting strangely earlier, but he concluded that he was probably just worrying too much. Shu suggested playing card games together and proposed adding penalties to make things more exciting. At first, his ideas crossed the line, so Ruri immediately shut him down. In the end, Shu suggested that the penalty should be sharing innocent stories about first crushes, and Ruri agreed. Raku and the others were shocked and suddenly very tense. Talking about first love made everyone nervous, and they all became determined not to lose the game. As soon as the game began, Raku commented that Shidoge looked pale, but she insisted that she was fine. Raku thought that this probably was not the right moment to worry about other people. Onodera's face lit up with excitement when she drew her card, and Raku was convinced that she must have picked up the Joker. When it was Raku's turn to take a card from Onodera's hand, her expression kept changing every time his fingers brushed against the cards. Raku admitted to himself that Onodera's expression looked incredibly sweet. Because of that, he was able to guess which card in Onodera's hand was the Joker. After that, it was Chiyoge's turn to draw a card from Raku's hand. She showed an adorable expression while choosing, and Raku felt sure that she did not want to lose. He suggested that she should probably keep a straight face instead. The game continued until only Raku and Chiyoge were left for the final round. Everyone else who had already finished felt relieved that they had avoided the punishment. Raku could tell where the Joker was just by looking at Chiyoge's expressions. He felt annoyed, because even though he knew he would win, he somehow ended up looking cowardly. When Chiyoge took a card for her turn, Hyoko suddenly showed up and scolded them for not leaving the room. At that moment, Chiyoge ended up drawing the Joker and lost, but thankfully the punishment was ultimately not carried out. The students then enjoyed their meal together. After they finished eating, Shu invited Raku to go take a bath, but Raku was convinced that Shu was really trying to drag him along to sneak a look at the girls. Shu denied it, explaining that the bathing times for boys and girls were different. Not long after that, Kyoko informed them that there was a phone call for Raku. Without any suspicion, Raku immediately walked to the front desk to answer it. At the same time, Claude followed behind Raku, and Chiyoge noticed him. She became curious about what Claude was doing there and hoped that he would not cause any trouble. Onodera then called out to Chiyoge, inviting her to go take a bath together. When Raku arrived at the front desk, it turned out that there was no call for him. He then headed toward the men's bath, but Claude secretly switched the curtain signs so that it became the women's bath instead. Claude did this on purpose to mess with Raku. Raku found it strange that the bath area was so quiet and thought that maybe he was the last one to use it. While soaking, he casually thought about how interesting it might be to hear about Onodera's first love someday. Suddenly, someone jumped into the pool, startling him. Raku reacted in surprise, only to realize that it was actually Chiyoge. They stared at each other, both equally shocked. Chiyoge scolded Raku for being in the women's bath, while Raku was convinced that he had entered the correct place. Chiyoge quickly realized that this must have been Claude's doing. Raku could not understand how Claude had even managed to come along to the inn. Shidoge forgave Raku for the incident, knowing that it was all Claude's fault, and urged him to leave right away before anyone else arrived. She tried to keep him from staring and hurried him along. Unfortunately, before Raku could get away, Onodera and the others showed up. Shukumi looked extremely nervous, and Ruri quickly reacted in a panic. Just as Raku was about to move, Onodera ended up facing his direction. Meanwhile, Claude confidently believed that his plan had succeeded and that Raku would be labeled as a serious troublemaker. Fortunately, Shidoge stepped in and helped hide Raku from the others. Onodera briefly asked if anyone else was in the bath, but Shidoge denied it. Raku was genuinely surprised that Shidoge would go so far to help him. She did it because Raku was her boyfriend and Shukumi was also there. If he had been discovered, Raku could have gained a terrible reputation, and they would have been mocked by their classmates for years. Shidoge urged Raku to quickly think of an escape route. He could not leave through the main entrance because Onodera and the others were there, and the fence was far too high to climb. Raku then hurried toward a staff-only exit. Meanwhile, Onodera, Shukumi, and Ruri were rinsing off in the wash area. Shukumi became flustered because she was not used to the situation, and her reactions drew attention. At the same time, Shu and the other boys were lingering nearby, reacting to the commotion and wondering why Raku was taking so long to join them. Raku continued struggling to reach the staff door. When Shukumi and the others came out, Shidoge deliberately distracted them. Raku felt deeply grateful for Shidoge's help. Unfortunately, just as he was about to slip through the door, Hyoko and other students arrived instead. In the end, Raku decided that the safest option was to stay hidden until everyone had finished bathing. While that was happening, Kyoko and the other students chatted casually and complimented Shukumi, making her even more embarrassed by the attention. Shu and the others reacted loudly to Shukumi's nervous outbursts, joking among themselves and thinking that Raku was missing out by not being there with them. After hearing something strange, Shukumi immediately threw a bottle of soap toward Raku. Fortunately, Raku quickly hid himself at the bottom of the pool. He was extremely worried because if he were discovered, he could end up being expelled from high school. Shidoge tried to help by shielding Raku with her body, but suddenly two of her friends approached and invited her to chat. They were curious about how far Raku and Shidoge's relationship had gone. At that moment, Raku found himself pressed closely against Shidoge due to the tight space. Shidoge suggested that it would be better to talk about Shukumi's first love instead, and the two girls quickly moved closer to Shukumi. Seeing this, Raku realized that he might have a chance to escape. Suddenly, he noticed a hole at the bottom of the pool. He quietly informed Shidoge about the hole and prepared himself to enter what he suspected was a passage connected to another pool. At the same time, Shukumi asked everyone to discuss Onodera's first love instead. Hearing that topic made Raku curious, and he wanted to listen. Shidoge became confused about why Raku did not immediately move toward the hole. Raku did want to know who Onodera's first love was, but his main priority was still getting out of that place safely. Unexpectedly, Onodera shifted her position, and her body ended up blocking the hole. That moment had been Raku's last chance, but it was now completely obstructed. Seeing this, Shidoge quickly grabbed Onodera's hand to move her aside. However, she suddenly lost her balance and fell toward Raku. Onodera felt something soft in the water, but Shidoge believed it was only Onodera's imagination. Shidoge then pushed Raku forward so he could quickly enter the hole. Suddenly, Shidoge herself was pulled slightly underwater, and she accidentally caught a glimpse of Raku in an awkward situation. Both Shidoge and Raku were shocked, and Raku immediately swam into the hole to escape. Later, sounds could be heard from the girls' bathing area. Shu was caught trying to listen in, but everyone was suddenly startled when Raku unexpectedly emerged from the water. Shu asked what Raku was doing there, and Raku explained that he had just finished practicing holding his breath underwater. Shu invited Raku to join him, but Raku refused because he felt completely exhausted. After bathing, Raku immediately went to find Shidoge to apologize. Shidoge could not understand why Raku had acted so foolishly earlier. Raku asked her not to bring it up again, explaining that he was the one who had suffered the most from the situation. Shidoge then asked what Raku had seen. She was upset at the thought that Raku might have seen her without clothes, but Raku denied it, explaining that the steam had been too thick for him to see anything clearly. Shidoge then asked one last question that Raku did not understand. With her face turning red, Shidoge quickly walked away. That night, Kyoko instructed all the students to go to sleep early because they would be heading to the mountains the next morning. Before going to bed, Ruri warned Shu and Raku not to open the connecting door between their rooms. Shu promised that he would not do it. Once the lights were turned off, Shu tried to persuade Raku to open the connecting door, but Raku refused again because he was too tired. Shu decided to open the door by himself, only to find Ruri standing right on the other side. She immediately reacted and stopped him forcefully. As a result, that night both Shu and Raku were made to hang outside their room as punishment. The next morning after the incident at the women's bath, the students gathered together for breakfast. Raku accidentally ran into Chitoge while picking up his meal. As soon as he saw Chitoge's face, his mind involuntarily drifted back to inappropriate memories from the night before, which made him feel uncomfortable with himself. However, Chitoge acted as if everything was completely normal. Shu wondered whether Raku and Chitoge were having an argument. Raku felt confused about why Chitoge seemed so relaxed, as if nothing had happened the previous night, and he started to think that maybe he was the only one overthinking the situation. Meanwhile, Chitoge questioned why her heart was beating so fast, and she quickly finished her breakfast on her own. Shu then told Raku that the annual courage test would be held that night. Not only that, but the male and female students would be paired by lottery. The most important rule of the courage test was that each pair had to hold hands no matter what obstacles they faced. Shu was extremely excited about the event, and thought it would be great if Raku ended up paired with Onodera. Shu even claimed that he could get the same lottery number as Onodera, and asked whether Raku was interested in buying the lottery so he could be paired with her. Raku admitted that he was willing to pay 2,000 yen for that chance. At the same time, Ruri encouraged Onodera to aim to be paired with Raku. Onodera felt confused, since the pairs were supposed to be decided by lottery. Ruri urged her to strengthen her resolve, believing that nothing would change if Onodera did not take the first step. Ruri even offered to give her own lottery slip to Onodera if she happened to draw the same number as Raku. Ruri boldly suggested that if Onodera were paired with Raku, she should be more assertive and honest about her feelings in the darkness. Onodera was shocked by Ruri's words, and did not even know what she should do if she really ended up paired with Raku. When Onodera saw Raku getting a drink, she gathered her courage and greeted him. Raku was startled when he heard Onodera's voice, and his face turned red as memories from the previous night crossed his mind again. Onodera wondered why Raku looked so nervous. Raku quickly moved away from her, unable to look her in the eye after what had happened the night before. Onodera never expected Raku to avoid her like that. That night, Hyoko announced that the annual courage test would begin. The students were filled with excitement as they looked forward to the event. The teachers planned to relax that evening so they would not interfere with the students' activities. The lottery drawing began soon after. Raku noticed that Chitoge was afraid of the dark, and warned her not to cling to him no matter what happened. Chitoge believed she could overcome her fear. Raku felt sorry for whoever ended up paired with her, imagining how tight her grip might be when she got scared. The female students drew their lottery slips first, their hearts pounding as they unfolded the papers. After that, it was the male student's turn. Raku felt as if this moment would decide his fate, and he was desperate to know what number Onodera had drawn. Suddenly, Ruri announced that Onodera had drawn number 12, which made Onodera extremely embarrassed. Hearing that, Raku did everything he could to draw the same number. When it was his turn, he carefully shuffled through the slips, searching for number 12. Sure enough, Raku drew number 12. He was overjoyed, and Onodera could hardly believe that she would be paired with him. Meanwhile, Shukumi took on a male role due to a shortage of male participants and was paired with Ruri. Shu was paired with Chitoge and was more than willing to support her if she got scared. Raku, on the other hand, could barely believe his good luck. His eyes sparkled when he saw Onodera walking toward him, but once again his thoughts betrayed him and he became flustered. His face turned red and he found himself unable to look directly at her. Onodera asked whether Raku was uncomfortable being paired with her since he had seemed to avoid her earlier that morning. Raku explained that he had been nervous because they had stayed in the same room the night before. Hearing this, Onodera felt relieved, as she had worried that Raku might dislike her. Her gentle expression made Raku like her even more, and he felt that the day could not have gone any better. Raku made it clear that there was no way he could ever dislike Onodera. Meanwhile, Chitoge wondered why Raku looked so shy despite being paired with Onodera. She heard voices from students playing the role of ghosts behind some bushes and went over to check on them. It turned out that one of the ghost actors had a stomachache, and they had not found a suitable replacement yet. Chitoge initially tried to step away, thinking she would not be able to help, especially since she was afraid of the dark. However, no one else was willing to take the role, since all the students had already been assigned their pairs. The organizers were worried that without enough ghost actors, the event would be delayed and less exciting. Hearing their concerns, Chitoge decided to help and quickly put on a costume. She wondered whether she could really handle it, but the others thanked her and prepared for the courage test. Equipped with a flashlight, Chitoge headed to her assigned location. At the same time, Shu found himself confused as he searched for Chitoge. Chitoge walked toward the spot where she was supposed to scare other students, believing that nothing bad would happen as long as there was some light nearby. She never expected that she would end up handling the task alone, since the other ghost actors had scattered to different areas. Chitoge genuinely felt terrified, especially because the place was dark, silent, and filled with unsettling sounds. She was extremely frightened, yet she tried hard to calm herself down. To make things worse, her flashlight refused to turn on. No matter how many times she pressed the button, it simply would not light up. Chitoge kept trying to fight her fear, but when a small lizard suddenly crawled across her foot, she was startled beyond control. She panicked completely, overwhelmed by her bad luck, and wondered whether anyone would come to help her. At that moment, Raku's face unexpectedly crossed her mind. Chitoge felt completely helpless in her fear, unable to do anything but endure it. Unbeknownst to her, the teachers had deliberately asked Chitoge to cover their duties while they relaxed elsewhere, leaving her alone with the responsibility. Meanwhile, Shukumi and Ruri began walking through the forest, while Shu was still confused after being left behind by Chitoge. At the same time, Raku asked Onodera not to misunderstand his situation. Before long, it was time for pair number 12 to start their walk. Raku invited Onodera to go with him, and the two of them shyly held hands as they moved forward. Both of their hearts were pounding rapidly. Raku could feel how soft and warm Onodera's hand was, and he knew she was extremely nervous. At the same time, Chitoge was trembling in fear elsewhere. Raku's face turned red from embarrassment, and he felt incredibly tense, convinced that a moment like this would never come again. He tried to steady himself and gather his courage. His hand was sweating heavily, and he worried that Onodera might feel uncomfortable because of it. Raku could barely contain his nervousness when he suddenly noticed that Onodera's face was deeply flushed. He began to wonder whether her heart was also racing because she was holding his hand. Suddenly, Shu appeared and called out to him, disrupting the moment. Raku felt annoyed that the atmosphere had been ruined. Shu had come to ask about Chitoge's whereabouts, unable to understand why she had suddenly disappeared. One of their friends mentioned seeing Chitoge enter the forest while wearing a ghost costume. She had taken over for another ghost actor who was not feeling well. Raku found it strange, knowing that Chitoge was extremely afraid of the dark, yet she had still volunteered to help. Soon after, Ada-chan, who was also acting as a ghost, could be heard searching for Chitoge. She explained that she had asked Chitoge to fill in, but had forgotten to replace the batteries in Chitoge's flashlight. She assumed Chitoge would return once she realized the flashlight was not working. The forest was pitch black without a flashlight, but everyone believed that Chitoge would manage. Ada-chan apologized to Raku and reassured him that the forest was not very large and that there were no dangerous animals. The others teased Raku, encouraging him to go check on Chitoge in her ghost costume. Raku and Onodera immediately headed into the forest together. Raku kept thinking about Chitoge's condition, though he tried to believe she would be fine since she had chosen to take on the role herself. However, remembering how frightened she was of the dark, Raku decided he needed to help her. He gently let go of Onodera's hand and apologized, leaving her to continue on her own. Raku then ran as fast as he could into the deep, dark forest. Meanwhile, Chitoge was trying to calm herself by counting sheep in her head. Even so, her fear of the darkness would not fade. She desperately wanted to go home. Her body continued to shake, and she felt weak all over. Chitoge slowly realized that she had experienced a similar moment long ago, back when she was still a child. Meanwhile, Shukumi was extremely frightened when she came face to face with a fake ghost. She clung tightly to Ruri, while Ruri tried to calm her down, but Shukumi truly could not hide her fear. All of a sudden, Raku ran past them without either of them noticing. In the dark and silent forest, Chitoge was reminded of a time long ago when she had fallen into the gaps between large rocks. Back then, young Chitoge had been so scared that she could only cry. There was nothing she could do except cry and hope that she would somehow get out. After that, a boy appeared. That boy always showed up whenever she was in trouble. Suddenly, Chitoge flinched when she heard the sound of bushes moving. She quickly turned toward the source of the noise, and her mind drifted back to an entry in her old diary. On August 15, 10 years earlier, she had been careless and fallen between rocks. She had cried because the space was extremely narrow and dark. Then the boy came and saved her. That boy always appeared whenever Chitoge cried. Unexpectedly, Raku came over to her and mentioned that ghosts were not supposed to cry. Chitoge felt deeply moved when she saw him arrive. They then walked together, and Raku checked to make sure that Chitoge was alright. He suggested that she should not push herself too hard, especially since she was easily frightened, yet still forced herself to play the role of a ghost. Chitoge explained that she felt bad seeing the other ghost actors struggling, but Raku pointed out that her actions had made everyone worry. He reminded her that she should think carefully before doing something like that. Chitoge asked whether Raku had been worried about her as well. Raku admitted that he had not been overly worried. As they continued walking through the forest, Raku asked if Chitoge was tired and even offered to take a short break. Out of nowhere, Chitoge asked Raku to call her by her given name, since he had always been calling her by her family name. Raku was surprised and wondered if Chitoge had a fever, thinking that she was saying strange things. Chitoge explained that the night before, her friends had commented on how she and Raku were still calling each other by their family names even though they were dating. According to her, in order to avoid suspicion about their relationship, Raku should start calling her by her given name. Raku felt confused, since Chitoge rarely talked about something like that. In the end, Raku went along with what Chitoge wanted and tried calling her by her given name. Chitoge responded warmly and also called Raku by his given name. Their faces turned red when they looked at each other, and they both quickly looked away out of embarrassment. Eventually, they got lost while trying to find their way back, but they managed to return just as the courage test came to an end. Raku ended up missing his chance to spend time alone with Onodera. As soon as Shukumi saw Chitoge return, she shouted her name in relief. Shukumi immediately hugged Chitoge and apologized, saying that she should not have let that happen to her. Not long after, Onodera came over to Raku. She had been told by Shukumi that Raku had gone to look for Chitoge. Raku sincerely apologized to Onodera, even though he had promised to come back quickly. Onodera understood, since what mattered most was that Chitoge was safe. Raku could hardly believe that he had missed such a golden opportunity to be alone with Onodera during the courage test, but he felt relieved that Onodera was willing to forgive him. Shukumi then asked Chitoge what they planned to do during the 2-day break. Shukumi suggested that they should prepare to visit the place where Chitoge had met her first love, especially since school would be closed for 2 days starting the next day. Meanwhile, Shu deliberately teased Raku for missing his perfect chance to spend time alone with Onodera. Chitoge did not seem very interested in going to the place where she had met her first love. She asked Shukumi not to rush her into going there, explaining that she did not really feel like visiting it at that moment. Instead, Chitoge looked happier as she gazed at the beauty of the night sky. One day at school, Raku felt incredibly excited when he saw Onodera standing in front of him. He immediately walked toward her, and just as Raku was about to touch Onodera's shoulder, Chitoge suddenly called out to him. Chitoge asked where she was supposed to put the journal. Raku looked annoyed because he felt that Chitoge had interrupted his chance to talk with Onodera. Raku explained that the journal needed to be placed in the science room, just like the teacher had said earlier. He also reminded Chitoge not to accidentally enter the wrong room again. Onodera was surprised to hear Raku calling Chitoge by her real name. Raku explained that he and Chitoge had agreed to call each other by their first names. He admitted that he was still not used to it, even though they had been dating for quite a while. Raku wondered why it was so difficult for him to act naturally as Chitoge's boyfriend in front of Onodera. Ruri immediately nudged Onodera in the stomach and commented that Chitoge was already one step ahead of her. Ruri suggested that Onodera should also start calling Raku by his first name, but Onodera felt hesitant about doing so. Not long after that, Shukumi came over and asked Raku about Chitoge. Raku mentioned that his girlfriend had gone to the science room. Shukumi explained that she wanted to talk about something with everyone without Chitoge knowing. Shukumi then revealed that it was Chitoge's birthday, and that she wanted to prepare a surprise birthday party for her. She invited Raku and the others to the surprise party, believing that Chitoge would be extremely happy if her friend showed up. Everyone was willing to attend, and Raku suggested that they buy a present. According to Shukumi, Raku was a special case since he was Chitoge's boyfriend, which meant she had no choice but to invite him. Shukumi looked nervous and admitted that inviting Raku was not because she wanted to see his face. Raku responded that he was willing not to come if Shukumi truly did not want him there, but Shukumi immediately shouted at him and told him to come anyway. Ruri then asked Raku and Onodera to go shopping for the gift together after school. Both Ruri and Raku were surprised, and Raku asked why Ruri was not joining them. Ruri claimed that she had a stomachache and could not go with them. She said it would be faster if only Raku and Onodera chose the gift. Raku begged Ruri to come along, but she refused. To make things even stranger, Ruri told them to meet at a cafe at 5 in the evening and asked them to wear casual clothes. Raku and Onodera were genuinely confused. especially since Ruri was not even coming, but was the one giving all the instructions. That afternoon, Raku arrived at the cafe first. He felt very nervous about meeting Onodera. He still could not believe how forceful Ruri had been and could not understand what she was thinking. Inside the cafe, there were many couples on dates. Raku felt that if he and Onodera met in a place like that, it would look exactly like they were on a date. He then realized that aside from the fake date in the past, that day might actually be his first real date with Onodera. He wondered whether buying a gift together could really be considered a date. Raku also found it strange that Onodera had not arrived yet. Soon after, he noticed Onodera outside the cafe. She looked confused as she searched for Raku, since he had not told her that he was already inside. While looking at the cafe window as if checking her reflection, she even smiled, but her face suddenly turned red when she realized that Raku was right behind the glass. Onodera quickly entered the cafe, unable to show her face to Raku. She then suggested that they discuss what kind of gift they should buy. Seeing how unusual her behavior was, Raku realized that Onodera was probably pretending that nothing had happened earlier. Raku found Onodera's face incredibly sweet. When the cafe staff came over, Onodera quickly ordered a coffee. She looked very cute in her casual outfit, but she was clearly nervous because she kept wondering whether Raku had seen her earlier. At that moment, Raku thought about whether people around them might see them as a couple on a date. Raku was actually curious about the boy who had made a promise with Onodera 10 years ago, as Ruri had mentioned, but he felt that it was not the right time to ask about it. Onodera asked what kind of gift might make Chitoge happy. At that moment, Raku instead found himself thinking about when Onodera's birthday was and how he might want to buy her a birthday present someday. Onodera then suggested that they check nearby shops so they could find something more quickly. Raku wanted to ask about Onodera's birthday, but he did not have the courage to bring it up yet. Before long, they found the gift they were looking for. Raku felt like a coward for not being able to ask what he truly wanted to know, and he realized that their time together was about to end. Seeing Raku fall silent, Onodera asked whether he was happy going shopping with her. She worried that Raku might not have enjoyed it, especially since he had come along because Ruri pushed him to do so. Raku denied that idea and explained that he truly enjoyed spending time with Onodera. Hearing that made Onodera feel relieved. She then asked Raku to take a short walk with her. They walked along the road together, passing through a narrow street, and before long they arrived at a spot where the entire city view could be seen clearly. Raku instantly fell in love with the place. He never imagined that there could be a roadside location with such a beautiful view. He was sure that no one else knew about it. As it turned out, the place was Onodera's secret spot, which she had discovered by accident. Raku wondered whether it was really okay for Onodera to show her secret place to him. He asked whether Ruri also knew about it. Unexpectedly, Onodera said that she had not told anyone else and asked that the place remain a secret shared only between the two of them. Raku was surprised to hear that. Onodera admitted that she felt incredibly happy that day, and she considered sharing that secret place her way of thanking Raku. Raku felt genuinely happy to be seen as someone special by Onodera, and he promised that he would not tell anyone about the place. Onodera smiled sweetly while calling Raku by his real name. Raku fell silent as he looked at her smile, which reminded him of someone from his past. Onodera felt embarrassed for calling him by his real name, and at that moment, Raku began to wonder whether Onodera might be the girl who had made a promise with him 10 years earlier. Raku stayed quiet, which made Onodera think that maybe he did not like being called by his real name. Raku then gathered his courage to ask Onodera something, since the atmosphere felt just right. He hesitated, unsure whether it was appropriate to ask about her birthday and invite her to celebrate it together. Unfortunately, the words that came out of his mouth were not what he intended. Instead, he asked whether the girl who had made a promise with him 10 years ago was Onodera. Raku was shocked at himself for suddenly being so straightforward and emotional. He felt confused about how to explain himself, but to his surprise, Onodera admitted it. Raku's face turned red in disbelief when he realized that Onodera was the girl he had been searching for all this time. Onodera then showed him a key and explained that she had also been looking for the person who made that promise with her 10 years ago. The memory was vague in her mind, but she recalled that 10 years earlier, when she was 5 years old, she had befriended a boy. When they parted ways, the boy gave her a key. She could not remember his name or face, but she clearly remembered that the boy wore a pendant identical to the one Raku had. Raku never imagined that Onodera was the girl connected to the pendant promise. Onodera apologized for denying it in the past, explaining that she had been too shocked when Raku first asked her about it. Onodera explained that she had played with the boy during the summer back then. She had been very shy, and the boy was the one who invited her to play outside. For some reason she trusted him deeply, and she admitted that he could be considered her first love. Raku's face turned even redder upon hearing that. Onodera said that she had been extremely surprised the first time she saw Raku's pendant, which made her suspect that he might be the boy who made the promise with her 10 years ago. Raku finally understood why Onodera once said that even though it was just a childhood promise, she was sure that the person who made it truly cared about her. Onodera admitted that she had always hoped that the boy was Raku. Both of their hearts raced as Onodera slowly leaned closer to him, leaving Raku flustered and overwhelmed. Suddenly, the moment was interrupted by the sound of a phone ringing. Shukumi called Raku and asked him to come to the party immediately. In the end, Raku and Onodera stopped their conversation and hurried away. They got on the bus together, and throughout the ride, neither of them spoke. Raku kept thinking about whether the girl he had been searching for all this time was truly Onodera. There was an easy way to confirm it, which was by opening the pendant. Soon they arrived at Shidoge's house. Shu, Ruri, and Shukumi were already waiting in front of the gate. Shidoge's house was enormous, leaving everyone in awe. Ruri even became curious about what kind of job Shidoge's father had. Ruri worried that their gifts might not be good enough for Shidoge, but Shukumi reassured her that Shidoge was not the type of person who judged others based on the gifts they gave. Shukumi was puzzled as to why Shu had come along even though she had not invited him. Not long after, Shidoge arrived and was shocked to see her friends standing in front of her house. Shukumi explained that she had secretly invited everyone to Shidoge's birthday party. Shidoge was stunned and quickly pulled Raku inside. She panicked because she had never told her friends that her family was part of a mafia organization. Raku found it strange that Shidoge was still so bothered by something like that. Shidoge admitted that her family background had always troubled her, and that was the reason she had not had friends before. Raku then told everyone that Shidoge's family was essentially a mafia group, similar to the Yakuza in Japan. Onodera was surprised by the revelation, as she had always seen Shidoge as an amazing and extremely wealthy girl. Shidoge was shocked to hear Onodera praise her and realized that it did not become a problem for their friendship after all. Shukumi led everyone into a room inside Shidoge's house. As soon as Shukumi opened the door, the members of the Beehive had already prepared a lively surprise party for Shidoge. That day was Shidoge's 16th birthday, and it was the first time she had ever invited her friends over. The Mafia members greeted Shidoge's friends as well. They were surprised to see how happy Shidoge looked, since that kind of expression felt unusual for her. Not long after that, Claude arrived and greeted everyone. Claude then started teasing Raku, and was convinced that Raku must have prepared a special gift for Shidoge. Raku realized that Claude was becoming more open and straightforward when making fun of him. As the party went on, Onodera gave Shidoge a set of stationery, while Ruri gave her a novel. Shidoge felt genuinely happy with the gifts they gave her. After that, the Beehive Mafia members presented their gift, which was a 1-year supply of bananas and 1,000 Enka CDs. They chose that gift because they knew how much Shidoge loved those things. Meanwhile, Claude wanted to show off his own gift for Shidoge, but he deliberately acted humble by saying that his present could not compare to what Raku had prepared. It turned out that Claude had bought a luxury car with the newest and coolest model. However, Shidoge did not need it, since she did not have a driver's license yet. Next, the Beehive members pressured Raku to finally show his gift to Shidoge. Raku did not expect that giving a birthday present could feel this difficult. In the end, he revealed a gorilla plush doll that looked exactly like him. The Beehive members immediately protested, unable to accept why Raku would give such a gift. Raku admitted that the moment he saw the doll, he really liked it and thought it was a good plush. Unexpectedly, Shidoge ended up liking the gift very much. The Beehive members could not understand why Shidoge reacted that way. Raku was left staring in surprise at Shidoge's cute expression. While the party continued, Shidoge approached Raku on the balcony. She mentioned that Raku's taste in choosing gifts was terrible. Raku did not expect that her earlier reaction had only been an act, and he told her that she could just throw the gift away if she did not like it. Shidoge replied that since they were dating, she would not throw it away and said that she would keep the gift. Raku started to think that Shidoge actually liked his present, but she kept denying it. Raku was confused as Shidoge began to show a sweeter side of herself, making his heart race. Raku wondered why his heart was pounding just from looking at Shidoge, especially since he had only recently realized that he had found the girl who made a promise with him 10 years ago. Thinking about it all made his head spin. Shidoge then asked whether Raku still liked the girl who made that promise with him 10 years earlier. Raku was surprised by the question, but he also found himself wondering if Onodera was truly the girl from that promise long ago. Raku admitted that he still liked that girl. After hearing that, Shidoge asked whether Raku had ever heard of the term "zossing in love." That night, Chitoge asked whether Raku had ever heard the phrase "Zasen in love." Raku was startled and wondered where Chitoge had learned that phrase. He did not understand why his heart kept pounding so hard. Raku remembered that "Zasen in love" was a line he and a certain girl had once spoken as part of a promise. Chitoge explained that she had been reading her old diary, and it brought back many memories. She recalled meeting a boy 10 years ago while playing together during the summer. They became close friends, and when the time came for them to part ways, she and the boy made a kind of promise. Raku was shocked because the story matched the promise he remembered exactly. What made it even more unsettling was that he had just talked about this very thing with Onodera the day before. Chitoge admitted that she did not remember the boy's face or his name, but she clearly remembered the words of the promise. She also found a key tucked inside her old diary. Raku's heart started racing again. He had seen that key before. He had always believed that the girl from his memory was Onodera, but now it turned out that Chitoge also had a key and knew the same phrase. Raku explained that if he and that girl were ever to meet again, they were supposed to open a locket together. If the girl still remembered the promise, she would definitely have the key. Both of them looked nervous as they stared at each other. Even so, they soon felt that it was almost impossible for them to have made such a promise together, especially since Chitoge insisted that she did not remember ever meeting Raku back then. Raku also pointed out that Chitoge felt very different from the girl who had lived in his memories all this time. Chitoge was convinced it was just a coincidence, because Raku was nothing like the boy described in her diary. In her mind, that boy was kind, amazing and cool, nothing like Raku. Raku, in turn, said that the girl from his promise was gentle, sweet, and feminine. Chitoge grew annoyed at the idea that she might have been the one who made a promise with Raku. At the same time, Raku was not convinced at all that the girl was Chitoge. Raku then asked Chitoge to prove it by trying her key on his locket. If the locket did not open, it would clearly mean they had no connection in the past. Neither of them truly believed it would work. Chitoge was especially sure that Raku was not that boy, because to her, that boy was like a prince who could do anything and always came to her rescue. Raku wondered what Chitoge would do if he really were that boy. Chitoge went so far as to say that she would do anything if Raku truly turned out to be him, precisely because she was convinced that person could not possibly be Raku. Raku and Chitoge prepared themselves to find out the truth. Raku hoped the locket would not open, because it felt impossible for Chitoge to be the girl he had been searching for. Chitoge was just as certain that Raku was not the boy from her past. She was too nervous to start right away, and both of their hearts were pounding intensely. When the key actually slid into the keyhole of the locket, their faces grew even redder. Then, unexpectedly, the key snapped as Chitoge turned it. Raku was stunned when he saw the broken key and could not understand how Chitoge had managed to break it. Chitoge explained that it was an accident, and that her nerves had caused her to twist the key too forcefully. Raku became frustrated when the broken piece got stuck inside the locket. Chitoge was at a loss, unsure of what to do. Raku was upset because this meant he could no longer try opening the locket with Onodera's key. Chitoge asked Raku to forget about it, especially since they both felt they had never truly shared a promise together. She quickly ended the conversation. Raku tried to stop her, but Chitoge ignored him and walked away. Raku was confused by her behavior and could not stop wondering what might have happened if the locket had actually opened. Meanwhile, Chitoge continued watching Raku from a distance. Raku walked down the hallway, still lost in thought about Onodera and Chitoge, who both seemed to have made promises 10 years ago, and both possessed similar keys. He convinced himself that it had to be nothing more than a coincidence. Raku concluded that one of them had to be the girl who made that promise with him, which meant he had definitely met one of them back then. If he could solve that mystery, he would finally know who that girl was. Suddenly, a man called out to him and thanked him for coming to Chitoge's birthday party. Raku felt like he had seen the man before, and then he realized it was Adelt. Adelt asked whether Raku was close to Chitoge and apologized for forcing him into the difficult role of pretending to be her boyfriend. Adelt mentioned that Chitoge had seemed much more cheerful since coming to Japan, and he believed it was all thanks to Raku. Raku remembered Chitoge once saying that she did not have a single friend back in America. Adelt was confident that Raku and Chitoge got along very well and even thought they were a perfect match. Raku denied it and said that he and Chitoge argued all the time. Adelt laughed and revealed that Raku and Chitoge had actually been close friends when they were children. Raku was shocked to hear this, and Adelt had already guessed that Raku would not remember something like that. Adelt explained that 10 years earlier, he had held a series of meetings with Raku's father at a secret location in Japan for almost an entire month. At that time, Adelt had brought along Chitoge, who was still 5 years old. Back then, Chitoge had been very close to Raku. Raku never expected that he and Chitoge had actually met 10 years ago. He began to suspect that Chitoge might have been the girl connected to the promise, and that Onodera might have been mistaken in thinking that Raku was the boy she had been looking for. Adele also mentioned that Onodera had played together with them as well. Raku was shocked, and his heart raced as he listened to the story. He realized that he had not spent time with just one of them, but with both of them. At that time, Chitoge had approached Onodera, and Onodera had wondered why she did not see Raku around. Chitoge had pretended not to know where Raku was. Raku finally understood that 10 years ago, he had met both Onodera and a younger Chitoge at the same place, and that the two of them were connected to the same promise. He could not understand why things had turned out this way. The two keys carried different symbols, and Raku was certain that only one girl had made a promise with him. After Adele left, Raku began to think seriously about who that girl truly was. He wondered if it could have been Onodera. If that were true, then he believed it really was fate, because Raku truly wished for someone like Onodera to be his future wife. If it turned out that the girl was Chitoge, then Raku felt he would not be able to accept it so easily. Even if the girl from the past was Chitoge, everything had happened when they were still children, and the person Raku cared about now was Onodera, and that would not change. Raku's pendant was being repaired by Shu's uncle. The next day, Shu called his uncle to ask whether the pendant could be fixed. It turned out that Raku's pendant was quite complicated and rather rare, so it would take some time to repair. Raku felt relieved knowing that his pendant was being taken care of. Shu asked what had happened to the pendant and wanted Raku to explain it, but Raku said that he would talk about it another time. That morning, Raku met Chitoge at the shoe lockers, and they walked to class together. Raku told her that both his pendant and their keys were being repaired by Shu's uncle, who worked as a locksmith. Raku found it strange that Chitoge seemed to be acting so normal. When they arrived at the classroom, they noticed Claude watching them from outside. Raku immediately suggested that they act like a couple. When Raku touched Chitoge's shoulder, she was clearly startled. Raku was confused when Chitoge's face suddenly turned red. Chitoge asked Raku not to act so carelessly. Raku reminded her that Claude was watching them. Not long after that, their classmates came over to greet them. Raku quickly put his arm around Chitoge and acted as if he were deeply in love. Seeing Chitoge's flushed face, Raku was surprised and curious about what was going on with her. Chitoge tried to calm herself down. At that moment, Onodera was also there, quietly observing their behavior. While Raku was watering the flowers, Onodera approached him and mentioned that Chitoge's behavior seemed a little strange. She wondered whether Raku and Chitoge had argued. Raku suspected that Chitoge might be feeling awkward around him because she could be the girl who had made the promise with him 10 years ago. But he kept pushing that thought away. Onodera then asked where the pendant Raku usually wore was. Raku explained that it was being repaired by Shu's uncle. Raku felt curious about whether Onodera remembered that they had played together in the past. His heart started to race just thinking about it. Raku was worried about Chitoge, but he believed she would be fine, and he promised himself that he would continue to look out for her. Onodera smiled when she heard that. She recalled how attentive Raku had been toward Chitoge, especially when Chitoge had gone missing before. She found it puzzling because even though Raku and Chitoge were only pretending to date, she wanted to know what Raku's true feelings really were. Kyoko came into the classroom and announced that the photos from their school trip had been posted on the bulletin board. She encouraged everyone to buy photos of the people they liked and promised that she would not tell anyone who bought whose photos. Onodera smiled to herself, and Ruri noticed her reaction. The students quickly gathered around the bulletin board to look at the school trip photos. Chitoge was amazed by the pictures and wanted to buy them. Raku reminded her not to buy too many photos, since each one cost 100 yen, which was expensive for him, and he suggested that she choose only the photos she truly liked. Unexpectedly, Chitoge became even more excited and picked out many photos anyway, with Shukumi helping her choose. Raku felt relieved as it seemed that Chitoge had finally returned to her usual self. Onodera invited Raku to buy photos from their school trip. Raku wanted to buy one of the photos that showed Onodera during the trip. Onodera, on the other hand, wanted to buy a photo of herself together with Ruri. Ruri then pointed at one photo that featured Raku, with Onodera and Ruri visible in the background. Onodera's face slowly turned red when she noticed Raku's face in that photo. Ruri deliberately chose that picture because she was confident that Onodera would want to have it. Not long after that, they came across another photo of Raku standing together with Onodera. Onodera really wanted to buy that photo, and Raku also wanted the same one. However, he felt embarrassed and worried that others might notice how much he wanted it. Raku and Onodera both acted shy and hesitant, which made Ruri feel extremely annoyed by their indecision. Shu then showed up and offered several photos of the girls that Raku had rarely seen before. The male students gathered around to choose photos they liked. Ruri and Shukumi were convinced that the boys were selecting inappropriate pictures. Shu denied it, explaining that he only collected embarrassing moments. He even had funny photos of Ruri and Onodera. Ruri and Onodera were shocked when they saw those unflattering pictures of themselves. Ruri, clearly irritated, reacted harshly towards Shu for making her upset. Raku was very curious and wanted to see those photos as well. Shu mentioned that he had a special photo meant just for Raku, which turned out to be a picture of Onodera sleeping next to Ruri. Raku was immediately fascinated by it, and was even willing to pay 500 yen for the photo. He treated it like a personal treasure. After that, Raku made a plan to look for a photo that showed himself together with Onodera. Later, Raku noticed a photo of Chitoge, but his attention shifted to a girl standing behind her. It turned out to be Onodera in the background, captured at an awkward moment while she was adjusting her clothes. Raku became anxious, worried that someone might notice the situation in the photo. He quickly picked it up and planned to hand it to Kyoko so the file could be deleted. While walking down the hallway, Raku ran into Onodera, and the photo accidentally slipped from his hands. Onodera picked it up for him. Raku panicked, afraid that Onodera might think he had intentionally searched for a photo of her in an embarrassing situation. Fortunately, Onodera had not yet realized that she was the one in the picture. Raku quickly took it back and hurried away. Onodera felt confused about why Raku had taken a photo with Chitoge's face on it. She started wondering whether Raku might actually like Chitoge. That thought lingered in her mind as she kept questioning his actions. After returning home, Raku immediately went into the kitchen while quietly looking at the photo of Onodera. He then began preparing dinner. He still did not know the identity of the girl who had made a promise with him 10 years ago, and he kept thinking about how to find her. He wished he had a photo that could serve as a clue. Suddenly, Issei mentioned that he might have the photo Raku had been searching for. Raku became curious about where Issei had kept it, since he had already searched the entire house without any luck. It turned out that the photo was stored in the back storage room. Issei asked whether Raku was looking for the photo they had taken during their trip 10 years earlier, explaining that there was still one copy left in storage. Raku was shocked to realize that this photo could bring him closer to the truth. On top of that, Issei also mentioned a photo of a girl holding a key and the existence of an important promise connected to it. Hearing this left Raku completely stunned. One morning at school, Raku looked irritated because he could not find the photo he was looking for in the storage room behind the school. That photo was supposed to be a clue to the identity of the girl connected to his childhood promise. Suddenly, Shu appeared in front of him and asked whether Raku had any plans after school. It turned out that Shu wanted to invite Raku to a group study session at Mickey D after school. Raku felt confused about why Shu was suddenly organizing a study session like this. Shu explained that the final exams were coming up soon, so he believed Raku must already have a solid strategy to deal with them. Raku looked uncomfortable hearing Shu address him so casually. He replied that he had already been studying hard every day, and especially that day he needed to look for something important, so he refused the invitation. However, once Shu mentioned that Onodera would be joining, Raku immediately decided to take part in the study session. After school, Raku went together with his friends to study. Chitoge looked extremely excited as she went out with everyone. Raku felt annoyed because he believed Shu had tricked him. Chitoge, who was in high spirits, kept shouting about how happy she was to go to Mickey D with her friends. In fact, Raku had once dreamed of going to Mickey D together with Onodera. At the same time, he felt that he was already close to finding the answer to who the girl from his promise really was. His memories were still vague, whether the girl had blonde hair or black hair, and what her defining features were. The more he thought about it, the more unsettled he became. After they finished ordering and picking up their food, they began arranging their seats. Ruri suggested that Onodera sit next to Raku so she could ask him for help studying like before. Onodera looked nervous and refused, instead asking Raku to sit near Chitoge, since the two of them were officially dating. Raku felt confused because Onodera seemed colder than usual. Ruri glanced at Onodera and wondered if something had happened between them, but Onodera shook her head and smiled. Even so, Ruri was convinced that something must have happened. They soon started their second group study session. Shu asked whether Shukumi was the type of student who enjoyed studying. Shukumi described herself as just an average student, but Chitoge told everyone that Shukumi could get into almost any university she wanted. Onodera and Shu both praised her for that. Shukumi then questioned why Raku could not solve such an easy problem, especially since he was dating someone like a princess. Raku asked Shukumi not to worry about him, but Shukumi suddenly moved closer and explained how to solve the problem step by step. Raku was surprised by Shukumi's sudden behavior toward him. Shukumi's face turned red, and she looked unexpectedly sweet, leaving Raku momentarily stunned. Shukumi wondered why Raku was staring at her instead of listening to her explanation. Raku's heart raced as he sat close to Shukumi. He also praised the way she explained the problem, saying it was very easy to understand, and sincerely thanked her. Shukumi looked flustered and asked Raku to try solving the problem himself. After that, she returned to her seat. Chitoge asked which problem Shukumi had helped him with. Meanwhile, Shu wore a teasing grin that clearly annoyed Shukumi, and she reacted by firmly scolding him, making it clear she wanted him to stop. Chitoge and Raku were surprised to see that Shu and Shukumi seemed so familiar with each other. After that, Shu reminded everyone about their English homework and said he was counting heavily on Chitoge. He asked Chitoge to translate a dialogue from the textbook. The dialogue was about Anna asking George about a woman, only for George to say he did not recognize her. A jealous Anna then questioned which woman George chose, the other woman or herself. Raku could not understand what kind of dramatic story Kyoko had written. At that moment, Onodera could not hold back her laughter, and her expression looked adorable, which Raku found himself liking even more. Raku had a strong feeling that Onodera shared similar traits with the girl from his childhood promise. Onodera herself suspected that the boy she was searching for might be Raku. On the other hand, Chitoge did not match any of the traits of the promised girl, yet she possessed a key and knew about Zaza love. Thinking about all of this only made Raku feel more confused, so he tried to calm himself down, believing that everything would become clear once he found the photo clue. Suddenly, Shu asked what Raku liked more. Without thinking, Raku mentioned Onodera's name, even though Shu had actually been asking whether Raku preferred vanilla or chocolate shakes. Raku felt extremely embarrassed and quickly asked what flavor Onodera liked. Onodera admitted that she preferred strawberry. After that, Raku laughed and finally realized that he had almost confessed his feelings to Onodera by accident. He thought that no one had noticed what he said earlier. Unexpectedly, Onodera had noticed, but she was unsure about what Raku truly meant. Raku felt that Onodera seemed much closer to the image of the girl from the promise, while Chitoge did not match that image at all in his mind. At that moment, Chitoge was still reading out a translated English dialogue, and when she mentioned something about destined partners, Raku was caught off guard and accidentally spit out his drink, leaving Chitoge confused by his reaction. Raku realized that he could not keep dwelling on the thought, and that what he really needed to do was find the photograph. After returning home from Mickey's D, he immediately went to the storage room to search for it. Raku found a box that looked exactly like the one his parent had mentioned before. He carefully took it down and placed it on the floor. He was certain that the box contained a photograph from 10 years ago, and once he opened it, he would finally learn what the girl he had been searching for all this time looked like. His heart raced as he wondered whether the girl would turn out to be Onodera or Chitoge. Unable to hold back his anticipation, he slowly opened the box, only to be completely stunned by what he found inside. The photograph showed Raku as a child together with Issei and a young girl. The image only deepened his confusion. The girl in the photo was neither Onodera nor Chitoge, and Raku realized that he did not recognize her face at all. In the photograph, the young girl was holding a key in her hand, which meant that she was the one who had made the promise with him 10 years earlier. Feeling unsettled by the discovery, Raku immediately tried to find Issei to confirm the truth behind the photograph. One of the Yakuza members informed him that Issei had just gone out. Meanwhile, Issei herself was still thinking about the girl Raku had mentioned, and she seemed to recognize the girl in the photo. The next day at school, Raku was still preoccupied with thoughts about the girl from the promise. He had assumed that everything would become clear once he found the photograph, but instead, the situation only became more complicated. Not long after, Kyoko arrived to distribute the school trip photos that the students had ordered. Raku remained lost in thought, realizing that the promise he made in the past was likely not with Onodera or Chitoge. He struggled to remember anything clearly about the girl. Curious, he wondered whether Onodera or Chitoge might recall something about her. But it seemed that neither of them remembered ever meeting Raku during their childhood. Without him noticing, Shu quietly placed a photograph on Raku's desk. That day, heavy rain poured down. Chitoge was still at school because she had forgotten to bring an umbrella. Before long, Raku approached her. Chitoge was eager to go home because she did not want to miss her favorite television show. Raku offered to share his umbrella with her. Chitoge immediately refused and chose to walk through the rain instead of standing under the same umbrella with him. She used her bag to shield her head and hurried off, pushing through the downpour without paying attention to Raku. After a short while, Raku caught up to her, worried that she might get sick from being soaked in the rain. Chitoge's face flushed when she noticed how concerned he was. As the rain grew even heavier, they eventually walked together under the umbrella. Both of them looked awkward and shy, especially when a few students noticed them and teased them playfully. When rain began to soak Chitoge's shoulder, she instinctively moved closer to Raku so they could both stay dry. She explained that staying close was the only practical choice in that situation. Raku found himself confused by Chitoge's recent behavior and was unsure how to respond to it. Seeing Raku's troubled expression, Chitoge asked him not to misunderstand the situation. Raku insisted that his thoughts were completely innocent. Chitoge felt that she was already being considerate by acting that way for his sake. Raku reassured her that he had no strange intentions and that he had never asked her to do anything like that. Their exchange continued with lighthearted bickering, though Chitoge became irritated when Raku teased her with an unflattering nickname. Just as her frustration peaked, a loud clap of thunder echoed nearby, startling both of them. Raku was surprised by how close the thunder sounded. When he looked over, he saw Chitoge crouching down, clearly shaken by fear. He had never realized that she was so frightened of thunder. Raku remarked that she had more weaknesses than she let on. Chitoge warned him that she would not forgive him if anyone else found out about it. Raku promised to keep it a secret. Since the thunder continued and the rain showed no sign of stopping, they decided to stay sheltered there for a while. To help calm her nerves, Chitoge asked Raku to talk about something else so she would not feel so scared anymore. Raku invited Chitoge to look through the field trip photos they had bought. Chitoge suggested that they show each other the photos. She had purchased a total of 80 pictures. At that moment, Raku had already separated Onodera's photos from the rest beforehand. As Chitoge went through the stack, she was startled when she found a picture of herself asleep. Raku was surprised as well because he was sure he had never taken or kept a photo like that. He immediately became convinced that Shu must have slipped it in. Raku tried to explain the situation so Chitoge would not get upset, but it turned out that she understood he would never intentionally keep a photo like that. Raku was confused and a little amazed by how understanding she was. Chitoge continued flipping through the photos, while Raku felt that something about her behavior seemed different than usual. He praised her for being willing to spend so much money on the field trip photos, especially since she liked keeping memories and records of her friends. Chitoge said that many things had changed since she came to Japan, and that one of her regrets was spending her youth pretending to be Raku's girlfriend. However, she added that lately the fake feelings she had experienced did not seem so bad after all. Raku was completely taken in by what she said and admitted that he felt the same way. To his surprise, Chitoge revealed that she had just been teasing him. What she said earlier was nothing but a joke, and she laughed at Raku's expression when he thought she was being serious about him. Raku felt irritated and told her that she really should not tease him like that. Suddenly, a loud clap of thunder echoed nearby. Chitoge was startled and instinctively clung to Raku out of fear. Their faces ended up very close, and they locked eyes for a brief moment. Just then, Issei appeared and commented that the two of them looked unusually close for the middle of the day. Raku and Chitoge were shocked and quickly pulled apart. Issei did not expect the relationship to seem this serious, especially since he had only told them to pretend to be a couple. Both Raku and Chitoge immediately denied the idea, insisting that they did not like each other in that way. Issei simply laughed at their reaction. He had actually been looking for Raku because he wanted to talk about something important. It turned out that Raku also wanted to speak with his father, but Issei said that his own topic was urgent and that he wanted to bring it up first. He felt awkward about revealing it, especially since Raku and Chitoge had been spending more time together lately. Chitoge quickly denied being close to Raku. Issei then explained that someone wanted to meet Raku the next day. Raku did not understand what his father meant at first. Issei finally said that the person who wanted to meet Raku was his fiancé. Both Raku and Chitoge were stunned by the revelation and could only stand there in silence after hearing such unexpected news. Meanwhile, the girl who was said to be Raku's fiancé was eagerly waiting for the day she could finally meet him and fulfill the childhood promise they had made 10 years ago. Raku still could not believe that he had a fiancé who was going to visit the next day. He questioned his father about it. It turned out that when Issei had been drinking with an old friend, that young lady had repeatedly asked about Raku, who had been her fiancé since they were both children. The young lady planned to come the next day and did not want to face rejection. Issei asked Raku to keep her company and make her feel comfortable during the visit. Raku was shocked and asked his father to cancel the arrangement. Issei explained that it was not that simple, because canceling it could cause serious trouble if the young lady felt offended. Raku said that he had never even met the girl, so he did not see how he could possibly handle the situation. Issei then mentioned that Raku actually recognized her, because she was the girl in the photo Raku had been looking for the day before. Raku and Chitoge were both stunned to hear that. Issei still could not change his decision and made it clear that he was relying heavily on Raku. The next day at school, Raku was still thinking about the girl and felt unsure whether he could handle what was coming. Chitoge hoped that things would not get any worse. That day, Kyoko informed the students that a new transfer student would be joining their school. Raku did not expect that his class would receive so many transfer students at once. Kyoko soon called the new student to the front, and the moment the newcomer entered the classroom, everyone was captivated by her appearance. The girl introduced herself as Marika. The male students reacted with loud excitement, impressed by how beautiful she was. Onodera admitted to herself that Marika truly was very pretty, while Shukumi wondered whether she had looked like that on her own first day at school. The male students continued to act overly excited. Raku felt as though he might have met Marika before. Kyoko asked the class to calm down. Marika's face lit up when she saw Raku standing there. She quickly approached him and wrapped her arms around him in a tight embrace, expressing how much she had missed him. The entire class was shocked by the scene, and several of the male students looked visibly annoyed with Raku. Raku quickly stepped back, completely confused by Marika's actions. Marika apologized and explained that she had long dreamed of a moment like that. She wondered whether Marika knew Raku, and Marika responded with a smile, revealing that she was Raku's fiancée. The classroom erupted in chaos after that revelation. Raku himself had not known this, and he finally realized that Marika was the girl his father had been talking about. He also noticed that she looked exactly like the girl in the photo. Onodera was left speechless by what was happening. Shukumi told Marika to stay away from Raku, because he was Chitoge's boyfriend. Chitoge then pulled Raku closer and emphasized that Raku was her boyfriend at that moment. Raku apologized, explaining that he could not be with Marika. The tension in the classroom was thick. Marika insisted that she was more suitable to make Raku happy than Chitoge, making an unkind comparison that angered Chitoge deeply. Raku asked Chitoge to calm down. Shukumi became furious and stepped forward aggressively, creating an alarming situation. Unexpectedly, a group of police officers arrived to ensure Marika's safety and to de-escalate the conflict around Shukumi. Marika apologized for causing such a commotion. Marika then explained that her father was a police commissioner and extremely protective of her. Hearing this, Raku finally understood why his father had been too afraid to cancel the meeting, as doing so could have made the situation far more complicated. Marika then asked her personal attendant, Shinobu, to have the police stand down and leave the area. After everything settled, Marika suddenly looked weak and said she felt dizzy from overwhelming happiness. She had a very fragile constitution and asked Raku to escort her to the student infirmary. Marika took hold of Raku and led him there. Raku had no choice but to go along with her. At the same time, Shukumi was clearly irritated by Marika's behavior, and Chitoge also looked unhappy seeing Marika so close to Raku. Inside the student infirmary, Marika thanked Raku for bringing her there and said she felt much better thanks to him. She clung to his arm and began asking about their wedding date. Raku was completely shocked. He explained that until the day before he had not even known he had a fiancée, and he also admitted that he could not remember Marika. To him, someone he had not seen in 10 years felt like a stranger. He also thought that someone in Marika's position would usually resent being pushed into an arranged marriage by her father. Unexpectedly, Marika explained that she truly loved Raku, not because of the arrangement, but because she had fallen in love with him 10 years ago. Raku asked whether she remembered the promise they had made back then. Marika said she remembered everything clearly. Raku's face turned red as he realized that Marika was the girl from that promise long ago. Overcome with emotion, Marika hugged Raku again and urged him to marry her as soon as possible. Raku struggled to free himself and tried to put distance between them. Meanwhile, Chitoge and the others were listening from outside the student infirmary. From what they overheard, they misunderstood the situation and assumed something inappropriate was happening. Chitoge became furious and burst into the room. They saw Raku positioned awkwardly near Marika, which only worsened the misunderstanding. Raku tried desperately to explain what had really happened. Unfortunately, Chitoge, Shukumi, and Ruri looked deeply disappointed and lashed out at him with harsh words. Raku then tried to explain everything to Onodera, but she chose to walk away instead. Overcome with anger and frustration, Chitoge finally lost her temper and struck Raku in a moment of emotional outburst. The next day, Shinobu told Marika that she suspected Raku no longer remembered the promise from 10 years ago. Marika did not see that as a problem, because she believed she would be the one to make Raku remember it again. Marika truly wanted Raku to marry her. That morning, Chitoge arrived at school and headed straight to her classroom. She thought that Raku probably did not have the nerve to do anything inappropriate, yet she was confused about why she felt so frustrated about it. Chitoge realized that she might have gone too far when she hit Raku the day before, and she planned to apologize to him. As soon as she entered the classroom, she was shocked to see Raku being hugged by Marika. The other students could only stay silent as they witnessed Marika's behavior toward Raku. Chitoge wondered why she felt the need to hide because of something like that. Raku scolded Marika, explaining that her actions had caused him a lot of trouble. Earlier that morning, he had noticed the girls busily gossiping about him, and during physical education class, especially while playing dodgeball, the male students kept targeting him. Marika was surprised to learn that Raku was actually quite popular at school. She wanted to talk with him more, so she decided to invite Raku on a date. Raku immediately refused and said that he already had a girlfriend. Marika looked deeply saddened, especially because she had been waiting for Raku all this time, and she was sure her father would be disappointed to hear about the rejection. Raku did not want a group of police officers causing trouble for his family, so he finally decided to accept the date. Marika was overjoyed when she heard his answer. Chitoge, Shukumi, Onodera, and Ruri all found out about their date. The next day, Raku waited for Marika at the shopping mall. He thought this would be his chance to ask her about the promise from 10 years ago. He left without telling Chitoge. Raku looked around for Marika, since she had not specified where they were supposed to meet. Before long, he saw several patrol cars escorting Marika. Marika greeted the waiting Raku with a bright smile, and soon after, the police officers left. Raku thought that the girl who liked him really did bring him a lot of trouble. At the same time, Onodera and Ruri were watching the two of them from a distance. Shukumi also arrived to keep an eye on Raku. She was dressed in a very feminine way, making people around her think she was a model. Shukumi wanted to monitor Raku's actions so she could report them to Chitoge. She was not doing this out of curiosity, but for Chitoge's sake. Raku suddenly approached her and asked where the nearest restaurant was. After that, Raku and Marika headed straight to the restaurant. Raku complimented Shukumi on how beautiful she looked, without realizing that she was actually Shukumi. Shukumi became irritated because Raku did not recognize her at all. Meanwhile, Chitoge was wearing a mask and dark sunglasses. She thought that with such a disguise, no one would recognize her. But suddenly 2 police officers called out to her. Chitoge immediately ran away to avoid them. At the same time, Raku and Marika were enjoying their meal at the restaurant. Suddenly, Marika tried to feed Raku, which startled him. Marika explained that this was normal behavior for an engaged couple. She then asked whether Raku was still thinking about his girlfriend, but Raku denied it. Marika could not understand why Raku chose a partner who seemed rude like Chitoge. Raku said that Marika might not be entirely wrong, but to him, Chitoge still had a good side. He was even confident that Marika and Chitoge could become good friends. Marika immediately rejected the idea, saying that she did not like girls with long hair. Raku was confused, since Marika herself had long hair. Marika then said that she really wanted to talk to Raku in private, and she pulled him along to another place. At that moment, Ruri and Onodera realized that Raku and Marika were no longer at their table. They began trying to look for them as well. Marika took Raku to a park and apologized for suddenly bringing him there. She asked what Raku wanted to talk about. Raku showed her a small photograph of the two of them. Marika was overjoyed when she saw the photo. She never expected that Raku had kept it, and that meant he still remembered her, which deeply touched her. Chitoge managed to find them and continued to secretly observe their conversation. Raku explained that all he remembered was making a promise to a girl 10 years ago, and he wondered if Marika might be the girl he had been searching for. Raku was willing to talk about the promise from 10 years ago and showed the key that he had. In return, Marika asked Raku to break up with his girlfriend. Chitoge became upset when she learned about the condition Marika demanded, and she was curious about what Raku would do. Raku said that he could not agree to that condition because he could not leave Chitoge for such a selfish reason, and he would never accept that demand. Chitoge's face turned red when she heard Raku's answer. Marika said that it was a beautiful response, but she admitted that it only made her fall even more in love with Raku. Unexpectedly, Marika noticed Chitoge listening in and pointed it out to Raku. Chitoge showed herself and explained that what she had been doing was an investigation into possible infidelity. She brought up the promise from 10 years ago, but Marika suddenly hugged Raku and claimed that she and Raku had also made a promise 10 years earlier. Because of that, Marika insisted that Chitoge should break up with Raku, who was her fiancé. Chitoge firmly stated that she would never leave Raku. Marika argued that Chitoge was not the right woman for him, and Chitoge became so irritated that she could not say anything in response. Marika stayed close to Raku and asked him to continue what they had been doing before they were interrupted. Chitoge grew extremely upset with Raku. Raku tried to beg her to listen to his explanation, but Chitoge, overwhelmed by her emotions, reacted physically toward him. After that, Chitoge left the place. She felt relieved knowing that the girl who had made a promise with Raku long ago was not her, yet she was confused about why she felt so irritated by him. Raku was also confused and wondered why Chitoge seemed jealous of him. Afterward, Marika said goodbye and admitted that she had been very happy spending time with Raku. Raku did not understand Marika's attitude at all. Marika accidentally left her bag on a park bench, and Raku quickly picked it up and went after her to return it. Marika later met Shinobu. Shinobu said that Marika had been pushing herself too hard and believed that she must have been suffering because of the heat. She wondered why Marika had not worn a hat outside. It turned out that Marika had intentionally chosen not to wear one because she wanted Raku to keep looking at her face. Shinobu then left to get some medicine. Not long after that, Raku arrived and asked about Marika's condition. Marika was surprised to see him there. Raku immediately returned the bag she had left behind. Marika said that she only felt a little dizzy and that there was nothing to worry about. She then asked what Raku liked about Chitoge, considering her blunt way of speaking and her difficult personality. Raku explained that Chitoge often acted however she pleased, was quick to confront troublemakers, had strength comparable to a mountain gorilla, got angry easily, and constantly teased him in her diary. Even so, Chitoge was someone he could truly trust. Marika believed that Raku would trust her as well if he could remember her, but Raku did not remember Marika at all. He could not even recall ever meeting someone with such a distinctive way of speaking. Raku also could not remember what he might have done in the past that made Marika care for him so deeply. Marika then changed the way she spoke and asked whether Raku still did not remember her. She felt frustrated that Raku could not remember her, even though she had liked him ever since 10 years ago. She had tried growing out her hair and changing the way she talks so that Raku would like her. After hearing this, Raku finally realized that the girl standing in front of him might be Mary, his childhood friend. Raku was completely shocked when he realized that the Marika standing in front of him was actually Mary, his childhood friend from the past. He only recognized her after Marika deliberately changed the way she spoke back to how she used to talk years ago. Even though Marika had promised herself that she would never speak that way in front of Raku again, she felt she had no choice but to do it so that he could remember her. Raku suddenly recalled that he once used to play with children who spoke in that distinctive way, and he also remembered that one of those children had very poor health. Marika admitted that she had met Raku during the summer 10 years ago. Raku then realized that this meant Mariko was the same as Onodera and Chitoge, who had also met him during that same summer 10 years earlier. Marika explained that she had been physically weak since childhood, which was why her father had taken her to a mountain sanatorium with fresh, clean air. At that time, Marika had been extremely bored from spending all her days inside a hospital room. One day, Raku suddenly appeared by the window of her room. Because of her illness, Marika rarely had the chance to play with other children outside. Raku came to see her and invited her to play. They introduced themselves to each other, and Raku called her Mary. Every day after that, Raku returned with small items he found in the mountains. Marika said that Raku's kindness always made her happy. One day, Marika's father asked whether she liked Raku, and if that was true, he intended to ask Raku to make a promise to marry her someday. The next day, Marika asked Raku what kind of girl he liked. Raku explained that he liked girls who were feminine and had long hair. From that moment on, Marika pushed herself with all her strength to learn and practice things she truly disliked. She worked tirelessly to master polite and refined manners of speaking. Marika did all of this so she could become the woman Raku dreamed of. Everything she went through was for the sake of meeting Raku again one day, and the promise she had made with him kept her moving forward. She apologized for changing so much, but explained that she only wanted Raku to understand her feelings. The photograph she kept was taken shortly before they were separated. Marika was happy that Raku still remembered the promise they made 10 years ago. Raku never imagined that Marika had gone that far for his sake, and he realized that the promise meant far more to her than he had ever expected. Marika admitted that she had acted selfishly just to make sure Raku remembered her, and she asked him not to force himself to remember if it was too painful. Raku felt guilty and immediately tried to concentrate harder to recall his memories of her. Marika looked genuinely happy seeing Raku make that effort, but deep down, she wanted him to remember the version of herself from that moment, someone who had grown into a charming young woman in his eyes. She wanted Raku to pay more attention to her and truly notice her presence. From that point on, Marika made up her mind that she would never allow Raku to forget her again. She casually pointed out that there was rice on Raku's face, causing him to panic and touch his own cheek in embarrassment. Unexpectedly, Marika gently kissed his cheek. She did it intentionally, hoping it would become a beautiful memory for both of them. Raku was left frozen and unable to react. Shortly after that, Marika quickly said her goodbyes and left. Raku's face turned bright red as he reacted in complete shock. Marika then walked toward Shinobu, feeling much better and believing she no longer needed her medication. The next day at school, Raku explained that he had met Marika 10 years ago, along with Chitoge and Onodera. He said that he learned this information from Chitoge's father. Even though they had been close back then, none of them could clearly remember it now. Chitoge wondered why Raku's face kept turning red, while Onodera admitted that she had felt a sense of closeness with Chitoge from the very beginning. Raku explained that he had simply been waiting for the right moment to tell them both. Chitoge was surprised to learn that Onodera also possessed a key like hers. Onodera admitted that she did not truly understand what the key meant. According to Chitoge, it seemed likely that both she and Onodera had met Raku 10 years ago and made some kind of promise with him, which explained why they each had a key. Raku still could not remember the details, but he was certain that he had only made a promise to one person. Both Chitoge and Onodera felt confused and curious about what kind of promise it could have been, since neither of them remembered anything at all. Marika later admitted that she clearly remembered the promise she had made with Raku before they were separated, which was a promise to marry in the future. Everyone was shocked to hear this. Chitoge asked Raku if Marika was truly the person he had been searching for all this time, but Raku still could not say for certain. Onodera began to wonder whether she might have made a similar promise with him long ago. Chitoge never expected a childhood promise to carry such serious weight. Raku questioned why there were 3 keys in total, feeling confident that Marika must know something about it. Marika admitted that she did not know the reason either, and she was just as confused about why anyone else would have the same kind of key. She also recalled that Raku once told her he had played with other children besides her. Marika openly admitted how deep her feelings for Raku were, which was why she had made such a serious promise in the first place. In her view, only one of the 3 keys was real, while the others must be replicas. Onodera suggested that the only thing they could do for now was wait until Raku's pendant was fully repaired. No matter what happened, the most important thing for Marika was her belief that Raku would eventually marry her, especially since they had shared an intimate moment. Chitoge immediately doubted that claim and believed it was nothing more than an exaggeration. Raku fell silent, his face turning red once again. Seeing his reaction, both Chitoge and Onodera were stunned. Raku tried to explain that the situation was not what they were imagining, and that it had happened unexpectedly. Chitoge became extremely irritated and criticized Raku harshly for being careless with someone he had only recently reconnected with. Marika stated that it was already obvious that she was the one who suited Raku the most. Chitoge responded by calling Marika a shameless girl who was trying to steal someone else's boyfriend, but Marika confidently claimed that she was far sweeter compared to someone as rough as Chitoge. The two of them continued to argue, each insisting that she was the most suitable person to stand by Raku's side. They even brought the question to Onodera, who looked startled and unsure how to respond. Marika then asked how Raku appeared from Onodera's own perspective, adding that it seemed like Onodera had once made a promise to marry him as well. Onodera was reminded of the photo of Chitoge that Raku had bought before. She admitted that she had once shared such a promise, but for her, Raku was now someone she considered a close friend. Hearing that answer, Marika invited Onodera to become her friend, but Chitoge immediately objected, saying that Onodera was already her close friend. Raku felt slightly disappointed because he was seen as nothing more than a good friend. Onodera had indeed met Raku in the past, and he might have been her first love, but she understood that at the time, Raku likely had feelings for Chitoge. Chitoge found it strange, especially since Raku did not remember anything about Marika at all. Suddenly, Marika began speaking in the same refined manner she had used before, which surprised both Onodera and Chitoge. The next day, Marika approached Raku at his desk and urged him to meet her father so they could decide on an engagement date. Chitoge was clearly irritated by this. Raku pointed out that he had not even decided who his fiancé would be, but Marika confidently said that their engagement would not be cancelled. She also tried to act overly affectionate toward him, but Raku explained that he was still too young to even think about marriage. Chitoge wondered how Marika could say such things so casually in front of someone who was supposed to be Raku's girlfriend. Marika instead thanked Chitoge for taking such good care of her future husband. From Chidoge's point of view, since Raku did not even know about the engagement, it could not be considered valid. Marika explained that in the past, engagements were often decided by an agreement between parents, and if Chidoge wanted to object, the only way was to speak directly to Marika's father. Later that afternoon, while taking care of the plants, Chidoge asked Raku what he planned to do. Raku admitted that he did not know, especially since Marika was pressuring him so strongly and he found it hard to refuse her. Chidoge criticized him for being too soft and indecisive. She firmly stated that if Raku went to Marika's house, he would likely come back with an officially decided wedding date. Raku, on the other hand, was confused by Chidoge's behavior, which had seemed strange lately. Chidoge admitted that she was worried about what might happen if members of the Beehive group found out about the engagement, and Raku could not even imagine how Claude might react. The following day, Raku walked with Marika to meet her father. He remembered Chidoge's advice, hoping that Marika's father might be willing to cancel the engagement. They arrived at a tall building, and Marika explained that the upper floors were her family's residence. Before entering, Raku asked what her father was like. Marika described him as a very kind man who always worried about her, and she was confident that Raku would like him. They took the elevator to the top floor, and the moment Raku saw Marika's father, he was shocked. Her father had an intimidating presence, even more frightening than someone from an organized crime background. Marika quickly introduced Raku to him, while Raku nervously greeted Marika's father, stumbling over his words. Her father was surprised to see that Raku, the son of Issei, had grown up and looked so much like his father. He invited Raku to sit down and started a conversation, asking about Issei while pointing out a scar on his own face. Raku commented on the scar and asked whether it had been obtained during an assignment. Marika's father revealed that the scar had actually been caused by Issei. He even admitted that seeing Raku, who resembled Issei so closely, stirred up old emotions. He acknowledged the strength of both sides, despite being on opposing paths, and they shared drinks together. Even so, Marika's father admitted that his long-standing wish had been to see Issei brought to justice. Raku concluded that Marika's father was far more intimidating than anyone he had ever met, making it impossible for him to gather the courage to cancel the engagement. Marika's father believed that Raku must have noticed how deeply Marika cared for him. Marika then mentioned that Raku had forgotten about her entirely. Hearing this made her father visibly upset, frightening Raku even more. He realized that this was the reason Raku had never known about the engagement in the first place. Marika's father was irritated that Issei had allowed such an important promise to be forgotten. He then questioned whether Raku might be interested in another girl. Raku tried to avoid answering, but Marika openly revealed that Raku already had a girlfriend. This news made her father furious, but Marika insisted that it was not Raku's fault. She also stated that she was not bothered by it and had already resolved to win Raku over fairly, believing that only by doing so would she be worthy of marrying him. Marika's father asked whether Raku was truly that close to Marika. Overwhelmed by fear, Raku could not tell the full truth. He chose to say that he and Marika would maintain a respectful and careful relationship. However, Marika brought up their past closeness in a way that made her father even angrier, leaving Raku completely terrified. Marika then excused herself to prepare tea, while Raku was left alone, feeling deeply anxious and unsure of how he could possibly explain himself to Marika's father. Marika's father explained that Marika used to be a good girl, but back then she constantly bragged about Raku and often lied about small, trivial things. He also mentioned that Marika still kept some old scrap items that Raku had brought to the hospital long ago. Raku never expected that Marika would still be holding on to those things. Raku then admitted to Marika's father that there was someone he liked, and that person was not Marika. It was not that Raku disliked Marika, but he had already fallen for that girl a long time ago. He sincerely apologized to Marika's father for being honest about his feelings. Hearing this, Marika's father felt relieved that Raku was finally able to speak openly with him. He told Raku not to dwell too much on the matter. Marika's father then asked whether that girl was Raku's girlfriend at the time. Raku was unable to admit it, and Marika's father began to suspect that Raku might be unintentionally confusing people's feelings. Raku tried to explain that the situation was far too complicated. Marika's father did not seem concerned about the details and believed that a promise was still a promise, so he expected Raku to do his best to make the stubborn Marika happy. Some time later, Raku hurried back home, where Marika asked about his earlier conversation with her father. Raku felt that Marika's father was actually kind and truly cared about Marika, even though he came across as intimidating. Marika was pleased to hear that Raku got along well with her father, especially since she believed that her father would one day become Raku's father-in-law. Raku was shocked by that idea and also deeply impressed by how far Marika was willing to go. In Marika's view, the only way to win someone's love was to take the initiative first. She expressed herself openly and tried to become the kind of girl she thought Raku would like. She was even willing to change herself completely for Raku and follow everything he asked of her. Raku told Marika that she was already sweet just the way she was. He praised her for being amazing, since not everyone could do what she did. To him, Marika looked equally charming whether she had long hair or short hair, and whether it was the way she spoke in the past or the way she spoke now. Hearing this, Marika's face turned red and she became extremely embarrassed. She tried to avoid him and asked Raku not to look at her. Raku could not understand why Marika suddenly acted so differently. Marika then hid herself, and Raku assumed that she was simply feeling shy around him. Marika denied that assumption and asked Raku not to come any closer. Marika later complained to her father that Raku had made her uncomfortable. After hearing this, her father confronted Raku and expressed his displeasure. Raku insisted that he had done nothing wrong. Meanwhile, Shidoge was still lying alone in the sun, looking gloomy, while Claude watched over her with deep concern. One summer day, Onodera was spending time with Ruri. Ruri could not understand why there had still been no progress in the relationship between Raku and Onodera. She felt that Onodera was being too passive. All this time, Ruri had been trying to create opportunities for Onodera, so she suggested that Onodera should simply invite Raku to go out together. Feeling shy, Onodera said that Raku had actually promised to stop by her house the next day. Ruri was completely shocked when she heard that. Earlier, on the last day of school before the summer vacation, Onodera had met Raku and asked whether he had any plans for the upcoming weekend. Raku initially thought that Onodera was asking him out, but it turned out that she was inviting him to work a part-time job with her instead. One of the employees at her family's business was unable to come in, and Onodera's mother was looking for someone who was good at cooking. Onodera did not know anyone else who could cook well besides Raku. Raku was genuinely happy to receive that offer. Raku never expected that he would be able to see Onodera during the summer vacation. He had never worked a part-time job before, but he wanted to show his abilities in front of her. He soon arrived at the traditional Japanese sweets shop owned by Onodera's family. As soon as he opened the door, he saw Onodera's mother speaking angrily on the phone. Raku felt intimidated by the atmosphere, especially when she sharply questioned why a student had come to her shop. Not long after that, Onodera arrived and calmed her mother down, explaining that the boy was her friend and that he would be working there part-time. Raku was captivated by the sight of Onodera wearing the shop's employee uniform, which made her look especially sweet. Onodera's mother was surprised to learn that the person Onodera claimed was good at cooking was actually her classmate. She doubted Raku's abilities, believing that the kitchen was a serious place meant for skilled professionals, and that it was unlikely for a high school student to be truly proficient at cooking. Onodera explained that Raku cooked large meals for his family every day. Wanting to see proof, her mother asked Raku to make something for her. She implied that his skills would be judged by the taste of what he made. Raku had studied Japanese sweets before, but he had never practiced making them directly. He looked very nervous, but when he glanced at Onodera, she kept encouraging him and believed that he could do it. Raku immediately got to work. Onodera's mother watched as he carefully cleaned the water splashes from the bowl. She realized that Raku was probably not very familiar with making Japanese sweets, but she could tell that he was accustomed to cooking in general. Before long, Raku successfully completed a Japanese sweet. When Onodera's mother tasted it, she was very pleased and suddenly expressed strong approval of Raku, even suggesting that he would make a good future partner for her daughter. Raku was completely taken aback by that reaction. Onodera's mother smiled and remarked that Onodera had brought home a dependable young man. She felt that Raku had excellent skills and the potential to help manage the family business in the future. She accepted Raku as a part-time worker at the shop and asked Onodera to teach him how to make simple sweets. She decided to watch over the shop while they worked together. She also wondered why Onodera's face had turned red whenever she was near Raku, and she teased her for taking advantage of the opportunity to introduce him to her mother. Onodera felt extremely embarrassed by the teasing. Although she was flustered, Raku commented that Onodera's mother was an impressive person. Onodera asked Raku not to worry too much about her mother's remarks, and then she began explaining how to make the sweets. Onodera explained each step carefully on how to make delicious Japanese sweets. Raku continued stirring the mixture and was surprised that Onodera remembered every single step. He asked whether she often made sweets. Onodera denied it, saying that she never helped with cooking because she was not good at it. Since childhood, She had simply enjoyed watching the process. She once had the chance to make sweets herself, but the people who ate them ended up feeling unwell, and the shop had to close for 3 days afterward. Raku never imagined that Onodera had such an extreme story from her childhood. Onodera added that there was one thing she was praised for, which was the finishing touch. She was especially skilled at decorating sweets and making them look more beautiful. Raku praised the appearance of the sweets that Onodera shaped. At that moment, Raku had just finished preparing the mixture. Onodera suggested that Raku focus on adjusting the flavor while she handled the appearance. That way, they could create delicious Japanese sweets together. To Raku, her words sounded almost like a proposal meant for the future they might share. Just then, Onodera's mother mentioned that she needed to step out for a short while and reminded them to take good care of the shop while she was gone. Raku felt as if a powerful tremor had struck his heart, making him want to stay right where he was and imagine building a happy family someday. Not long after that thought crossed his mind, a customer arrived at the shop. The elderly man looked genuinely delighted to see Onodera taking care of the store. The customer was Yoshino, a man who had been a regular at Onodera's family candy shop for a very long time. Onodera prepared Yoshino's usual order, just like she always did. As usual, Yoshino lightly teased her by suggesting they spend time together sometime, but Onodera simply responded with a warm smile. Raku felt uncomfortable with Yoshino's behavior, so he stepped in, gently pulled Yoshino away from the counter, and handed him his change. After that, Yoshino left the shop without any trouble. Raku never expected that even an elderly customer could behave in such a playful way. Onodera smiled and calmly explained that some customers were just like that. She then asked whether Raku was still dating Chitoge. Raku almost denied it out of reflex, but he quickly caught himself and admitted that he was still in a relationship with her. Suddenly, Onodera revealed that she had actually known the truth about Raku and Chitoge's relationship for a long time. Raku was shocked and immediately wondered how she could have known. It turned out that Chitoge had told her everything a long time ago, and Onodera had assumed that Raku already knew she was aware of it. Raku could not understand why Chitoge had never told him about that. Onodera then realized why Raku had continued pretending to be Chitoge's boyfriend whenever he was alone with her. However, she still did not understand why Raku had been hiding Chitoge's photo, and she did not yet have the courage to ask him about it. Meanwhile, Raku began to wonder whether this meant he might finally be able to confess his feelings to Onodera. His heart started pounding intensely, but he knew that confessing was not something he could do so casually. He would need the right moment. Outside, the wind was blowing fiercely, and even the weather forecast had warned of a storm that day. Soon after, heavy rain began pouring down, and Raku started worrying about Onodera's mother. Not long after that, Onodera's mother called and explained that she could not make it home because the storm was too strong. She asked Onodera to take care of the shop and also suggested that Raku stay over for the night. Raku was completely caught off guard by that suggestion and reacted with extreme surprise. He never imagined he would be allowed to stay at Onodera's house. He asked whether anyone else was home. Onodera explained that her father was away on business and could not return, while her younger sister was living in a dormitory. That was when Raku learned for the first time that Onodera had a younger sister. After thinking it over, Raku felt that staying over might not be necessary. He borrowed an umbrella and decided to head home, but the storm had grown far too dangerous. Realizing the situation was unsafe, he returned inside, feeling confused about how things had turned out this way. Raku wondered what Onodera might be feeling at that moment. She might have been nervous as well. Her face turned red, and she could not stop smiling. Her heart was beating faster than it had earlier when they were working together. Onodera tried to act normal and asked what they should do about dinner. Unexpectedly, Raku pointed out that she had been smiling non-stop. Onodera brushed it off by saying that she had just remembered a funny TV show. Still, she could not fully hide her reaction, and Raku became convinced that she was feeling nervous. Trying not to panic, Onodera suggested that they talk in her room. Raku was startled by the suggestion, and even Onodera herself seemed surprised that she had said something so bold. Raku asked whether she was really sure about letting him into her room. Looking flustered, Onodera said she needed to tidy it up first. She quickly rushed to her room to clean it as fast as she could. After that, she changed her clothes and came back out, making sure to hide the photo of Raku that had been sitting on her desk. Not long after that, Onodera's voice was heard inviting Raku to come in. Raku felt a little nervous because this was the first time he had ever entered a girl's bedroom. As soon as he opened the door, Onodera greeted him warmly. Raku took in the sight of Onodera's room, which felt cute, neat, and pleasantly scented. Onodera soon went downstairs to prepare some tea. While waiting, Raku looked around the room, from the bed to the study desk, that Onodera usually used. His thoughts briefly wandered to the idea that this was the space where Onodera spent her private daily routines, and he immediately shook his head, lightly scolding himself for letting his imagination go in an inappropriate direction. He then noticed a photo placed on Onodera's desk and guessed that it might be a picture of a boy she admired. Curious, he slowly leaned closer to take a look, but just as he did, Onodera returned with the drinks. Raku quickly stepped away from the desk. Onodera served the tea and invited Raku to chat with her. However, as time passed, neither of them managed to say a single word. The silence made the atmosphere awkward. Suddenly, Onodera suggested playing a word chain game. Raku declined because he felt that they had not actually run out of things to talk about. According to Onodera, the situation itself was making them nervous, even though they normally talked to each other without any trouble. Raku did not want to confuse Onodera any further, and he felt that, as a guy, he should take the initiative. He asked whether Onodera still had their middle school yearbook, thinking it might become a good conversation starter. Onodera immediately brought out the middle school photo album, and the two of them began reminiscing about their time back then. Even though it had only been about half a year since they graduated from middle school, they genuinely missed those days. Onodera showed a photo of herself with Ruri from a first-year class game competition, explaining that it was when she first became friends with Ruri. Raku and Onodera talked about how they had been in the same class since second year, but only really started talking during their third year. Raku looked closely at the photos of Onodera from middle school and thought she looked incredibly sweet. Every photo of her felt charming to him, and he found himself easily spotting her in each picture. Raku then wondered why there were no photos of himself in the album. Onodera showed him several pictures where he appeared, and even though he looked younger and smaller in some of them, she had no trouble finding him. Onodera mentioned that Raku stood out and was quite popular during middle school. Raku denied it, and said that Onodera was actually the popular one. Onodera also added that Raku was a genuinely kind person. Suddenly, Onodera mentioned that she knew there had been a girl who liked Raku back in middle school. Raku was surprised and became curious about who that girl was. Onodera only smiled and kept it a secret. Raku wondered why she would not tell him and tried to persuade her, saying that he probably would not even meet that girl again. Onodera explained that she could not reveal it unless the girl herself allowed her to. Onodera then asked how long Raku had known Shu. Raku explained that he and Shu had been close ever since they were in kindergarten. Onodera was surprised to learn that their friendship went back that far. Raku looked at Onodera and realized how enjoyable it was to talk with her. He found himself wishing that they could keep talking like that forever. Onodera suddenly looked outside through the window and noticed that the rain had stopped. Raku felt disappointed that the storm was over because he still wanted to stay in Onodera's room. Even so, he decided to excuse himself, thinking it would not be appropriate for a guy to stay alone in a girl's house for too long. Deep down, Raku wished he could stay over and even hoped that Onodera might ask him to remain, but instead, she agreed that it was better for him to go home since the rain had ended. Raku felt regretful, but he had no other choice. Onodera walked Raku to the front of the house. Raku said his goodbyes and hurried off. He did not know when they would meet again, especially since it was summer vacation. After taking a few steps, Raku stopped and pointed out that they did not have each other's email addresses yet. Onodera smiled and suggested that they exchange them. Raku felt genuinely happy, and after they shared their email addresses, Onodera's face turned red. She had not expected Raku to ask for her email. That day made her truly happy, even though she had no idea when they would see each other again. Later, Onodera typed a message admitting that the girl who liked Raku during middle school was herself, but she deleted it because she was not ready to say it yet. After that, Raku finally left, his face looking bright and cheerful. He could not believe that after 2 years of friendship, he had finally gotten Onodera's email address. Raku immediately sent her a message, and Onodera replied right away, wishing him good night. Raku was surprised to see her quick response and realized that he was not the only one feeling excited. Meanwhile, Onodera got ready for bed, feeling sure that Ruri would praise her when she found out that Onodera had exchanged email addresses with Raku. That night was the night of the summer festival. A huge crowd gathered to enjoy the full lineup of festival events, and countless food stalls filled the area. At that time, Raku was busy cooking food to be distributed to Yakuza members at another stall. Raku truly was a kind-hearted guy. He did this so they would let him off for the night, since he had an important mission to carry out. That mission was to obtain a super-ultra matchmaking item, a love charm. According to rumors, the charm was incredibly effective at keeping romantic relationships strong and lasting. Because of that reputation, it was extremely popular and usually sold out right away. While walking through the festival, Raku suddenly ran into Chitoge. Chitoge mentioned that she only wanted to enjoy the festival, yet she wondered why she had to run into Raku there. Raku explained that he was helping out at his family's stall. Not long after that, one of the Yakuza members came over and asked Raku to deliver some beer. When he saw Raku together with Chitoge, he became deeply moved that Raku was still willing to help the stall, even though he was spending the festival night with her. He told Raku that there was no need to help anymore, since bringing a girlfriend to a festival was considered one of the 3 biggest dreams for a man. He hoped that Raku and Chitoge would enjoy the festival and have a great time together. Chitoge felt annoyed that she had to walk around with Raku, even though she had been excited to explore the summer festival on her own. She then asked Raku to treat her to some takoyaki. Raku took her to his family's takoyaki stall and requested the food directly, so he did not have to spend any money. He confidently guaranteed that the takoyaki tasted great. Chitoge was surprised to learn that so many people lived at Raku's place. Raku explained that the Yakuza members were running many of the festival stalls. Chitoge wondered if that meant she could eat as much as she wanted, and she even suggested going on a date with Raku so she could enjoy free food. Raku did not expect Chitoge to be that focused on material benefits. From Chitoge's point of view, Raku felt like a walking free pass during the festival. Raku found it strange, especially since Chitoge was the daughter of a very wealthy family yet acted like that. Chitoge ran off cheerfully toward the food stall she wanted to visit. At that moment, Raku felt as if he sensed Onodera's presence nearby. Onodera was wearing traditional clothing, but she was hiding because she still did not have the courage to show herself in front of Raku. She wondered if buying a love charm might be able to change her destiny. Suddenly, Marika noticed Onodera and called out to her. Marika asked whether Onodera had also come to buy a love charm, but Onodera denied it. Marika then spotted Raku walking together with Chitoge. She felt irritated seeing them, especially since Raku had turned her down the day before when she invited him to watch the festival together. Marika suggested bothering them, but Onodera stopped her. At that time, Chitoge looked extremely happy as she looked around at the various stalls. Raku often stayed close to Chitoge because from the beginning, they had been asked to pretend to be a couple. Raku felt that their relationship was very strange. Chitoge overheard some girls praising her sweetness, and her face even turned red from embarrassment. However, some boys were disappointed that Chitoge was dating someone they saw as weak like Raku. They assumed that Raku was just playing with her feelings. Raku felt very annoyed hearing those comments, while Chitoge laughed it off. Raku realized that anyone watching them would naturally assume they were a real couple. Before long, Chitoge also heard people wondering why she was not wearing a yukata. She became curious about whether a yukata would look good on her. According to Raku, a yukata always looked good depending on who wore it. Meanwhile, Marika and Onodera continued observing Raku and Chitoge from a distance. Marika thought they looked very happy together. Chitoge invited Raku to play a goldfish scooping game. She almost managed to catch a fish, but it fell back into the water because the paper net was extremely thin and easily torn when wet. Raku suggested that Chitoge stop playing, especially since she probably did not know how to take care of fish anyway. He then used the torn net himself and quickly caught many fish. Chitoge admitted that Raku was impressive. Raku explained that he had practiced that kind of thing often at home and confidently claimed that he was unbeatable at festival games. The fish stall belonged to one of the Yakuza members, and because Raku kept winning, the owner had prepared an unusually large fish. Even so, Raku managed to catch that big fish as well. Chitoge once again acknowledged how amazing Raku was. Raku only gave her 2 small fish, believing she would not be able to take care of more than that. Chitoge smiled and thanked him. At that moment, Mariko was about to cut open the plastic bag holding Chitoge's fish, but Onodera stopped her. Chitoge noticed a crowd gathering at one of the stalls and wondered what was happening. It turned out that it was time for the sale of the love charms. Marika got ready to buy one and asked Shinobu to help clear a path in front of her. Seeing that, Onodera admitted to herself that Mariko was impressive, especially in how straightforward she was about her feelings for the person she liked, and that realization made Onodera feel a little jealous. Onodera then encouraged herself to do whatever it took to obtain a love charm. Raku wanted to buy a love charm and asked Chitoge to wait nearby. Chitoge worried that they might get separated, so she held Raku's hand and stayed close to him. Raku felt confused about why he suddenly became nervous while holding Chitoge's hand. They kept pushing their way through the crowded area. Even though Raku had come to buy a love charm because he liked Onodera, he ended up going to buy it together with Chitoge instead. Raku reminded Chitoge not to let go of his hand. He kept trying, and in the end, he managed to get the charm. Chitoge then urged them to head back right away, but suddenly her hand slipped out of Raku's grasp. Raku looked around for her, and not long after that, he saw a hand reaching out. He thought it was Chitoge's hand, but when he grabbed it, he realized it was Onodera's hand instead. They stared at each other in surprise, and Raku could not believe that Chitoge had somehow turned into Onodera. At the same time, Chitoge managed to get out of the crowd and felt confused as she searched for Raku. Onodera wondered what Raku was doing there, and Raku asked her the same thing. Onodera noticed the love charm in Raku's hand and realized that he had come to buy it. Raku then wondered if Onodera had also come to buy a love charm. Onodera denied it and explained that she had simply been swept along by the crowd by accident. Raku quickly let go of Onodera's hand, clearly feeling nervous. Onodera thought back to how Raku had been with Chitoge earlier. Raku explained that Chitoge had indeed been with him, but they had suddenly gotten separated, and he began to worry about whether Chitoge was okay on her own. Chitoge kept calling out Raku's name, feeling irritated because Raku himself had asked her not to let go of his hand, yet they still ended up separated. She noticed that many of the girls at the festival were wearing yukata. Meanwhile, Raku suggested that he and Onodera move out of the crowd so it would be easier to look for Chitoge. Raku found it strange that after buying a love charm, he somehow ended up alone with Onodera. He even wondered if it might be the charm's influence. He felt guilty toward Chitoge, yet at the same time, he felt happy to be with Onodera. Moments later, he questioned why he felt guilty at all, since Chitoge technically had nothing to do with it. Onodera also felt happy, even though she had not bought a love charm, because she was able to spend time alone with Raku, and she wished that moment could last longer. Suddenly, Raku bumped into someone, causing his love charm to fall to the ground. Onodera picked it up for him, but at that moment, the strap of her sandal snapped. Raku immediately lifted Onodera and carried her so she would not fall. Onodera could hardly believe what Raku was doing, and her face turned red as she became extremely flustered. Raku checked to make sure that Onodera was okay. She nodded and apologized, thinking that she must be heavy. Raku brushed it off and said it was not a problem. Onodera could not believe that her wish had come true, and although she felt happy, she was also very embarrassed. Raku then fixed Onodera's sandal, and afterward, he decided to look for Chitoge again. Onodera searched for Raku's love charm, which had been there just moments earlier, and realized that it had been taken by a cat. Raku immediately ran after the cat at full speed. The cat dashed away and stopped near Marika. Marika looked annoyed because she had failed to get a love charm after they had sold out. Suddenly, Raku called out to Marika. She smiled brightly as she greeted him. Raku asked Marika not to move. Marika's face lit up, thinking that Raku had chosen her over Chitoge. Raku reached toward Marika and told her again not to move. Marika's face turned red as she misunderstood his intention and thought he was about to kiss her. Raku moved even closer, and Marika closed her eyes, but instead of what she expected, Raku tried to grab the cat. The cat quickly slipped away and ran off, with Raku continuing the chase. Marika was left completely confused about what had just happened. Meanwhile, Shukumi looked gloomy at the festival. She felt frustrated because she had failed to get a love charm even though she had waited in line. She played a shooting game, but unfortunately, she missed her target. Shukumi became irritated with the toy rifle, thinking that if she had been using a real one, she would have hit the target without a problem. Suddenly, the cat that had stolen Raku's love charm crashed into her, causing the charm to fall to the ground. The cat immediately ran away. Not long after that, Raku arrived and asked whether Shukumi had seen a striped cat. Shukumi pointed in the direction where the cat had just run. Raku thanked Shukumi and then quickly hit the target in the shooting game. He gave the prize to Shukumi as a token of his gratitude. After that, Raku went back to chasing after the cat once again. Shu was at the festival with his two friends when not long after, a cat carrying a love charm suddenly jumped onto him and dropped the charm right on his head. Shu was startled as he realized what had landed on him and stared at the love charm in surprise. As he looked around, his eyes caught sight of a girl wearing a yukata who appeared attractive. He tried to tease her, only to discover that the girl was actually Ruri. The moment Ruri recognized Shu's irritating expression, she immediately reacted and pushed him away in annoyance. The love charm was sent flying into the air and landed near someone else. Raku continued searching for his missing love charm. While he was still looking around, Chitoge suddenly called out to him and handed the charm back. Raku was instantly captivated by the sight of Chitoge wearing a yukata. Chitoge reminded him to take good care of the charm. Raku asked when she had changed her outfit, and Chitoge explained that she had asked Claude to bring the yukata to her. Raku found it strange that Chitoge had suddenly changed her appearance. Chitoge said that she simply wanted to try wearing a yukata at the festival. It was Chidoge's first time wearing one, and she felt that the obi around her waist was too tight, making it difficult for her to walk comfortably. She wondered why so many people enjoyed wearing yukata in the first place, and was unsure whether it suited her or not. Feeling a bit shy, Raku told her that she looked great in it. Hearing that made Chidoge think that she might want to wear a yukata again next year. After walking for a while, Chidoge noticed a sign explaining the meaning behind the love charm. She learned that in the past, when a man gave a love charm to a woman, it symbolized a marriage proposal. Chidoge laughed, convinced that Raku would never find someone to give such a charm to. Raku, still confused about why Chidoge had suddenly worn a yukata, began thinking that it felt strange for a guy to be the one holding onto a love charm, since items like that were usually kept by girls. He then handed the charm to Chidoge. Chidoge was clearly surprised when she received it, and Raku did not understand her reaction. Chidoge wondered why Raku had chosen her to receive the charm, while Raku noticed that she seemed unusually flustered and that her face had turned red. Chidoge asked if Raku truly meant what he was doing. Raku replied that he was serious about giving her the charm. This made Chidoge even more nervous, as she started to wonder if this meant Raku was proposing to her and if he had feelings for her. Meanwhile, Raku simply thought that maybe Chidoge really wanted the charm. Chidoge asked since when Raku had started looking at her that way, and Raku answered that he had intended to give it to her from the start. Chidoge assumed that Raku had fallen in love with her and immediately proposed, leaving her unsure how to handle something so sudden. At that moment, the obi on Chidoge's yukata loosened slightly. Raku moved to help her, but Chidoge became extremely embarrassed and asked him to step back. She explained that she was not dressed properly underneath because she had misunderstood how yukata were usually worn. Chidoge assumed that Raku might be imagining inappropriate things, but Raku quickly denied it. He then carefully helped fix the obi. Chidoge asked whether Raku had truly thought through why he gave her the charm. Raku did not understand what she meant at first, but when he noticed the sign explaining the meaning of the love charm, he finally realized the misunderstanding. He was so shocked that he almost caused Chidoge's yukata to come loose again. Raku immediately explained that he had no idea about the charm's meaning and that he had no strange intentions when giving it to her. Meanwhile, Onodera, Marika, and Shukumi were spending time together. Onodera wished she could spend more time with Chidoge. Marika was still confused about why Raku had acted so harshly toward her earlier, and Shukumi happily enjoyed the snacks Raku had won for her during the shooting game. That day, Raku went to the beach with his friends. Raku praised Shu for managing to find a place to stay close to the shoreline. It turned out that Shu was able to get the accommodation at a low price because someone he knew had canceled their vacation plans. Shu wanted to spend their summer break at the beach since their holiday was almost over. Ruri suspected that Shu's real motivation was simply to enjoy watching girls in swimsuits. Onodera felt happy that everyone could go on vacation together. It was Chidoge's first time visiting a beach in Japan, while the last beach she had visited was in North Carolina. Marika mentioned that the last beach she went to was in the Maldives. Raku felt confused by the way Chidoge and Marika talked, as it sounded like both of them were celebrities. Chidoge was extremely excited and could not wait to enjoy the beach. Chidoge and Ruri immediately ran toward the water. The girls showed off their cute swimsuits and looked genuinely happy as they enjoyed their beach vacation. Shu commented on Shukumi, noting that it was unusual for her to wear something so eye-catching. Shukumi explained that she originally wanted to wear her own swimsuit, but Chidoge had chosen one for her instead, which made her feel very embarrassed. According to Chidoge, the swimsuit suited Shukumi perfectly for the beach. Shukumi felt shy about her appearance and tried to cover herself, while Chidoge insisted that Shukumi should feel confident about herself. Marika then playfully teased Shukumi by comparing their looks, making Shukumi flustered by the attention. Chidoge and Marika continued joking around, which made Shukumi feel overwhelmed and ticklish from all the teasing. Shu seemed to enjoy watching the scene, while Raku thought that they had forgotten there were boys around. Raku then noticed that Shu had been busy using his binoculars for quite some time. It turned out that Shu was openly staring at the girls around the beach, paying far too much attention to their appearances. Ruri did not hesitate to hit Shu with her stick to stop his behavior. Shortly after that, Marika called Raku and asked him to apply sunscreen for her so her skin would not get sunburned. Raku wondered why he had to do it, and why she did not ask Shinobu instead. Marika explained that Shinobu had suddenly developed an allergy to sunscreen. Chidoge became irritated because Marika kept teasing her boyfriend. Chidoge even offered to apply the sunscreen herself. Marika accepted Chidoge's offer, but confidently claimed that Chidoge would not be able to do it, as well as Raku. Marika then stood very close to Raku and continued asking him for help. Chitoge became furious upon seeing this and ended up hitting Raku out of frustration. Chitoge walked toward her belongings, still annoyed after seeing Raku blush so much. When she opened her suitcase, she found the love charm that Raku had once given her. Chitoge felt confused by Raku's actions, since he did not even understand the meaning of a love charm but still wanted to buy one. She felt foolish because of it. Chitoge did not know what she would do if giving a love charm truly meant a marriage proposal. She laughed to herself and thought that it was impossible anyway, since their relationship was just pretend. She wondered why she had not given Raku an answer back when he handed her the charm. Later, Shu decided who would be responsible for buying ingredients for the barbecue that evening by drawing lots. Raku and Chitoge ended up being chosen. Marika looked clearly unhappy with the result. Chitoge questioned why she had to be paired with Raku again. Raku and Chitoge walked together while carrying the groceries. Chitoge realized that ever since she first came to Japan, she had always been by Raku's side because they were pretending to be a couple. Raku asked Chitoge to help with the preparations, and she said she could handle it. Raku peeled the potatoes and asked Chitoge to cut them into bite-sized pieces. As they worked, their hands accidentally touched while reaching for the potatoes. Chitoge immediately scolded Raku, accusing him of touching her on purpose, while Raku insisted that it was actually her hand that touched his. Chitoge continued blaming him, and Raku chose to give in. The same thing happened again, causing Chitoge to panic and scream. She did not understand why she felt so nervous just from holding hands with Raku, even though they often held hands like a real couple during their fake relationship. Accidentally, Chitoge's finger was cut by the knife. Raku asked to see it so he could put a bandage on the wound, but Chitoge simply put her finger in her mouth and said it was nothing serious. Raku gently took her hand and checked the injury himself, knowing that Chitoge would not want a scar left behind. Raku treated her wound carefully, and Chitoge's face turned bright red. She could not say anything and simply let Raku take care of her. That evening, Raku and his friends enjoyed a barbecue together. Shu praised Raku's cooking, saying it was very different from a typical barbecue. Raku explained that the key was choosing the right ingredients and properly preparing the seasoning. Marika complimented Raku's skills, while Onodera noticed that Chitoge had gone unusually quiet. That night, Onodera approached Raku, who was sitting alone by the edge of the beach. She wondered if something had happened between Raku and Chitoge, since she had noticed that Chitoge seemed unusually low on energy. Raku himself did not really understand what might be wrong. He then asked where everyone else was. Onodera explained that the ones who lost the money game had to clean up, and Chitoge was with them, helping tidy things up. Onodera honestly did not expect to feel so nostalgic. Back when they were in middle school, she had also gone to the beach with Raku. Raku remembered that, even back then, they hardly talked to each other. He asked whether Onodera still could not swim and whether going to the beach was actually fun for her. Onodera replied that the fun part of being at the beach was building sandcastles. She then asked whether Raku was having fun. Raku admitted that he wished he could stay and play a little longer. The two of them quietly gazed at the beautiful ocean. Onodera felt incredibly calm while talking with Raku. She truly liked the atmosphere they shared and wished she could spend more time alone with him. Deep down, she wanted that moment to last forever. Meanwhile, after Chitoge and the others finished cleaning up the supplies, Shu suggested heading back to the inn. He asked where Raku and Onodera were. Chitoge immediately ran off to look for them. From a distance, she spotted the two of them and called out in their direction. At that moment, Onodera had been nervously asking Raku whether it would be okay if they could become a little closer in that quiet moment together. Hearing this, Chitoge froze in shock and stopped in her tracks. Onodera herself was startled by what she had just said. She panicked, realizing that she had accidentally voiced the thought that crossed her mind without thinking it through. She could not believe she had been so careless and worried that Raku might find her strange or feel uncomfortable around her. Onodera grew anxious when Raku did not respond at all. Unexpectedly, it turned out that Raku had dozed off, likely because he had struggled to sleep the night before. He then asked if Onodera had said something to him. Onodera quickly brushed it off and said that she wanted to rejoin everyone else. All of a sudden, she ran away from Raku, leaving him completely confused. From afar, Chitoge was still trying to process what she thought she had heard earlier. She had not heard it clearly and convinced herself that Onodera had probably been talking about kimchi, not anything serious. Shortly after that, Raku asked Chitoge what she was doing there. Feeling extremely embarrassed, Chitoge immediately left the area. The next day, while Chitoge was lying in the sun, she reflected on how things had become awkward between her and Raku since that night. Just a few days earlier, they had been talking like usual. Around the same time, Ruri asked Onodera why she had not come back with Raku the previous night. Onodera could not bring herself to answer that question. Instead, she asked what was going on with Chitoge, since Chitoge looked unwell to her. Onodera even offered to listen if Chitoge wanted to talk and gently asked whether she had fought with Raku. Chitoge replied that she and Raku were used to arguing almost every day. She then shared a story about a friend who, whenever she got close to someone, felt her heart race and her chest tighten, making it hard for her to speak. Chitoge admitted that she had been feeling that way lately but did not understand why. Onodera guessed that the person Chitoge was talking about might be Shukumi. She suggested that it sounded like that person might be in love. Hearing this, Chitoge was taken aback. Her face turned red as she thought about the idea of love. She realized that it did make some sense, but she tried her best to push the thought away. Suddenly, Onodera laughed softly to herself, wondering if 10 years ago, they might have talked about similar things. Chitoge's father had once mentioned that Chitoge, Onodera, and Raku used to play together often. As Onodera slowly began to recall those shared memories, she felt a sense of longing every time she talked with Chitoge. Chitoge felt the same way. Out of the blue, Chitoge mentioned that next time she would bring kimchi for Onodera. Onodera looked confused when she heard that, unsure why Chitoge suddenly brought it up. Chitoge smiled happily after chatting with Onodera, while the rest of their friends were busy playing together. Chitoge found herself thinking about love. She wondered why Raku kept appearing in her thoughts, and she questioned whether having these feelings toward him meant that she was actually falling in love. Her face turned red as she tried to push those thoughts away. Even so, she could not understand why her heart always beat so fast whenever she was near Raku. That night, Shu invited everyone to light fireworks to celebrate the end of their summer vacation. Suddenly, Shukumi mentioned that she could not find Chitoge. Onodera was about to look for her, but Raku offered to do it himself. Raku followed footprints in the sand, and before long, he spotted Chitoge sitting alone, looking downcast while playing with fireworks. Chitoge did not want to be near Raku because she felt nervous all the time. If things continued like this, she felt she might not be able to keep pretending to be in a relationship with him. She tried to calm herself down and waited for the fireworks to burn out. All of a sudden, Raku showed up and asked why she was there. Chitoge was startled and said that she was just bored, but Raku did not immediately believe her because he knew she was not the kind of person who would wander off for no reason. Chitoge felt confused by how familiar Raku acted toward her, but Raku explained that he knew a lot about her because they spent so much time together, both at school and outside of it. Chitoge reflexively hit Raku lightly, leaving him confused about why she suddenly seemed offended. Raku then asked if something was bothering her. Chitoge said that it was nothing important, especially since they were only pretending to date, so there was no need for them to be that close. She also mentioned that she knew Raku disliked her. Raku was surprised by this sudden topic and explained that he did not hate her anymore, unlike when they first met. He then asked whether Chitoge still hated him. Chitoge admitted that she truly did hate him, but Raku did not feel pressured by that answer. Chitoge then wondered aloud whether things would go smoothly if they were really dating. Raku was confused about why she would ask something like that. Chitoge insisted that he answer her question. Raku felt that something was clearly wrong, since Chitoge was acting unlike her usual self, and that made him uneasy. Even though the person he liked was Onodera, he noticed that he felt nervous standing in front of Chitoge. He also found her expression strange and assumed she might be joking. Raku explained that it would never work if they actually dated, because Chitoge was not his ideal type. He thought she was rough around the edges, lacked manners, and was not sweet at all. He also believed they would argue every single day. Raku suggested that Chitoge should try to be more mature and feminine. Without realizing it, Chitoge snapped at him, then quickly apologized and walked away. From that incident until the end of summer, Raku and Chitoge did not speak to each other at all. When the new semester began, Raku still could not understand why Chitoge had been ignoring him since that day. He could not figure out why she had suddenly gotten angry with him, and just thinking about it irritated him. Onodera looked at Raku, and felt that he seemed gloomy, guessing that he might still be fighting with Chitoge. Raku could not guess what Chitoge was thinking, and his mind kept returning to what she had said to him at the beach. He wondered why she had suddenly apologized back then, since that was not like her at all. Before long, Chitoge arrived in the classroom and quietly took her seat. Raku asked why she was ignoring him. Chitoge apologized and said that she had been dealing with a lot of personal issues. Raku did not understand why she had become so distant and asked why she had suddenly been upset with him. Chitoge said that she was not angry and told him not to make a big deal out of it because class was about to start. Raku was left feeling confused by her behavior. Day after day, Chitoge remained cold toward him, and acted as if their previous issue had never happened. One day, Shu gathered everyone to discuss preparations for the school cultural festival. As a member of the festival committee, Shu explained that their class would be putting on a stage play for the event. The play they would perform was Romeo and Juliet. Shu immediately chose Raku and Chitoge for the lead roles, and the class agreed, but Chitoge stated that she would not participate in the play.